Chapter 838. Master, you're too kind. I'm indebted to you. If you didn't take me in and let me do odd jobs in Green Rock Sect, I would have starved to death on the streets. Now that I've repaid your kindness, it's only right that I do so. Jing Xinxiang said sincerely. Brother Xiang. Long time no see. Xiaoqun listened for a while and confirmed that the two people were Jing Xinxiang and his master. He greeted them enthusiastically and walked forward. However, Xiaoqun was puzzled after listening to the conversation between the master and disciple. Why didn't the smiling Maitreya return to Joyful Clan? Instead, he came to Green Rock Sect to find trouble with Jing Xinxiang? Although the two of them had some conflicts before, there was no need for him to seek revenge, right? In fact, although Xiaoqun had already driven one round on the highway, he could only take a detour because of the mountain obstruction. The smiling Maitreya and his group directly passed through the small roads to Green Rock Mountain. That was why they arrived earlier. Who's there? Jing Xinxiang was shocked when he heard someone speak. He quickly stood up and looked around vigilantly. Seeing Xiaoqun walk toward him, although Jing Xinxiang felt that the voice was familiar, he still asked curiously, "Who are you? How do you know my name? Are you also from Joyful Clan?" I'm Chang Xiao. Didn't we attend the Lunar New Year auction together a few days ago? However, I was wearing a mask at that time and I used a fake name. My real name is Xiaoqun. Xiaoqun walked closer, smiled, and explained the situation at that time. Oh, it's young Master Chang. Young swordsman Xiaoqun. Although I didn't manage to buy the 1,000-year purple snow lotus at the auction, I still have to thank you for your enthusiastic help. Jing Xinxiang finally understood and quickly thanked him. You're welcome. Xiaoqun waved his hand and glanced at Gu Chongyi. As expected, he looked emaciated as if he was injured. Jing Xinxiang touched his nose and asked in surprise, Young swordsman Xiaoqun, I heard that you've become the demon sect master of the outer martial arts world. Is that true? What brings you to our Green Rock Sect today? Since Green Rock Sect was rejected by both the righteous sects and the evil cult, and there were only two people in the sect, Jing Xinxiang and Gu Chongyi, Jing Xinxiang's information network had always been lagging behind. He did not know that Xiaoqun had become the public enemy of all the outer martial arts sects, and even the inner martial arts world was eyeing Xiaoqun covetously. It's a long story. Simply put, I received a new mission and happened to pass by Greenstone Mountain, so I came to visit you. Moreover, didn't I promise you back then that I would treat your master? Xiaoqun shrugged his shoulders and explained in a downplayed manner. I've really troubled you too much, young swordsman Xiaoqun. But the environment today. Jing Xinxiang was very grateful, but he sighed heavily. Back then, Jing Xinxiang thought that Xiaoqun was just saying it casually. He didn't expect him to really come. However, now that his sect was occupied by the Joyful Clan, he couldn't entertain him. This made Jing Xinxiang feel very ashamed. Xinxiang, who is this young master? Gu Chongyi had been sizing up Xiaoqun for a while, but he couldn't see through his strength. He was a little surprised and asked, Master, he is the young swordsman that I mentioned to you previously, the one who was willing to lend me money to buy medicine. Jing Xinxiang just remembered that he had forgotten to introduce him and quickly explained to Gu Chongyi. Oh, so it's young swordsman Xiao. Nice to meet you. My disciple is slow-witted. If it wasn't for your help, I'm afraid he would have been extorted by the horse gang. I really have to thank you for this matter. Gu Chongyi nodded in realization, and his attitude towards Xiaoqun was also much more polite. Senior, you're overpraising me. It's nothing. Xiaoqun waved his hand indifferently, but he was thinking about something else. Oh yes, I accidentally heard your conversation just now. You seem to have encountered some trouble? I wonder if there's anything this junior can help with? It's all because of those scum from the Joyful Clan. My disciple was careless in his behavior at the auction previously and offended the smiling Maitreya. I reckon he's here to seek revenge. Now, not only did he chase both of us out of the clan, but he also snatched the money that Xinxiang gave me to buy medicine. If it wasn't for me. Speaking up to this point, Gu Chongyi stopped and shook his head. Obviously, he was very annoyed with his injuries. Oh, then let's go up and take a look. I was just looking for this fool. I didn't expect him to come here to show off his existence. It just so happens that I'm short of money recently. Let him give me some. Upon hearing that, Xiaoqun heard that this fellow didn't hurry back to the Joyful Clan and was still showing off outside. Was he looking down on him? Then he could beat him up again. Young swordsman Xiaoqun, that smiling Maitreya didn't come alone. His senior brother, old Taoist Yanlong, is also here. There's also a large group of Joyful Clan disciples. If we go over just like that, I'm afraid it'll be hard for us to get any benefits. Zheng Xinxiang was shocked. Since when did Xiao Chen become so powerful? He couldn't help but feel a little doubtful. He felt that with Xiao Chen's strength, he shouldn't be able to fend off so many people. After all, rumor had it that when he became the Demon Clan Sect Master, he was only a 6th-level demon general. How could he fend off so many people? Oh, it's alright. I just killed the most powerful senior brother among them. The remaining people aren't that powerful. Xiao Chen waved his hand and didn't say much. He directly walked in the direction of the Green Rock sect. Zheng Xinxiang and Gu Chongyi looked at each other. Both of them could see the surprise in each other's eyes. However, Zheng Xinxiang immediately recalled that Xiao Chen was the Demon Clan Sect Master. He could really control the people from the Joyful Clan. He thought that Xiao Chen wanted to use his prestige as the Sect Master to suppress them. Hence, he followed behind Xiao Chen and slowly walked up the mountain. When they arrived at the Green Rock sect, Zheng Xinxiang hurriedly pointed at the largest room in the middle, indicating that the smiling Mithriya was inside. Xiao Chen nodded in understanding and swaggered in directly after pushing the door open. Zheng Xinxiang did not dare to follow them in. He supported Gu Chongyi and walked to the side to wait. It was better for him not to participate in the internal matters of the demon cult. If he accidentally got involved, he would be done for. Who is so daring? Don't you knock on the door before coming in? Don't you know I'm resting? Get out of here. Smiling Mithriya was healing with his eyes closed. When he heard the sound of the door opening, he did not even bother to open his eyes and shouted impatiently. On the other side, the old Taoist Yanlong was sleeping. After hearing the sound, he did not pay attention to it. He directly turned over and continued to sleep. Oh, so we have to knock on the door? I'm sorry, I really don't know. I'll just follow the rules. A sneer appeared at the corner of Xiao Chen's mouth. He walked to the smiling Mithriya in a few steps, raised his hand and knocked him hard on the head a few times. Dong dong dong. A few muffled sounds came from the house. It sounded like the sound of a monk knocking on a wooden fish. Ouch! Under Xiao Chen's crazy knocking, the head of the smiling Mithriya directly swelled up a few big bumps. He covered his head and howled miserably. He fell to the ground and kept rolling. He only felt that his head was extremely painful, as if it was about to split open. I say, Sliced Mithriya, I think you can change your name to Sliced Buddha in the future. I also helped you upgrade, right? Why don't you quickly set up 8 or 10 tables to thank me? Xiao Chen looked at the smiling Mithriya on the ground and said lightly. Looking at the smiling Mithriya on the ground with big bumps on his head, at first glance, he really looked like a Buddha. Xiao Chen. It's you? Why are you here? On the other side, Taoist Yanlong was roused by the miserable shriek. He sat up in dissatisfaction and was about to grumble. But when he saw Xiao Chen standing in the room with his arms crossed, he couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Looking at the smiling Mithriya rolling around on the ground with his head in his hands, cold sweat suddenly appeared on old Taoist Yanlong's forehead. He secretly cursed his bad luck. He thought that they had finally managed to get rid of him, but he did not expect to meet this jinx again. Oh, you forgot to take the Flying Star legendary sword just now. I'm sorry. How can the people of Joyful Clan lack cheap? Wouldn't it be bad if this spread out? So I sent the cheap to you. Look at how good my after-sales service is. Xiao Chen did not even look at old Taoist Yanlong and said expressionlessly. The smiling Mithriya operated his heart sutra and suppressed the pain on his head with great difficulty. He staggered and climbed up. When he heard Xiao Chen's words, he was so angry that he almost fell down again. He could only clench his teeth and said, So it's like this. Thank you, Hero Xiao Chen. And you're welcome. Please call me Hero White Fox. Xiao Chen nodded and took out the Flying Star legendary sword and threw it in front of the smiling Mithriya. Then, he did not retract his hand but stretched it straight in front of the smiling Mithriya. What else do you want? The smiling Mithriya did not know what was going on. He looked at Xiao Chen's action in a daze and asked with a confused face. What the F***CK? Have you become stupid after being knocked? I have to knock for you again, right? Don't you need to pay for after-sales service and delivery? In order to find you, I have wasted a lot of gas money. Don't you know that my time is precious? Have you heard of an inch of time is an inch of gold? Xiao Chen suddenly said angrily. I still need to pay for this? The smiling Mithriya was stunned. He whispered a few words in his mouth, but when he saw Xiao Chen staring at him coldly, he had to nod reluctantly. Okay, then how much do you want? I don't have too much. Let me calculate for you. Xiao Qin counted on his fingers and listed them one by one. Gas, running errands, and my man-hour fees. There's also the after-sale service fees. Since you're already an old customer, I'll give you a steep discount. Give me 500 million. What? You want so much money? I don't have it. I went out in a hurry in the morning. I didn't bring money with me. The smiling Maitreya's face shrank. He felt bitter in his heart. The Xiao Qin is too much. He wants 500 million in one go. Why not just rob? *CK your grandpa. You just robbed 200 million. Don't think that I don't know. Hurry up, take it out. Xiao Qin saw that the smiling Maitreya was not being honest. He raised his hand and knocked him hard. The pain made him wail again. Chapter 839. Don't call. I'll pay, okay? Smiling Maitreya covered his head with one hand in pain. He quickly took out his bank card with the other hand and handed it over. There are 200 million in it. Take it. That's more like it. Xiao Qin took the bank card and said impatiently, don't pretend to be a dead dog. There are still 500 million left. When will you give it to me? I don't have much patience. What? Isn't it 300 million? Why is it still 500 million? You must have calculated wrongly. Smiling Maitreya was dumbfounded and asked in surprise. Oh, I'm not good at calculation. Now it's 500 million. Do you think it's wrong? If you let me calculate it again, it might be 800 million. Are you sure you want me to calculate it again? Xiao Qin shook his legs and asked faintly. There's no need to calculate. I'll pay. Smiling Maitreya choked and said helplessly. This Xiao Qin was a hothead. Trying to reason with him was asking for trouble. Wait. I seem to have calculated wrongly. Xiao Qin suddenly waved his hand and touched his chin as if he was thinking. Smiling Maitreya's eyes lit up. He was a little happy in his heart. Could it be that Xiao Qin found his conscience and only wanted to take 500 million? Xiao Qin thought for a while and said slowly, you see, you drove the people of the Greenstone sect out and let them sleep on the streets. You are here to enjoy yourself. Shouldn't you give some money as compensation? This. It's a misunderstanding. Smiling Maitreya's face collapsed and he almost cried. He only realized now that Xiao Qin was standing up for the people of the Greenstone sect. He had hit the muzzle. Xiao Qin didn't listen to smiling Maitreya's explanation at all. He said directly, let's do it this way. I won't charge you too much. 100 million for the accommodation, 100 million for the herbs you used, and 100 million for the special services. That's a total of 300 million. You'll pay me another 1 billion, right? The smiling Maitreya became even more depressed. He could not help but defend himself. Even if I stayed in this crappy place for a while and used those trashy, ordinary healing medicine, it shouldn't cost 200 million, right? And that special service, I didn't even ask for it. Why did it need another 100 million? I was just fooling around with them. Besides, this isn't 1 billion, right? Playing around? Why don't you eat a *T if it's fun to eat a *T? Xiao Qin's face sank. He glared at the smiling Maitreya and said, you still dare to play dumb? Just now, the acting sect leader of the Green Rock sect personally cooked for you. Even I don't get such treatment. How is this service not special? How is it too much to charge you 100 million? Cut the crap and take out the money. 1 billion isn't right. Do you need me to calculate it for you? This? Alright, then give me some time. I'll make a call to transfer the money. The smiling Maitreya took out his phone with a sullen expression. While he was bowing his head, he secretly winked at the old Taoist Yanlong, indicating for him to sneak an attack on Xiao Qin. After half a day of healing, the old Taoist Yanlong had basically recovered. Receiving the look from the smiling Maitreya, he nodded slightly and stood up without batting an eyelid. He slowly approached Xiao Qin's back. Oh, then go ahead and fight. Since we have nothing to do now, why don't I demonstrate this magical weapon to you again? Xiao Qin looked as if he did not feel anything. Instead, he was in a good mood. He waved his fingers and shouted, Flying Star Sword, unsheath. The Flying Star Sword moved. With a swoosh, it automatically broke free from its sheath and slashed twice in the air. The old Taoist Yanlong had gradually approached Xiao Qin. Just as he was about to make his move, he heard Xiao Qin shout, Go! Then the Flying Star Sword flew in his direction. An extremely light sound was heard. Before the old Taoist Yanlong could understand what was going on, the Flying Star Sword had already pierced into his forehead. The old Taoist Yanlong's eyes suddenly turned over. He directly fell to the ground dead. Oh! Why is there someone standing behind me? Xiao Qin turned his head, his expression extremely surprised. The old Taoist Long did not utter a word. He had already lost his life. Even if he wanted to cry out for injustice, there was no place to cry out. Look at this mess. Xiao Qin turned around and said to the smiling Maitreya with an apologetic face, I was thinking of showing you the function of the flying star sword. Otherwise, if you don't believe me, I can't let you spend your 500 million in vain, can I? So I wanted to make sure that there is no problem with the sword. This unlucky guy, why did he choose to stand behind me? Wasn't he lying on the side just now? In fact, how powerful was Xiao Qian's divine sense? As soon as the old Taoist Long moved, he had immediately noticed it. Therefore, he controlled the flying sword to attack immediately and directly stabbed the old Taoist Long to death. The smiling Maitreya had long been scared stiff. What the hell was going on? Did Xiao Qian really not know, or did he do it deliberately? Could it really be an accident? However, whether it was an accident or not, he did not dare to act rashly again. He could only honestly transfer 500 million to Xiao Qian and another 500 million to Zheng Xinxiang. Looking at the money flowing away, the smiling Maitreya's heart was bleeding. The hero Xiao Qian, the money has been transferred. Can I go now? After the transfer, the smiling Maitreya asked cautiously. He prayed in his heart that this evil god would quickly drive him away. Otherwise, he did not know if he would lose a lot of money. Well, I received it. You are welcome to spend again next time. Xiao Qian received the text message of the transfer. Seeing that the smiling Maitreya was anxious to escape, he grabbed his shoulder and said with a smile, Wait. What's the hurry? I'm a little hungry. You go and make me a bowl of knife-shaved noodles. I want a big bowl. What? I still want to eat knife-shaved noodles? I don't know how to do it. The smiling Maitreya said with a bitter face. He was going crazy. He thought that it would be over after giving the money. He did not expect Xiao Qian to fantasize and ask him to make knife-shaved noodles. What is he doing? You don't know how to do it? Do you dare to lie to me? Are you trying to trick me into not learning Chinese well? Let me tell you, this young master is a straight A student in school. Everything I say or do is awesome. If you don't know knife-shaved noodles, how can you call yourself a knife-shaved Maitreya? Hurry up and do it. Xiao Qian slammed the table and glared. Okay. The smiling Maitreya nodded helplessly. He secretly complained in his heart. How can you be a top student and a top student? Do you know how to count? Besides, isn't knife-shaved noodles the nickname you gave me? It's obvious that you are scamming me. However, the smiling Maitreya only dared to think about it in his heart. He absolutely did not dare to say it out. Come, Brother Xiang, Senior Gu, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Sit down and have a drink. Xiao Qian greeted them enthusiastically and turned to the smiling Maitreya. By the way, knife-shaved noodles are your disciples' idol? Ask them to be waiters. Hurry up. Oh. The smiling Maitreya was preparing to knife-shaved noodles. Hearing this, he had to respond gloomily. He went to wake up the joyous clan disciples with a black face. After waking up the disciples, the smiling Maitreya went to the kitchen. He wanted to take the opportunity to escape, but after thinking for a while, he remembered that the flying star sword was still inserted in the head of the old Taoist Long. If Xiao Qian chased him with the flying sword, he would definitely not be able to escape. However, he could not stay. He did not know how to make knife-shaved noodles at all. If he did not do it well and provoked Xiao Qian, then his life would probably end here. Xiao Qian was simply a devil who killed without batting an eyelid. In just half a day's time, his two senior brothers had fallen into his hands. He remembered that he and his senior brother had chased him into a sorry state. Now the tables had turned, and it was finally his turn to suffer. In desperation, the smiling Maitreya had to find a disciple who knew how to make noodles and send him to cook knife-shaved noodles. He hid in a corner and secretly called the head of the joyous clan to report the current situation to him. After all, his senior brother and the old Taoist Long had died in the hands of Xiao Qian. He had to inform the head of such a big matter. The head of the joyous clan was speechless after hearing it. He was extremely shocked by Xiao Qian's strength. For a moment, he could not think of a suitable way to deal with him. He could only instruct the smiling Maitreya to act according to the circumstances. It would be best to find a chance to withdraw and then consider other things. Great hero Xiao Qian, it's all thanks to your help today. I'll remember this kindness. If you need my help in the future, just let me know as soon as possible. Our Green Rock sect will definitely go through fire and water for you without hesitation. After settling his master on the bed, Jing Xinxiang cupped his hands at Xiao Qin gratefully. He did not expect Xiao Qin to be so powerful. With just a casual move, the problem was solved and he had regained the territory of the Green Rock sect. It's nothing. It's just a small effort. Xiao Qin waved his hand and said with a smile, "Just call me Xiao Qin. I'm not a hero. With our friendship, you don't have to be so polite." Jing Xinxiang smiled honestly and nodded heavily. He was not good at speaking, so he could only remember this gratitude in his heart. Xiao Qin smiled slightly and handed the bank card to Jing Xinxiang. "Brother Xiang, you keep this money? Buy some tonics for Senior Gu and renovate the Green Rock sect. This should be enough." "How can I do that? I'll just take back my 200 million. As for the 500 million that was transferred later, it's yours. You've already done me a big favor. How can I ask for your money again?" Jing Xinxiang quickly waved his hand and refused. He still understood this etiquette. After all, he had already asked for the money for him. How could he accept another share? Even if Xiao Qin took away the 200 million, he would not have the slightest complaint. "You are treating me like an outsider. Moreover, I came to the Green Rock sect this time mainly to help Senior Gu treat his illness. Dealing with the smiling Maitreya is just a matter of convenience, so you should accept this money." Xiao Qin did not care about Jing Xinxiang's refusal and directly stuffed the card into his hand. Well then, thank you Xiao Qin, thank you." Jing Xinxiang glanced at Gu Chongyi and found that he nodded slightly at him. He did not say anything more. He thanked him and accepted the card. Chapter 840. It's all thanks to Xiao Qin today that the Greenstone sect's territory wasn't taken away by thieves. At this moment, Gu Chongyi spoke up. He first thanked Xiao Qin before saying, "As for my illness, thank you very much for your concern, little friend Xiao Qin. I have been suffering from a chronic illness for many years. During this period I have visited many medical experts. Unfortunately, none of them could do anything about it. I'm afraid you've made a wasted trip." Gu Chongyi wasn't looking down on Xiao Qin's medical skills. It was just that he'd been hopeful and disappointed for the past few years. He was already disheartened. "Hee Senior Gu, you're worrying too much." Xiao Qin didn't want to brag about his medical skills. He walked directly to Gu Chongyi, sat down and said, "Let me take your pulse first." "Okay, then I'll have to trouble Hero Xiao Qin." Gu Chongyi nodded and slowly stretched out his hand. "Senior, just call me Xiao Qin. Hero or whatever, it's just a fleeting cloud." Xiao Qin laughed at himself. As soon as his finger touched the vein on Gu Chongyi's wrist, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. "What's there to take? He's like this because he's carelessly cultivating his mental cultivation method, causing many of the meridians in his body to stagnate. I really don't understand. What's this kid thinking? He's cultivating the righteous mental cultivation method well, but he insists on cultivating the demonic mental cultivation method. He's lucky that he didn't go berserk." Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice was full of contempt. "Elder Heaven Ancestor, don't make sarcastic remarks. How are you going to treat his illness?" Xiao Qin asked calmly in his mind. Gu Chongyi looked so old that he could be his grandfather, but Elder Heaven Ancestor still called him a kid. If Gu Chongyi heard this, he would probably die of anger. "This is just a small problem. It's not hard to cure. I'll tell you the prescription so you can memorize it." The Elder Heaven Ancestor didn't beat around the bush and directly listed out a bunch of medicine names. Xiao Qin nodded slightly and pretended to finish feeling the pulse. He retracted his hand and pondered for a while. Then he asked Jing Xinxiang to bring him a pen and paper and directly copied down the prescription that the Elder Heaven Ancestor said. After writing it, Xiao Qin checked it again and after confirming that there were no mistakes, he handed the prescription to Jing Xinxiang. "Brother Xiang, this is for you. Senior Gu's chronic illness was caused by the stagnation of his meridians. As long as you decoct the medicine according to the prescription and take it while it's hot, I believe that Senior Gu will be able to recover very soon." "Ah, just that simple?" Jing Xinxiang looked down at the prescription and found that the herbs on it were very common. There were no natural treasures added. He blurted out in disbelief. If these medicines could be used to treat illnesses, then what was the point of desperately saving money to buy a 1,000-year-old purple snow lotus? Gu Chongyi also saw the prescription, but he didn't say anything. He thought that Xiao Qin shouldn't be joking. Although the herbs written in the prescription weren't precious, he didn't have any enmity with him. He even helped Jing Xinxiang, so there was no need for him to make a fake prescription to fool him. However, Gu Chongyi didn't have much hope that this prescription could cure his illness. He had taken many medicines over the years, both good and bad, but none of them could treat his illness. "Yes, it's that simple. Take it once to treat the symptoms, take it twice to treat the root cause. Believe me, there's no mistake. Xiaoqin smiled and patted Jing Xinxiang's shoulder. Okay, I believe you, Hero Xiaoqin. It just so happens that we have these herbs in reserve in the warehouse. I'll go and brew the medicine now. Jing Xinxiang saw that his master didn't stop him, so he nodded and ran out with the prescription. Not long after Jing Xinxiang went out, the smiling Mithria brought in a few disciples with knife-shaved noodles. He even personally served a bowl of it to Xiaoqin and Gu Chongyi and placed it on the table respectfully. Then he stood by the side and waited for his orders. Knife-shaved Mithria, I didn't expect your skills to be so good. If you can't survive in the Joyful clan in the future, set up a noodle stall on the morning market street in Songning City. When the time comes, you'll work with me. I'll sell youtiao and you'll sell knife-shaved noodles. The money will be mine. Xiaoqin ate a few mouthfuls of knife-shaved noodles and said without lifting his head. Sure. Thank you, Hero Xiaoqin, for your appreciation. I wonder if Hero Xiaoqin has any other instructions? The smiling Mithria rubbed his hands and smiled, flattering him like a servant. Oh, that's it for now. Do you want to continue staying here? Or do you want to return home? If you want to continue staying in the Greenstone sect, that's fine too. We can discuss the accommodation fee. I'll get Brother Xiang to give you a discount. Xiaoqin crossed his legs and looked at the smiling Mithria from head to toe with a mocking face. Oh, thank you, Hero Xiaoqin, for your kindness. It's getting late and I should return to the Joyful clan. I won't disturb Hero Xiaoqin and the rest of the Greenstone sect any longer. Goodbye. The smiling Mithria smiled apologetically, but in his heart, he was scolding Xiaoqin. Staying here for a night costs 100 million. Do you really think I'm a sucker? When I wake up tomorrow morning, you'll ask me to make breakfast or something. Then won't I really become your servant? Wait. Seeing that the smiling Mithria was about to leave, Xiaoqin suddenly stopped him. The smiling Mithria stopped, feeling anxious. This Jinx wouldn't come up with some tricks again, right? Xiaoqin waved his hand and pulled out the flying star sword from the head of the old Taoist Yanlong with a whoosh. Then he directly put it in the hands of the smiling Mithria. Remember to take this sword with you. If you have any problems, remember to look for me at any time. I'll definitely help you with the after-sales service. Oh, and the old Taoist Yanlong, you can take him with you. Yes. The smiling Mithria nodded hurriedly. When the flying star sword flew towards him just now, he thought that Xiaoqin was going to kill him directly. He was almost scared to the point of peeing. Looking at the shocking bloodstains on the sword, the smiling Mithria's eyelids twitched violently. The flesh on his face trembled twice. He quickly ordered his disciples to carry the old Taoist Yanlong, and the group of people quickly left the Greenstone sect. When Xiaoqin had just finished eating the knife-shaved noodles, Jing Xinxiang had already boiled the medicine and brought it over. After Gu Chongyi took the medicine, he immediately felt that several stagnant meridians in his body showed signs of loosening. He was immediately surprised and delighted. He quickly sat cross-legged and began to digest the medicine. After adjusting his breath, Gu Chongyi found that his strength, which had almost dried up, had begun to gradually recover. His face became more and more ruddy, and his whole spirit and appearance were refreshed. Feeling this, Gu Chongyi believed that after taking another dose of medicine, he would be able to recover completely. Seeing that his master really had an effect after drinking the medicine prescribed by Xiaoqin, Jing Xinxiang was even more grateful to Xiaoqin. Not only did he thank him repeatedly, but he also insisted that Xiaoqin stay in the Greenstone sect for one night. Xiaoqin saw that it was already very late, so he did not refuse. It just so happened that he did not want to travel at night, so he simply stayed for the night. At this time, at the foot of Greenstone Mountain, in addition to Xiaoqin's Jetta, there was another Lamborghini Batmobile that was still running and parked not far away. Shi Yuchuan and Linger were sitting in the car, feeling very puzzled. They followed Xiaoqin's Jetta to Greenstone Mountain and watched him go up the mountain. They thought that he would come down in a while, but they did not expect that after Xiaoqin went up the mountain he did not come back for a long time. The two of them discussed and decided to go up the mountain to see the situation. They climbed up the mountain in the dark. Just as the two of them walked near the Greenstone sect, they heard a wave of cursing. They were shocked and immediately found a place to hide. After hiding, the two of them listened carefully and found that it was the smiling Mithria and his disciple who were cursing. However, their voices were getting farther and farther away, so they should have left. Judging from their tone, it seemed that they had suffered a loss in the hands of Xiaoqin. With this, the two of them confirmed that Xiaoqin was in the Greenstone sect. They did not dare to enter and could only wait in place. Sure, Yuchuan wanted to take the opportunity to chat with Linger, but Linger kept a cold face and did not respond to him. He had no idea what she was thinking. In his depression, Sure Yuchuan took out his phone and lowered his head to play games. It was a quiet night until the next morning. Sure Yuchuan's phone was almost out of battery, but the two still did not find any trace of Xiao Chen. Linger thought about it for the whole night. Her expression was a little relaxed, as though she had finally thought it through. "Miss Linger, are you hungry? Do you want to have some breakfast? I brought some dry food and water. Why don't you fill your stomach?" Sure Yuchuan took out biscuits and mineral water from his backpack and handed them over with a fawning look. "There's no need. Find me all the information on Xiao Chen. I want to take a look." Linger shook her head and said coldly, "Ah, you finally thought it through?" Sure Yuchuan was stunned at first. Then his eyes lit up. He asked excitedly, "You're willing to roll in bed with Xiao Chen? You're willing to sacrifice your happiness to get him?" Linger furrowed her brows and glared fiercely at Sure Yuchuan. After a long time, she gritted her teeth and let out an N. If one didn't listen carefully, they wouldn't be able to hear it. Sure Yuchuan was overjoyed and immediately praised with a sincere expression. "Miss Linger is indeed of noble character and unquestionable integrity. I believe that when your master and your sect master find out, they will definitely be proud of you." Linger did not reply. Her hands were clenched into fists. Her face was a little pale and she looked ahead with empty eyes. "Since you've already decided, don't let that bastard Xiao Chen take advantage of you. Why don't you do it with me first?" Sure Yuchuan rubbed his hands wretchedly. He was drooling. "Sure." Linger still did not look at Sure Yuchuan. She looked straight ahead and said two words. "Don't be in a hurry to reject." "What?" Sure Yuchuan thought that Linger was going to scold him like before. He was halfway through his persuasion when he suddenly realized what Linger had said. He jumped 3 feet high and his face was filled with joy. Afraid that Xiao Chen would find out, Sure Yuchuan quickly squatted down again. He looked at Linger eagerly and said, "Linger, are you serious? That's great. I'll look around to see if there are any good hotels nearby. After all, this is your first time. We have to be more formal. We can't just mess around at a roadside hotel, right?" Chapter 841. At this point, Sure Yuchuan quickly picked up his phone and stopped playing games. He kept searching for information about nearby hotels. Linger still did not look at him. Instead, she looked at the entrance of Greenstone Sect and said lightly, "When the time comes, I'll tell Xiao Chen that I'm second-hand goods and that you've already played with me. Do you think he'll beat you to death when he finds out?" Sure Yuchuan's hand stopped and he subconsciously scratched his head. The Xiao Chen might really do it. Thinking back to the situation these days, those outer martial arts sects had come looking for trouble with Xiao Chen. They had played all kinds of tricks, but they were all beaten to a pulp. Whether it was the threat of force or the sect's deterrence, it had no effect on Xiao Chen at all. The Xiao Chen was so ruthless and unscrupulous. If he found out that Linger's virginity had been taken by him, he would definitely not let it go. If he were to burn his lower part in a fit of anger, then the loss would outweigh the gain. Looking at Sure Yuchuan's changing expression like a kaleidoscope, Linger's face was full of sarcasm. She despised him fiercely in her heart. "I really don't know how the Six Directions sect could cultivate such a useless person. He wants to take advantage of others, but is also overcautious and afraid of taking risks. What sect's elite, he's just a good-for-nothing." On the other hand, Xiao Chen was completely different. Although it was said that he killed without batting an eye and did not give any sect face, she had seen him almost get into a car accident in order to avoid a lamb that was crossing the highway. In the end, he even personally carried the lamb off the highway before driving away. From this, it seemed that Xiao Chen was actually a kind-hearted person. Why did she compare Xiao Chen and Sure Yuchuan again? This was really strange. Forget it. I'm still so young and I still want to live for a few more years. Thinking of the consequences, Sure Yuchuan could not help but shiver. He shook his head and suppressed the turmoil in his heart. He laughed it off and then took out Xiao Chen's information from his backpack. "It seems like you have some self-awareness." Linger looked at Sure Yuchuan coldly and collected her thoughts. She took the information from his hands and began to read it seriously. Although the information on Xiao Chen was quite detailed, there was only the part about the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. There was no mention of Xiao Chen's previous background and family background. Because in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, Xiao Chen's resume wasn't very glorious. They couldn't possibly write that he had killed Team C's team leader Yang Jianan and replaced him, right? If this was written, it would become a joke. If it was spread out, people would laugh their heads off. Therefore, the information only vaguely recorded that Xiao Qin used to cultivate in the secular world. After his promotion, he returned to the Supernatural Investigation Bureau and took over the position of deputy director. Everything was logical and there was nothing special about it. Actually, with Zheng Shiding's ability, he could only obtain this kind of superficial information. Although the Zheng family was considered a powerful and reputable family in Lan City, they were just an ordinary character in the secular world. They were unable to come into contact with the higher levels, let alone the core of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. After Linger finished reading the information, she was even more shocked. She really didn't know how this Xiao Qin cultivated. He was clearly a loose cultivator, but he was able to reach the peak of the 8th level of the Demon General in such a harsh cultivation environment in the secular world. How was this possible? He was simply a monster. One had to know that even if it was a disciple that was heavily nurtured by the inner martial arts sects, if they wanted to advance to the strength of a Demon General, they would need to spend a lot of heavenly treasures. Moreover, this disciple had to have extremely high talent, in addition to a long-term cultivation process and a chance for enlightenment. Xiao Qin was only a loose cultivator without any background, but he actually had such a profound realm at such a young age. Linger couldn't understand it no matter how she thought about it. She felt that it was very unimaginable. Miss Linger, be careful. Xiao Qin is coming out. Linger was pondering over her own thoughts when Shi Yuchuan suddenly reminded her. Linger raised her head and looked over. As expected, she saw Xiao Qin walking out from the Green Rock sect. The two of them hurriedly hid behind a large rock, praying that Xiao Qin wouldn't discover them. Xiao Qin had actually discovered that the two of them were hiding not too far away. However, he couldn't be bothered to expose them. He directly passed the large rock and walked down the mountain without looking sideways. He had rested in the Green Rock sect for a night. He had just bid farewell to Zheng Xinxiang and his master, Gu Chongyi, and was preparing to continue on his journey. After waiting for Xiao Qian's figure to disappear at the foot of the mountain, Shi Yuchuan finally let out a sigh of relief. He stood up and asked politely, "Miss Linger, you finished reading the information. Have you considered it?" "I'll go tonight." Linger was silent for a moment before saying through gritted teeth, Good. Shi Yuchuan quickly nodded. Seeing that he couldn't woo Linger, and that there was no chance of anything happening between them, he might as well shed all pretense of cordiality. He bluntly said, "A long night is fraught with dreams. I think it's better to get this done as soon as possible. Work harder tonight. No matter what means you have to use, you must get the information and the meteoric iron." "Oof, I know. Can you stop wasting my time? Are you done with your blabbering?" Linger coldly snorted and glared at him. This Shi Yuchuan really couldn't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. He simply wouldn't change. Don't be angry. Come, Miss Linger, drink some water to calm down." Shi Yuchuan smiled shyly. He then took out a bottle of mineral water from his bag, opened the cap and handed it to Linger. "Thank you." After hesitating for a moment, Linger still reached out to take it. If it was any other time, Linger would definitely reject it. But now she knew that Shi Yuchuan wanted her to hook up with Xiao Qin, so he definitely wouldn't do anything to her. Moreover, Shi Yuchuan opened the bottle in front of her, so there was no chance for him to do anything. After squatting in the cold mountain for a night, Linger was really thirsty, so she took a small sip. After drinking it, Linger didn't feel anything strange, so she was relieved. Looking at Linger drinking the water, Shi Yuchuan's mouth flashed an imperceptible sneer. He then pretended to be gentle and said, "Miss Linger, look, Xiao Qin has already driven off. Let's hurry up and catch up." Linger stood up and walked down the mountain with Shi Yuchuan. Shi Yuchuan was in a good mood. On the way down the mountain, he didn't forget to talk to Linger. "Oh yeah. Tonight is your first time. A woman's first time will inevitably be a little painful. After we get in the car, I will teach you some positions that can reduce the pain. I guarantee that you can." "Oh my God." Shi Yuchuan waved his hands and feet as he spoke. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. He didn't pay attention to the steps under his feet. As a result, he stepped on nothing and rolled down the mountain directly. "Pervert." Linger quickly ran to the foot of the mountain and kicked Shi Yuchuan fiercely. "Are you dead? If you're not dead, get up quickly. Hurry up and drive. Xiao Qin has already disappeared. Didn't you see?" "Hiss." Shi Yuchuan covered his buttocks and stood up with his teeth bared. He didn't dare to argue with Linger. He limped into the car and stepped on the accelerator to chase the back of Xiao Qian's Jetta. To Xiao Qian's surprise, no Wuling sects came to find trouble with him for the whole day. This made him greatly relieved. It seemed that these people had already given up. As for the two followers behind him, Xiaochen didn't take them to heart at all. Since they liked to eat the dust behind his butt, then let them be. Anyway, they posed no threat to him. Xiaochen thought that he could finally have a good sleep tonight. However, while driving, Xiaochen was thinking about it. These two people seem to have been guarding outside the Green Rock sect all night last night, right? Could it be, in this wilderness they took the opportunity to have a wild sex? Linger sat in the passenger seat of the Lamborghini and suddenly shivered. She was also a little inexplicable. She didn't know why. Could it be that she had caught a cold after staying on the mountain all night? In the evening, Xiaochen got off the highway and found a hotel to stay in. As soon as Xiaochen got into the elevator, Shi Yuchuan and Linger followed him in. After they used some tricks to find out Xiaochen's room number, they also got 2 rooms and stayed opposite and next to him. When he came to the room, Xiaochen first took a shower and then sat on the bed to practice for a while. Recently, he had fought with a lot of Wulin people, but he never felt the opportunity to break through. He couldn't even touch the barrier of the second level of the Golden Core stage. Xiaochen couldn't help but have some doubts in his heart. Was it because those enemies were too weak so they didn't help his practice? After practicing for a while, Xiaochen found that his progress was still slow, so he simply stopped. After all, he had been driving and fighting for the past few days, which was also very exhausting. He simply lay down and prepared to rest. It didn't take long for him to fall asleep. In the middle of the night, a petite figure pushed open the door of the room and tiptoed in. Although the person didn't make any sound, Xiaochen still woke up as soon as the other party pushed the door. However, he didn't alert the enemy. He still squinted his eyes and pretended to be asleep. But in his heart, he was thinking, how could someone dare to come to trouble me? Is there an end to this? A few days have passed. The news that those sects suffered at my hands should have spread, right? There are really people who are not afraid of death? Sensing that the person was getting closer and closer to him, Xiaochen was about to get up and make a move, but he felt that the person suddenly sat on the edge of his bed. He was a little puzzled. What kind of trick is this? Observing the figure of the person with his divine sense, Xiaochen felt that something was wrong. Huh? This person seems a little familiar. There seems to be a faint fragrance on the body. It seems to be a woman? Opening his eyes slightly, Xiaochen immediately confirmed his guess. The person was actually Ling, and at this time she had already stretched out her hand and touched his face. Chapter 842. Xiaochen was a little puzzled. This chick has been following me for a few days. Is she going to make a move now? Could it be that she doesn't put my strength in her eyes? Moreover, she usually looks like a lady from a wealthy family. I didn't expect her to have so many tricks up her sleeves. She actually knows how to sneak attack in the middle of the night. She probably learned it from Shi Yuchuan. What are you doing? Did you come to the wrong room? Seeing that Linger's fingers were about to touch his cheek, Xiaochen suddenly sat up and asked coldly. Ah. Linger was startled by the figure that suddenly sat up and the voice that came out of nowhere. She screamed in shock and hurriedly retracted her hand, wanting to retreat. In the end, she accidentally slipped off the edge of the bed and directly sat on the ground. What are you doing in the middle of the night? Are you trying to scare me to death? Xiaochen helplessly dug his buzzing ears. He didn't expect that Linger could actually shout at such a high decibel with such a petite body. He almost pierced his eardrums. I came woo-woo. Linger sat on the ground and didn't plan to get up. She mumbled a few words and covered her face to cry. Before coming, Linger had already thought about it. Isn't there a saying that men can't stand seeing women cry? So she planned to use this point to gradually make Xiaochen take the bait. If you have something to say it quickly. Why are you crying in the middle of the night? People who don't know would think that my place is haunted. If there's nothing else, you can go out. I'm going to sleep. Xiaochen looked at Linger inexplicably. He didn't know why she was crying. He simply waved his hand impatiently to dismiss her. Seeing that Xiaochen was different from a normal man. Not only did he not comfort her, but he also had a tough attitude. Linger was slightly stunned and couldn't figure out his thoughts for a while. But looking at Xiaochen's frightening gaze, Linger immediately reacted and began to cry again. Oh, I have something. Hero, please listen to me. I came here to seek protection. That Shi Yuchuan, he's trying to harm me. Oh? This guy is too much. Xiaochen sneered in his heart, but on the surface, his face was filled with righteous indignation, and he said very angrily. You think so too, right? Ling-Er was delighted. It seemed that this Xiaochen was about to take the bait. She quickly put on a pitiful look and said, Your skills are so powerful, you won't leave a weak girl like me to die, right? Oh, no problem. Isn't it just teaching a lesson to an idiot? This great hero can easily slap him to death. But if you want me to take action, you have to pay an appearance fee. At first, Xiaoqin took on everything, but then he changed the topic, grinned, and said casually. With regards to Linger's words, Xiaoqin naturally did not believe a single word. You and that idiot Shi Yuchuan have been following me for so many days. If there was something going on, it would have happened long ago, right? You still have the nerve to come here and pretend to be wronged? And your acting is too bad. I can even give you a Golden Plum Award. But on the surface, Xiaoqin did not show it. He watched Linger self-directed, and he also wanted to know what kind of game she was playing. In the past few days, Xiaoqin had seen all kinds of strange reasons for robbery. Among them, there were people who pretended to be old people to extort money, and there were people who deliberately changed lanes in front of their own cars. In short, there were all kinds of new ideas, emerging in an endless stream. All the big sects had racked their brains, insisting on finding some trouble for him, but their purpose was the same. It was for the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and the forging materials in his hands. However, this was the first time that Linger's trick of pretending to be pitiful and asking for help was really Xiaoqian's first time seeing it. Touching his chin and looking at Linger, Xiaoqin thought, she should be seducing me, right? Finally, there's something new. I wonder if I can summon the dragon god if I gather all 7 robbery reasons? Why do you still want money? Aren't heroes supposed to help the weak? If you accept money, the nature of it will change. When Linger heard Xiaoqian's words, she was a little puzzled. She even forgot to pretend to cry. Isn't this Xiaoqin a little too tacky? The first thing he says is money. You're not talking about a hero, I'm talking about a good person. A hero also needs to support his family. Speaking of this, Xiaoqin changed the topic and said with a smile, but, seeing that you're so beautiful and that hero is not unreasonable, I can give you a discount. How about this, you just give me a red packet as a token of appreciation. Xiaoqin purposely put on a lecherous look, his eyes constantly sizing up Linger. She was originally a pretty girl, and when she cried, she was like a pear blossom in the rain. She was delicate and lovely, making people want to protect her. Hero, you're really a good person. It seems that I didn't find the wrong person. With your words, I'm relieved. Linger deliberately patted her towering chest, but in her heart, her impression of Xiaoqin was very bad. I can't believe that he looks so righteous, but he's actually a guy who is greedy for beauty. The two of them rambled on about some unimportant topics. Linger kept trying to get to the main topic as soon as possible, but Xiaoqin maintained an unhurried attitude. No matter how Linger tried to seduce and tease him, he did not respond at all. It was as if this matter had nothing to do with him, and he was high and aloof. Hero, it's so hot in your room. Is the air conditioner broken? It didn't take long for Linger to feel a little hot and uneasy. She casually complained, took off her coat, and directly threw it aside. Oh, it might be. If you feel hot, I'll turn down the air conditioner. Xiaoqin said, coming. This chick is really good at pretending. This time she finally can't help but get to the main topic, right? Xiaoqin casually picked up the remote control and adjusted the temperature up and down. His eyes were staring at Linger's direction, wanting to see what tricks she was playing. I still feel hot all over, can you hug me? Linger didn't know what was wrong with her. She felt that her body was particularly hot, and she really wanted a hug to cool it down. She quickly disarmed her body and directly threw herself into Xiaoqian's arms. She hugged his waist tightly and kept panting. This isn't good, right? After all, men and women shouldn't touch each other. If this gets out, I'm afraid it will damage our reputation. Xiaoqin said so, but his hands didn't move. Looking at Linger, who took the initiative, Xiaoqin curled his lips. If you want a hug, then hug. You're not afraid of suffering, why should I be afraid? I don't care, I just want to hug you, ouch. Your clothes are really in the way, it hurts. Linger said coquettishly. Her hands exerted force and she rolled onto the bed with Xiaoqin. She began to frantically take off his clothes, and when she couldn't take them off, she directly tore them apart. Her eyes were full of burning desire. Damn, I really didn't know that you're so proactive. Looking at Linger, who was as cold as an iceberg becoming so passionate, Xiaoqin couldn't help but tease her. However, after being provoked by Linger for a while, he suddenly felt a ball of fire in his lower abdomen. Although his body had a reaction, Xiaoqin was very calm. The corner of his mouth slightly raised. You keep pretending. Continue pretending. I want to see how far you can go. You took off all my clothes to take the opportunity to steal my meteoric iron and forging materials, right? Unfortunately, you're wasting your time. I've already hidden everything properly. In the end, what Xiaochen didn't expect was that Ling actually flipped over and sat on him. Before Xiaochen could react, he heard Ling scream, "Ah, it hurts." However, it didn't take long before it was replaced by excited gasps. Xiaochen was instantly stunned. What the F***ck? This girl is actually playing for real? Isn't this a little too bold? While Xiaochen was in a daze, Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly reminded him, "Xiaochen, she was drugged. Do you really think it's an act?" Damn. Elder Heaven Ancestor, you scared me. Didn't you say that you don't take the initiative to poke your nose into other people's business? Xiaochen almost had a mental breakdown after being frightened like that. Fortunately, Elder Sky only said, "Then I won't remind you next time." After that, he didn't continue speaking and fell silent. Since he knew the truth, Xiaochen could only let Linger wriggle on top of him. He knew that this was a kind of detoxification process. If he pushed Linger away by force, there might be a problem. However, during this process, Xiaochen gradually felt that the energy in his body seemed to be expanding. That feeling was so wonderful that he could not help but immerse himself in it. He even began to unconsciously start to cooperate with Linger's movements. After a long time, both of them were shocked. It was finally over. Linger was so tired that she collapsed to the side. She kept panting. She had also regained consciousness, but at the same time she was stunned. Sob, sob, sob. How could I really do such a thing? Linger covered her face and cried. This time she was really sad. Crystal clear tears flowed down from the gaps of her fingers. Before coming to Xiaochen's room, she deliberately looked up some ways to hook up with men on the internet. Originally, she thought that as long as she showed a little cleavage or a little leg, she would be able to get Xiaochen to take the bait. She did not expect that she would inexplicably have a hard fight with him. Why are you crying again? You look like a crying bag. Didn't you take the initiative to throw yourself into my arms? Can you blame me? Xiaochen looked at Linger with a puzzled look. You took the medicine and came to sleep with me. Now that it's over, you're crying. It's like I raped you. What's going on? I had no other choice, so I did it. Who knew? Who knew that it would become real? It was my first time. Linger said while sobbing. Thinking that she had already lost her chastity, she couldn't help but feel sad. Her tears that had already stopped flowed out again. Chapter 843. Oh, I saw you hooking up with that pretty boy and thought you had already slept with him. I didn't expect that you're actually a... Xiaochen was a little surprised when he heard this. He couldn't help but rub his nose awkwardly. If he had known that Linger was still a virgin, he would have controlled himself just now. However, it seemed that he was caught off guard. What pretty boy? Are you talking about Shi Yuchuan? Why would I hook up with him? I don't like a shameless B***starred like him. Linger stopped crying and said with a look of disdain. Of course I'm not talking about Shi Yuchuan. I'm talking about the pretty boy you quarreled with in the Hakuramata desert. His name is... and something. Xiaochen shook his head and explained. Ah, you. How did you know that I quarreled with Luochen? Were you nearby at that time? Linger was stunned for a moment and tried hard to recall the situation. She didn't remember seeing Xiaochen at that time. Perhaps she wasn't paying attention. After all, she was only concerned about getting back the spiritual jade from Luochen and didn't pay much attention to her surroundings. Gosh, don't tell me you're still in the dark and don't know who I am? Xiaochen was speechless. Although he was wearing a mask at that time, Linger had been following him for so many days. Her figure and voice were the same. She could basically guess who he was with just a little bit of thought. I really don't know. Don't keep me in suspense. Tell me, who are you? Linger was instantly anxious as she looked at Xiaochen and asked urgently. I am Xiao Chong. It's just that I was wearing a mask just like you. Now my face is my real face. You're too slow. You can't even guess such an obvious question? Xiaochen was a little speechless at Linger's slow reaction and could only say this helplessly. How could it be you? Linger gasped and covered her mouth in shock. He never imagined that Xiaochen and Xiaochong were actually the same person. After figuring out Xiaochen's true colors, Linger's face flushed red again. She recalled how Xiaochen had confidently declared that she was his wife in front of Luochen. She didn't know if he still meant what he said then. If that's the case, then I won't lose too much tonight. After all, I gave my first time to Xiaochen's husband, so it's not a big deal. Why can't it be me? I'm a good man. I'm 24K Jin Chun, the handsome Xiaochen. Xiaochen cleared his throat and said righteously with his head held high and chest puffed out. Ling Er couldn't help but laugh through her tears. She was still a little shy at first, but now she also let go of it. However, she quickly retracted her smile and asked with a face full of suspicion, "I still don't quite believe you. I remember that in the Hakura Mata Desert, weren't you only a level 4 magician? How did he become so powerful now? Did you ride a rocket to level up?" "Something like that." "What's there to be surprised about? When I participate in the Demon Gates leader election, wouldn't I be a level 6 demon general? Did you forget?" Xiao Qin shrugged and said indifferently. That means we meet again." Ling Er began to count with her fingers. "According to your logic, you already have the strength of a demon king?" "Ding dong. You guessed it right. However, there's no reward. I'm now at the peak of level 2 demon king. Impressive, right? Don't you admire me?" Xiao Qin deliberately posed in a bodybuilding pose. Ling Er giggled and the tears in her eyes disappeared. She pointed at Xiao Qin and shook her head. She laughed so hard that she couldn't say anything. Xiao Qin was unmoved. He still said proudly, "You just said that you came here to seek my protection? Don't worry. It's a piece of cake for me to kill that stupid Shi Yuchuan. I'll help you get rid of him later." I don't believe it." Ling Er finally had enough laughing. She took a breath, curled her lips and looked at Xiao Qin proudly. "What demon king? You're clearly at the peak of level 8 demon general, and you're also the deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. I've investigated you. I already have all your information." Speaking of this, Ling Er couldn't help but secretly smack her lips. She felt that Xiao Chen's training method was too amazing. In just a few months, he actually rose from the strength of level 4 demon master to the peak of level 8 demon general. If it weren't for some fortuitous encounter in the middle, then Xiao Chen was definitely a genius among geniuses in training. "Oh, that's amazing." Xiao Chen echoed indifferently and asked, "So, why did you come to me? Don't tell me it's just to discuss my cultivation? Or is it just to *CK me once and then leave?" Actually, Xiao Chen naturally understood the purpose of Ling Er's visit. However, since she didn't want to say it, there was no need for him to point it out for her. What? *CK you once? Ling Er's eyes widened in disbelief. Her face was instantly filled with an aggrieved expression. She pitifully pointed at her fingers and said, just now, you were the one who insisted on doing that with me. Why are you blaming me for it? You're really unreasonable." However, just as she finished speaking, Ling Er suddenly remembered that it seemed like it was indeed her who wanted to *CK Xiao Qin. Just now, she took the initiative to jump into his arms and even took off his clothes. Although her memory after being drugged was a little fuzzy, the scene that remained in her mind was indeed her riding on Xiao Chen's body. After recalling it, Ling Er instantly felt her entire face burning up. She lowered her head in embarrassment. "Alright, let's not care about who did who first. I mean, the real reason you're looking for me is because you want the forging information and the meteoric iron on me, right?" Xiao Chen did not mind. He shrugged as if nothing had happened and exposed Ling Er's intentions in a single sentence. Ling Er's expression changed. She didn't expect Xiao Chen to be so direct. After hesitating for a moment, she nodded embarrassedly. "And yes, but when I found out that you were Xiao Chang, I didn't want to take your things anymore." "Oh, then who sent you here?" "That idiot Shi Yuchuan definitely couldn't order you around." "Could it be your master, Grandma Nanshan?" Xiao Chen asked as he rested his chin on his hand. He was indeed a little puzzled. If Grandma Nanshan had really ordered Ling Er around, then why did she want these things? "I wanted it myself." "No." Ling Er stammered for a while. Then she closed her eyes and made up her mind. Like a bamboo tube spilling beans, she spilled everything in detail. "Actually, it was the Yinyun sect that I was in and the Sixth Direction sect that Shi Yuchuan was in. They wanted to steal your meteoric iron and forging materials. However, Shi Yuchuan and I were no match for you, so the sect leader of our Yinyun sect." The reason why Ling Er told him everything without holding anything back was mainly because she felt that Xiao Chen wasn't a bad person. In the past, the two of them had met a few times, and Xiao Chen had always stood by her side and helped her. Even when Luochen had swindled her of her spiritual jades and caused Xiao Chen to have no spiritual jades to use, Xiao Chen didn't hold it against her too much. This matter made her feel very guilty. She always felt that she owed Xiao Chen a lot. Therefore, even though she had given her first time to Xiao Chen now, she didn't feel that bad anymore. Instead, she felt a little fortunate. Rather than giving her first time to some random person, she might as well give it to someone she didn't hate. "Well, then you're really unlucky." You actually became a sacrifice for the interests of your sect. Your master, Grandma Nanshan, is also quite pitiful. She was imprisoned for such a small matter. Your Yun sect is really willing to go all out. Xiaoqun finally understood the ins and outs of the matter. He couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He sympathized with Ling Er's plight. The people of the Yun sect were really quite shameless. They actually treated the women of their own sect like objects and sold them as they pleased. Were they still living in the feudal era? But then again, the disciples of the inner martial arts circle never had much autonomy. Especially beautiful women like Ling Er, they had even less control over their own fates. The power of life and death was in the hands of the sect, who asked them to rely on the resources of the sect to cultivate. Moreover, it was the same in the secular world, not to mention the inner martial arts circle. Didn't Miss Cheng, his own sister Xiao Xiao, and the goddess Shen Jingxian all fail to escape the vile customs of marriage between aristocratic families? The only difference was that in the end, some people successfully escaped the entanglement of fate, while others could only swallow the bitter fruit and sink deeper and deeper. Thinking of Miss Cheng, Xiao Chen's heart was moved. He wondered how she was doing in the Quishan sect. The scene of their parting seemed to be still fresh in his mind. In the blink of an eye, so much time had passed. Xiao Chen secretly made up his mind. He was prepared to personally go over and pull her out of the abyss of suffering if he had the chance. With his current strength, overthrowing the Quishan sect should be a piece of cake. Collecting his thoughts, Xiao Chen looked at the depressed Ling Er and sighed. How about this? I can secretly give you a copy of the forging information. However, let me make this clear to you first. This information might not be of much use. At most, it will be for you to report to the sect. Why is it useless? Are you going to give me a fake forging information? Ling Er originally didn't have much hope, but her eyes lit up again after hearing what Xiao Chen said. This forging information. How should I put it? Xiao Chen thought for a moment, then decided to speak the truth. Actually, there is a small problem with the information itself. However, you can just take it back. If the people in the sect ask, just tell them the truth. Alright, I'll listen to you. Then from now on, forget it, it's fine. Ling Er wanted to say something, but she shook her head halfway. She looked like she wanted to say something but stopped herself. Chapter 844. What's wrong? Just say what you want to say. With our current relationship, there's no need to be so formal. Xiao Chen saw Ling Er's reaction and said with a smile. Oh, we've already done it? Are you going to abandon me in the future? Ling Er said bitterly. She glanced at the bedsheet and then lowered her head. Her expression was a little self-reproachful. Ling Er knew that girls would bleed during their first time. However, she noticed just now that although she also felt a lot of pain, there was no blood on the bedsheet. What was going on? In Ling Er's opinion, Xiao Chen must have discovered this. Would he think that she was not a virgin at all, so he didn't care about this relationship at all and just walked away? In fact, Xiao Chen was quite puzzled. Although Ling Er was drugged, she was very proactive. He thought that she should be very experienced. However, when she started to do it for real, her expression seemed to be a little painful, and her subsequent actions were also very rusty. Could it be that she was pretending? That's too good of an act. Moreover, why was there such a big difference between before and after? Also, even if it was really Ling Er's first time, how could there be no blood on the bedsheet? Ahem, you're thinking too much. Feeling that the silence between the two of them was a little long, Xiao Chen broke the silence. After thinking about it, he asked, but I want to know, have you done it with that toy boy in before? In fact, he had already asked this question just now, but Ling Er was too emotional at that time, and the topic went astray. Now that there was a chance, Xiao Chen asked again. How is that possible? Ling Er immediately shook her head like a rattled drum. She said with a serious face, in the inner martial arts world, the ancient customs are still preserved. A woman must be faithful to one man until death. If I really did that with An Luochen, I would never leave him no matter what. So that's how it is. I didn't expect the people of the inner martial arts world to be so traditional. However, why were you sent to carry out this kind of mission? Xiao Chen sighed and asked in confusion. Because, actually, when I return to the inner martial arts world, I'll be cultivating alone for the rest of my life, and I won't be getting married again, so. Ling Er said with a pitiful look. She lowered her head and bit her lower lip. Oh. Xiao Chen nodded and said, I see. I believe what you said. I won't abandon you, so don't worry. After saying that, Xiao Chen gently rubbed Ling Er's head. You had a guess. It was probably because Linger had practiced martial arts since she was young that she accidentally broke it. This kind of thing was very common. Oh, really? Linger was surprised and overjoyed. She blinked her big eyes and blurted out. Then, she frowned slightly and tilted her head to ask, "Are you saying nice things on purpose to comfort me?" Of course not. Xiao Qin patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, you just have to follow me from now on. No one will dare to make things difficult for you anymore." The reason why Xiao Qin dared to believe her so firmly was not because Linger looked pitiful, but because he had lost his mind. In fact, he did not have much contact with Linger. How could he just believe a few words from her? The most important thing that allowed Xiao Qin to confirm that it was Linger's first time was that when Xiao Qin was rolling in the sheets with Linger just now, he had actually silently leveled up. He was now an expert at the peak of the second level of the Golden Core stage. He did not know if it was because of Linger's superior strength, but this time not only did Xiao Qin directly break through the barrier of the second level of the Golden Core stage, but he also broke through all the obstacles and reached the peak directly. The two small breakthroughs in the middle made Xiao Qin feel extremely carefree. Therefore, Xiao Qin could determine that it was Linger's first time without a doubt. Otherwise, he would not have received such a huge benefit. Moreover, Xiao Qin clearly remembered that after he and Xin Jingxian, Lu Shuangshuang and Yi Xiaoye, his strength also increased. The process was exactly the same as this time. Therefore, he did not ask for any details at all and was certain that Linger was not lying to him. When Linger heard what Xiao Qin said, the unhappiness on her face was swept away. Her whole face was radiant. She was really happy in her heart. Xiao Qin was really a good person. Not only was he willing to take responsibility, but he also trusted her so much and did not doubt her words. She really did not misjudge him. Then I don't want your forging materials and the meteoric iron. When I go back, I will tell them that I did not get them. Although I used a honey trap, you did not take the bait. Anyway, there is such a big difference between my strength and yours. Even if the sect leader does not believe me, he will have to believe me." Ling thought about it and said bravely. Her words were completely from the bottom of her heart. Ling felt that she seemed to like Xiao Qin a little. She suddenly did not want to help the sect and cheat him of the things in his hands. "Oh, it's okay. I will think of something for you." Xiao Qin seemed to be frowning and thinking, but in fact he asked in the divine sense space, "Elder Heaven Ancestor, have you studied this forging materials? Can I give it to her?" "Of course you can. I'm still studying it, but I haven't finished studying it yet. The current result is that the forging information can indeed be used to forge the extraterrestrial meteoric iron. But after the forging, the meteoric iron will become useless and become the same as ordinary iron." Elder Heaven Ancestor quickly replied, "Just in time, you can give this wrong research method to her." Along the way, Elder Heaven Ancestor had tried to fuse the forging method in his memory with the method of the material several times, but he still failed. He was thinking of a new way to try to fuse it again. So now that this useless forging materials was directly given to Xiao Qin by the Elder Heaven Ancestor, so that he could use it to harm other sections. However, Elder Heaven Ancestor still tampered with the forging materials before giving it to Xiao Qin, so that no matter what kind of metal it was used to forge, it would eventually become a pile of waste. After confirming that there was no mistake, he sent the information to Xiao Qin's mind. After receiving the information, Xiao Qin took out a pen and paper, scribbled it down, then gave the information to Linger and said, "When you go back, tell your sect leader the truth. Just say that Xiao Qin said that this forging materials are not very complete, so he specially sent it to the Yanjing Research Institute for further testing, but you have to get the information first." Linger nodded and said worriedly, "Yes, I will remember, but this information is copied down. I am worried that the sect leader will have doubts." "That is exactly what I wanted to tell you." Xiao Qin said with a smile, "If that is the case, then it is good. If he does not believe it, he will definitely send you to get another original copy. If he believes it, you can say that in order to continue to get the follow-up information, you need to take the initiative to come to me so that you can be with me." Linger was slightly stunned. She did not think that Xiao Qin's thoughts were so meticulous, and he could even let her come back again. It turned out that he had already considered everything. "Okay, I will listen to you." Ling was a little touched and she nodded in agreement. She hesitated for a moment, then said, "But I still have to go back first, save my master, and then bring up this matter with the sect leader." "Okay, the sky is about to brighten, you should pack up and get ready to go. Don't delay it." Xiao Qin nodded and gently pinched Linger's cheek. "That. It is still a little early, and after I go back I may not be able to come out smoothly again. Don't you want to do it again?" Linger's voice became lower and lower, and in the end, it was almost like the buzzing of a mosquito. If one did not listen carefully, they would not be able to hear it. Her cheeks were also as red as an apple, and she lowered her head in embarrassment. Although this was the first time she had tasted the forbidden fruit because of the effect of the drug, the feeling was very strong. Moreover, the other party was Xiaochen, who she started to like a little, so Linger was even more reluctant to leave. In addition, the two of them were about to leave and she did not know when they would meet again. It was inevitable that her heart would be a little sad. After thinking about it, it seemed that this was the only way to leave some memories. Ah, I did not expect that you would still be so active after the effect of the drug has worn off, but I like it. Xiaochen laughed and teased a few words. He took Linger's hand and went back to bed. While Linger was being affectionate, Shi Yuchuan stayed in the opposite room. He did not sleep for the whole night. He thought that Linger would be able to finish quickly and come out with the results of the battle, but he did not expect that there was still no movement when the sky was about to brighten. Shi Yuchuan was very anxious, but he did not dare to barge into Xiaochen's room. In desperation, he simply walked to the corridor of the hotel, sat on the sofa, and stared at the door of Xiaochen's room. After waiting bitterly for about an hour, he heard a click sound and the door finally opened. Shi Yuchuan's spirit was refreshed. He couldn't wait to run over, but he did not expect to almost bump into Xiaochen. "Hero Xiaochen, how are you? How can there be such a coincidence? We are both staying on the same floor of the same hotel. It's such an honor. It's fate. Shi Yuchuan was a little embarrassed. He poked his head out to see the situation in the room, but he was grabbed by Xiaochen. "What are you looking at with your turtle head so long? Do you want to be a giraffe? Do you need me to help you stretch your neck a little longer?" Xiaochen said coldly, "I guarantee that you will feel very good. Once you try it once, you will never want to do it a second time. Also, stay away from Linger in the future. You know that I am a ruthless person, right?" Shi Yuchuan suddenly shrank his head and cursed in his heart. "You are already so arrogant and you still want to do it a second time." At this time Linger also walked out of the room, holding the forging information that Elder Heaven Ancestor had modified. Seeing the scene in front of her, she glared at Shi Yuchuan in annoyance. Chapter 845. I know. Don't worry, Hero Xiaochen. I promise I won't have any improper thoughts about Miss Linger again. Shi Yuchuan quickly nodded and bowed, but he was also pondering in his heart. Looking at the situation now, Xiaochen is infatuated with Linger, but it makes sense. Linger is as beautiful as a fairy. Any man can't hold himself back. Seeing the information in Linger's hand, Shi Yuchuan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Anyway, now that the forging information was in his hands, he didn't care so much about the rest. Then why aren't you getting lost? Are you waiting for this young master to treat you to breakfast? Xiaochen shouted impatiently. Shi Yuchuan suddenly took 2 steps back in fear and ran in the direction of the elevator without looking back. Linger still wanted to say something to Xiaochen, but she didn't know what to say at the moment. She could only reluctantly look at Xiaochen and then left the hotel with Shi Yuchuan. After watching Linger leave, Xiaochen used his phone to send her a text message, telling her not to worry too much. It wouldn't be long before the two of them could meet again. In order to facilitate future contact, the two of them left each other's phone numbers after they were intimate just now. But before Linger could reply, Xiaochen's phone rang. Xiaochen took a look and found that it was actually Yi Xiaoya calling. He was a little surprised. This chick hasn't looked for me for a long time since she returned to the sect. "Xiao Yi, my wife, are you looking for me for dual cultivation again? But I have something to do now. I'll look for you after I finish the task." As soon as he picked up the phone, Xiaochen laughed and teased. Xiaochen, right? I didn't expect you to be so mushy." What surprised Xiaochen was that there wasn't Yi Xiaoya's coquettish voice on the other end of the phone, but a cold middle-aged man's voice. "Who are you? Why is Yi Xiaoya's phone with you? What did you do to her?" Xiaochen's tone didn't change as he asked coldly, but his heart was in turmoil. "What's going on? Did something happen to Yi Xiaoya? It doesn't matter who I am. You only need to understand one thing, and that is to send the meteoric iron and forging materials to the Devil Star sect as soon as possible. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that nothing will happen to Yi Xiaoya and her master, Qi Xiangmei." The middle-aged man sneered and said in a threatening tone, "Their lives are all on you. A person like you who values friendship and righteousness won't ignore it, right? Do I have to believe you? How do I know you're not lying? What if you're a phone thief?" Xiao Chen asked. His tone was calm, but he couldn't help but feel angry. This group of people was too outrageous. In order to obtain his forging information, he actually resorted to unscrupulous means. Now he even resorted to such despicable means as kidnapping someone close to him. Humph. You won't repent until you see the coffin. The middle-aged man snorted coldly, as if he was giving an order to someone while covering the phone. After a while, Yi Xiaoya's anxious shout came from the other end of the phone. Xiao Chen, don't come over. You're no match for him. Before she could finish speaking, Yi Xiaoya's mouth was covered by someone. The middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the phone again. How is it? Do you believe me now? Xiao Chen was silent for a while. He had heard Yi Xiaoya's voice just now, so it couldn't be fake. It seemed like the Devil Star sect had really been attacked. Alright, hurry up and send the things over. If you're late, you won't be able to see your wife. But don't worry, I won't let her die so easily. I'll definitely protect a little beauty like her that I can't help but feel pity for. The middle-aged man said in a strange tone, It's fine if you don't come. After my subordinates have fun with her, I'll slowly kill her. When that time comes, you'll be collecting her corpse. Ah. Listening to the middle-aged man's arrogant laughter, Xiao Chen clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Alright, just you wait. I'll be there soon. After quickly hanging up the phone, Xiao Chen packed his things. He couldn't be bothered to check out anymore. He threw the room card at the front desk and drove at full speed to the Devil Star sect. At this moment, the Devil Star sect was in a mess. Many disciples were lying on the ground in a mess. All of them had been frozen into ice. Their faces were ashen, and it was unknown if they were dead or alive. Yi Xiaoya and Qi Xiangmei had suffered varying degrees of injuries. The two of them were tied up and thrown to the ground. They glared at the intruders. I didn't expect that Xiao Chen to be such a devoted person. The moment he heard that something had happened to you, he immediately rushed over. How is it? Do you feel touched? The middle-aged man threw the phone on the table and looked at Yi Xiaoya with interest. He smiled evilly. Yi Xiaoya's mouth was gagged, so she couldn't speak. She turned her head away angrily, but she was a little worried. The Xiao Chen is too stupid and impulsive. The other party is a Demon King level expert. Why is he still so stubborn to come and save me? I hope he won't be too rash. It's best if he brings some helpers. However, other than being worried, Yi Xiaoya was also quite touched. She didn't expect Xiao Chen to rush over without hesitation when he heard that she was tied up. It seemed that she was quite important in his heart. Feng Qinyun, what is the meaning of this? Not only did you sneak attack the Demon Star sect, but you also dared to threaten the Demon sect master. Does your Extreme Ice sect want to be enemies with all the demon sects in the outer martial world? Qi Xiangmei didn't have her mouth gagged. She stared coldly at Feng Qinyun. She really didn't expect that Feng Qinyun, as the sect master of the Extreme Ice sect, would dare to openly rob the Demon Star sect. Moreover, Feng Qinyun, who was supposed to be a Demon General level expert, had actually become a Demon King level expert. According to the agreement between the outer martial world sects, Demon King level experts couldn't interfere with the grievances between sections. Otherwise, they would be regarded as the public enemy of the outer martial world. All sects could unite to kill that person. Actually, Qi Xiangmei's master was already half a step into the Demon King level. However, the Extreme Ice sect came too suddenly. Before Qi Xiangmei could send someone to inform her master, who was in seclusion in the back mountain, the battle was already over. Everyone was captured. Ha ha ha. Feng Qinyun laughed a few times. With a face full of disdain, he said condescendingly, What demon sect master? Xiao Chen is just a stray dog now. He has now become the target of all the big sects in the outer martial world. I heard that even the sects in the inner martial world are getting restless. They want a share of the loot. I believe your Demon Star sect has also received the news, right? I don't know what you are talking about. However, I heard that all the sects that went to find trouble with Xiao Chen suffered great losses in his hands. I believe your subordinates didn't get any advantage, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have come to our Demon Star sect to cause trouble. Qi Xiangmei smiled faintly. Not only was there no fear on her face, but it was full of sarcasm. In fact, Qi Xiangmei had also received orders from her superiors to take the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and forging materials from Xiao Chen's hands. However, she considered the actual situation of her own sect, so she used the excuse that she couldn't find Xiao Chen's traces as an excuse. Later on, the other sects in the outer martial world suffered losses in the hands of Xiao Chen. At first, the news was still well hidden. Later on, all the sects that went out came back dejectedly. None of them succeeded, so the news could not be hidden anymore. Only then did everyone know that Xiao Chen was a tough guy who was not to be trifled with. After the news spread, the people in the Demon Star sect were a little shaken. After all, Xiao Chen's strength was there. Qi Xiangmei was definitely not a match for him. Moreover, no matter what, Xiao Chen was considered a nominal disciple of the Demon Star sect. If they directly used violence and snatched something from their own sect's disciple, they would be laughed at by other sects if word got out. Therefore they did not mention it again. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. We don't need you to care about our sect's matters. You should take care of yourself first. If Xiao Chen is timid and doesn't dare to come, or if he wants to play any tricks, you and your disciple as well as the entire Demon Star sect will be buried with him. Feng Qinyun's expression was very ugly. It was obvious that Qi Xiangmei had exposed his scars, and he was very unhappy. Depressed, Feng Qinyun mocked and ridiculed a few more times. He ordered his subordinates to lock up the two of them, and he sat there alone, sulking. Feng Qinyun originally did not want to directly become enemies with the Demon Star sect. The main reason was that two of the elders in his sect had suffered losses at the hands of Xiao Chen, and he could not personally deal with Xiao Chen. After reporting the situation to the Xianin sect, they only told him to wait for news and nothing else. After waiting for a few days, Feng Qinyun still did not receive the next step. This made him very puzzled. After thinking for a long time, Feng Qinyun subconsciously thought that it should be because the higher-ups were dissatisfied with his performance, so they gave him the cold shoulder. In this way he couldn't sit still anymore. One had to know that this mission was a rare opportunity for him to become an elder of the Xianin sect. If he did not grasp this opportunity well, he was afraid that it would be difficult for him to be recognized by the higher-ups in the future. If that was really the case, then what was the point of him working so hard to raise his level to the Demon King level? He could only show off in the outer martial arts world, but he could not enter the inner martial arts world. This was not the result that Feng Qinyun wanted. Therefore, Feng Qinyun began to rack his brains, thinking of other ways to win back the trust and attention of the Xianin sect. When he heard that Xiao Chen was a disciple of the Demon Star sect, an idea suddenly appeared in his mind. Since he could not go to the secular world to look for Xiao Chen, he might as well change his method and go directly to the Demon Star sect to cause trouble. Since the Demon Star sect is your sect, do you have the nerve to not come back to help? When you come back and see that the people of the Demon Star sect are all under our control, won't you still have to obediently hand over the things? Footsteps sounded and a person walked in from outside. Feng Qinyun looked up and saw that it was Elder Liao who had just finished dealing with the Demon Star sect disciples. Chapter 846. Sect Leader, we are dealing with the Demonic Star sect in such a high-profile manner. Even if the people from the Remembrance Soul sect can't come to our rescue in time, we have already offended them. If anything happens in the future, they will definitely take revenge on us. I'm afraid we will be in trouble then. Elder Liao walked up to Feng Qinyun and said worriedly with a frown. The Remembrance Soul sect was the backer of the Demonic Star sect in the inner martial world. However, the two sects were very far from each other. Even if they received the news, it would be difficult for them to send reinforcements immediately. Elder Liao, you've been with me for so many years, can't you see what I'm trying to do? Feng Qinyun pursed his lips and said with a disappointed expression. I am slow-witted. Please enlighten me, sect leader. Elder Liao was sweating when he saw the sect leader's expression. He pondered for a long time but still could not figure out what to do. He could only ask for advice. We received instructions from the higher-ups to be the first to act. However, you and Elder Feng messed up the mission. After I reported it to the higher-ups, they didn't reply for a long time. They are obviously furious. If I don't think of a way to remedy this, I'm afraid we will all be blamed. Feng Qinyun crossed his arms. He was not looking at Elder Liao but at the gate. This is indeed my and Elder Feng's fault. However, we did not expect Xiao Chen to be so powerful. After that, none of the sects who tried to snatch the information from us succeeded. Elder Liao wiped away the sweat on his forehead. He had thought that he had managed to get away with it, but who could have thought that the sect leader would bring up the matter again? He was feeling a little uneasy. Feng Qinyun shook his head and said, It has nothing to do with us whether the other sects take action or not. I have made such a big fuss because I want the higher-ups to see our determination. Even if the Remembrance Soul sect really sends people over, I will just give them the information. This way, even if the higher-ups pursue this matter, we can use our lack of strength as an excuse. We won't have to bear too much responsibility. However, we have injured so many disciples of the demonic star sect. I'm afraid the Remembrance Soul sect will not let this go. Back then, the sects in the outer world did indeed have such a rule. They forbade demon kings from interfering in the conflicts between sections. What? Elder Liao wanted to continue, but Feng Qinyun cut him off with a wave of his hand. That rule is a thing of the past. Who would follow it now? Feng Qinyun knocked on the table and said impatiently. It was true that Elder Liao handled matters well, but he was too timid. Elder Liao hesitated for a while, but he didn't say anything. However, his expression was still a little uneasy. Feng Qinyun glanced at him and casually said, "Moreover, if we return empty-handed, will the Xianyin sect let us off easily? At that time, not to mention me, even you and Elder Feng will not be able to escape responsibility." Elder Liao's heart skipped a beat. He immediately understood why Feng Qinyun was doing this. Since there was no turning back, he could only grit his teeth and bear with it. The news that the demonic star sect was attacked by the extreme ice sect spread quickly. When the other sects in the outer world heard about the situation, they all watched from the sidelines. They all thought that this was a personal grudge between the two sections. After all, Xiaoqin had killed two important disciples of the extreme ice sect. It was normal for them to come and find trouble with him. For a moment, no one thought about the meteoric iron and the forging materials. Moreover, even if it was for the forging materials, Xiaoqin was not in the sect. As for the sects in the inner world, they were even calmer. Only the sect leader of the Remembrance Soul sect was a little surprised when he received the news. However, after careful consideration, he finally decided to wait and see for a while. The reason for not lending a helping hand was also very simple. Back then, the sect master of the Remembrance Soul sect had ordered Qi Xiangmei to look for Xiaoqin to get the meteoric iron and the forging materials. In the end, Qi Xiangmei made all sorts of excuses. Not only did she not comply with the order, but she also found a lot of reasons to delay the matter. This made him very dissatisfied. Therefore, he wanted to use this opportunity to teach her a lesson and then make arrangements. Reporting to sect leader Situ, that Feng Qinyun from the Extreme Ice sect has brought people to find trouble with the Demonic Star sect. In the Awakening Heaven sect, Elder Sun was reporting to Situ Qitian. In my opinion, the Extreme Ice sect claims to be avenging their disciple, but in reality, they probably want to use this opportunity to lure Xiaoqin out and then take the opportunity to seize the forging materials and the meteoric iron. When Elder Sun heard the news, he immediately went to report to Situ Qitian. He could see more clearly than the people in the outer world and directly guessed the true purpose of the Extreme Ice sect. Haha, that's great. I want to see if those people will jump out when the people of the Demonic Star sect are bullied. Elder Sun, immediately send someone to keep an eye on them. If there's any sign of trouble, immediately inform me. Situ Qitian was very happy. Originally, he was still having a headache about how to lure the people behind Xiaoqin out. He did not expect Feng Qinyun to be so perceptive and directly take action for him. Yes, sir. Should we snatch the things in Xiaoqin's hands as well? Elder Sun asked again. After thinking carefully for a while, Situ Qitian shook his head and said, "No need. Right now, whether it is the outer world or the inner world, there are many people who are coveting those things. If we act rashly, I'm afraid that the Awakening Heaven sect will become the target of public criticism. This is not good for us. How about this? I'll find a chance to discuss with the others in the sect and then make a decision." "All right, then I'll go arrange it now." Elder Sun cupped his hands and turned to go out to instruct his subordinates. In the blink of an eye, a night passed. The next morning, the Demonic Star sect was still peaceful. Feng Qinyun was still the same. He sat in the middle of the hall and stared straight at the door. His eyes were red and bloodshot. He guarded the hall for the whole night and made all the disciples pay attention to the hostages in their hands. No one was allowed to doze off. Feng Qinyun was really worried. He was afraid that the experts from the Remembrance Soul sect would come to rescue them, and he was also worried that the Demonic Star sect leader, who was in seclusion in the back mountain, would suddenly come out. He was even worried that Xiaoqin would take advantage of the night to rescue them, so he didn't sleep the whole night. But he didn't know what happened to this guy. He didn't appear for the whole night. Even if he ran here, he should be here by now. How could there be no movement at all after such a long time? Feng Qinyun was a little impatient. He didn't know what Xiaoqin was doing. Before Xiaoqin came, he didn't want to be ruthless to Yi Xiaoye and Qi Chunmei. After all, if they really fell out, there was no point in negotiating. But now, the impatience in his heart had reached its peak. He didn't want to wait any longer. Standing up, Feng Qinyun ordered his disciple to bring Yi Xiaoye and Qi Chunmei up. He was going to call Xiao Qin in front of them. What? As soon as Xiao Qin said that, Feng Qinyun couldn't wait and shouted, "Xiao Qin! You don't want to see that Yi Baiya or Xiao Yi anymore, right? If you don't show up, believe it or not, I will let someone take turns on her immediately. Then I will hang her outside the demonic star sect and use a whip to dip in salt water to beat her to death." "Oh, I'm almost there. Wait for me a little longer," Xiao Qin replied calmly. His tone on the phone didn't sound anxious at all. "How much longer do you need? Give me an accurate time, or don't blame me for being rude." Feng Qinyun was furious when he heard this. He wanted to beat him up, but he couldn't do anything to him over the phone. He could only shout fiercely. "Oh, I'll come after breakfast. You haven't had breakfast yet, right? Do you want me to bring you one?" Xiao Qin said nonchalantly. His tone was like Feng Qinyun's good brother. "How dare you play with me?" Feng Qinyun was so angry that his lungs were about to spit fire. He pointed at Yi Xiaoye and said, "Xiao Qin, you're good. Eat as much as you want. My men are hungry too. I'll let them eat your wife now. Let's see if you're still so fearless then." While shouting into the phone, Feng Qinyun waved his hand. The eyes of those disciples immediately lit up and they approached Yi Xiaoye. They had stayed up all night and were worried that there was nowhere to vent their anger. Yi Xiaoye's eyes were filled with fear. She tried to move back, but she was not as fast as those disciples. Bang! One of the disciples had just stretched out his hand and was about to tear off Yi Xiaoye's clothes when they heard a loud noise. Everyone was shocked and turned to look, only to discover that the door behind them had been kicked open. They saw Xiao Qin standing leisurely outside the door with a deep-fried dough stick in his mouth and some breakfast in his hand. "The fried dough stick in this restaurant tastes terrible. It's much worse than mine. It seems that they'll go out of business sooner or later," Xiao Qin mumbled while stuffing the fried dough stick in his mouth. Then he swaggered in. Looking around the room, Xiao Qin really found someone familiar. He stared at Elder Liao and said, "Old man, you're the one who came up with this stupid idea, right? How dare you call me and threaten me? Now that I'm here, let her go. You're just a loser. Why are you so arrogant?" Elder Liao glared coldly at Xiao Qin and said through gritted teeth, "Sect leader Feng, Xiao Qin is a cunning brat. Not only did he ambush Elder Feng and severely injure him, he also killed many of our Extreme Eye sect's outstanding disciples. You must be careful not to fall into his trap." "Crazy sect leader? I finally understand. No wonder your sect is called the Sect of Ailments. So even the sect leader is a crazy person. But it's no wonder. Even a normal person would go crazy with a bunch of brainless disciples like you." Xiao Qin glanced at Feng Qinyun and said leisurely as he ate his fried dough stick. Chapter 847. How dare you? Feng Qinyun was completely infuriated by Xiao Qin's nonchalant attitude. He slammed the table and activated his mental cultivation. Instantly, he revealed the strength of a level 1 demon king. He said coldly, "Don't talk nonsense. Xiao Qin, since you're here, don't even think about going back today. Hand over the meteoric iron and the forging materials. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll leave your corpse intact." The reason why Feng Qinyun chose to use force instead of killing Xiao Qin was because he was afraid that Xiao Qin had already hidden the meteoric iron and the forging materials. So, he wanted to kill Xiao Qin after he got those two things. "Oh, that's amazing. You actually have the strength of a level 1 demon king. You almost scared me to tears." Xiao Qin was expressionless. He said coldly, "Are you done showing off? If you are, let go of Yi Xiaoye and her master. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll leave your corpse intact." Feng Qinyun was extremely surprised. He turned to Elder Liao and asked, "Did I hear it wrong? What did he say? He wants me to let go of those two girls and leave my corpse intact?" Elder Liao also had a perplexed look on his face as he chimed in, "Sect Master Feng, I think this Xiao Qin is probably stupid. Does he think there's no difference between a level 1 demon king and a level 8 demon general? And he wants to leave our corpses intact? Ah. Are you two performing a comedy? Stop bullshitting and let them go. Then find a place to kill yourselves. That way I won't have to do anything and waste my energy." Xiao Qin said impatiently, "I've killed quite a lot of people these days. If I kill a few more, I'll become a big demon." Xiao Qin didn't want to act rashly. After all, Yi Xiaoye and Qi Xiangmei were still in their hands. It would be bad if they were used as a shield by the Extreme Eye sect. He had to find a suitable opportunity to snatch the two of them over first. What an arrogant brat. Feng Qinyun was so angry that he laughed. He pulled Yi Xiaoya and Qi Xiangmei in front of him, leaving only their faces exposed. When Xiao Chen saw this, his eyes flickered. He already had an idea in his mind. Feng Canyun didn't notice the look in Xiao Chen's eyes. Instead he mocked, "They're right here. Come and take them if you can. One of them is your wife, and the other is an elder of your sect. Both of them are in my hands now. Unless you don't want to let them live, you better hand them over to me. Oh, how about this? Let's make a deal. You release Yi Xiaoya and Qi Xiangmei first. Then I'll give you the meteoric iron and the forging materials. Not a bad idea, right?" Xiao Chen's lips curled into a sneer as he gently negotiated with Feng Canyun. Elder Liao stood aside and looked at Xiao Chen as if he was looking at an idiot. "Do you think our sect leader is a fool? Unless he's retarded, why would he return the hostages to you? Alright, it's a deal." Looking at Xiao Chen, Feng Canyun's mind was suddenly in a mess. He nodded and lightly pushed Yi Xiaoya and Qi Xiangmei, indicating that they could walk over. The two girls were stunned. They didn't know what Feng Canyun was trying to do. After looking at each other, they made up their minds and quickly ran towards Xiao Chen. "Sect Master Feng, what are you doing?" Elder Liao was dumbfounded and he asked in bewilderment. He was sure that the sect leader wouldn't be so retarded. How could he release the two hostages in the blink of an eye? What else could they use to threaten Xiao Chen? What's going on? Feng Canyun's body trembled. He suddenly reacted and looked at Yi Xiaoya and Qi Xiangmei who had already run over. Only then did he realize that things had gone beyond his expectations. Feng Canyun tried his best to recall what had happened. It was as if he was being controlled by someone. His brain and body didn't listen to his commands at all. Feng Canyun looked up and saw that Xiao Chen was looking at him mockingly. He immediately understood what had happened. He pointed at him and shouted, "Xiao Chen, are you the one behind this?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Xiao Chen shrugged and said. He then untied Yi Xiaoya and Qi Xiangmei. "You." Feng Canyun knew that he had lost in the last round. He rolled his eyes and changed the topic. "You said that if I release the hostages you'll give me the thing. Everyone here heard it. We're all from the outer martial sects. We have to follow the rules. Now that I've released the hostages, shouldn't you hand over the thing? Oh, don't you want this?" Xiao Chen didn't waste time talking to him. He took out the meteoric iron and shook it in front of Feng Canyun. Feng Canyun's breathing became heavier. "Xiao Chen, since you know the rules, then this." "Well, I don't have any use for it anyway. It's quite heavy." Xiao Chen tossed the meteoric iron in his hand and threw it at Feng Canyun. "Since you want it, I'll give it to you. At least you know what's good for you." "What?" Seeing that Xiao Chen actually took the initiative to hand over the meteoric metal, Feng Canyun was immediately overjoyed. He thought to himself that this kid was really stupid. Just as he was about to reach out to take it, he felt that the meteoric metal that was coming toward him carried a violent demonic aura. When Feng Canyun felt that something was wrong and wanted to dodge, it was too late. Dong. The meteoric iron didn't fall into Feng Canyun's hands. Instead, it smashed into his chest, making a muffled sound. Feng Canyun was sent flying with the rock, landing heavily on the ground. His chest caved in as well. After landing, Feng Canyun spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't look at Xiao Chen immediately. Instead, he turned around and stared at Elder Liao in disbelief. He said in a hoarse voice, How could he be at the peak of the first level of the Devil King? Didn't you say, he's only at the peak of the 8th level of the Devil General? Elder Liao's face turned pale with fright when he saw this. He had just run to Feng Canyun's side when he heard Feng Canyun's question. He immediately panicked and stammered, "This? Sect leader, when Elder Feng and I met Xiao Chen, he was indeed at the peak of the 8th layer of the Demon General realm. Maybe he hid his strength on purpose. That's why we misjudged him." Feng Canyun gritted his teeth and turned his head back inch by inch. He pointed at Xiao Chen and stammered, "You, little brat, how dare you lie to me?" Before he could finish, Feng Canyun's vision went black and he fell to the ground. He breathed his last breath unwillingly. "You're a level 1 Devil King. You can't even catch a rock. You're so useless." Xiao Chen waved his hand and looked coldly at the trembling disciples of the Extreme Ice sect. He didn't wait for them to kneel down and beg for mercy. He shot a few fireballs at them and burned them to ashes. "How dare you kidnap my wife Xiao Yi and have improper thoughts about her? Even 10 lives wouldn't be enough to pay for it. I'll let you off easy by killing all of you." Xiao Chen blew out the fire in his hand and swaggered to the only one left, Elder Liao. "Okay, it's your turn now. But Are you going to give up your land and pay for it, or are you going to fight to the death? I'll pay for it. I'm willing to give up my land and pay for it. Elder Liao's legs had already turned to jelly by Xiao Chen's Yama methods. He was sweating profusely. He was afraid that if he didn't speak fast enough, he would also be burned by Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen crossed his arms and looked at him with a half-smile. Elder Liao quickly asked politely, "Hero Xiao Chen, how much do you want me to pay for it? Name a number. As long as I can afford it, I won't let you down." As he spoke, Elder Liao's legs trembled uncontrollably. Even Feng Moyun, a Demon King level 1 expert, was defeated by Xiao Chen in one move. What was there left for him to resist? It would be best if he could pay for it. "Oh, I was thinking that your poor sect probably doesn't have much money, right? I won't ask for much. I'll just pay you 10 billion. Xiao Chen said casually. What? 10 billion? Our Extreme Ice sect doesn't have that much money. Elder Liao almost fell to the ground with a bitter expression. Normally, Elder Liao was also in charge of the sect's finances, so he knew the sect's financial situation like the back of his hand. If he had to fork out 2 or 3 billion, he would still be able to scrape together the money with some difficulty. Who would have thought that Xiao Chen would actually ask for 10 billion? Even if he sold the Extreme Ice sect, he wouldn't be able to get that much. TSK, look at you. You're not sincere at all. You don't look like you want to give up your land and pay for it. Xiao Chen looked at Elder Liao from the corner of his eyes. If that's the case, I'll give you a chance. Fight back bravely for once. If you don't fight back this time, you won't have another chance. No. Hero Xiao Chen, please let me think twice. Elder Liao almost peed his pants. His eyes darted around and suddenly, his gaze fell on Yi Xiaoye who was standing behind Xiao Chen. You haven't thought about it yet? Then don't think about it. Fight back. My time is limited. I don't have the time to play the thinker with you. Xiao Chen said impatiently as another fireball appeared in his hand. I thought about it. I'm going to transfer all the assets of the Extreme Ice sect to the Demonic Star sect. Then we can turn our Extreme Ice sect into a subsidiary sect of the Demonic Star sect, and all of our income will be given to the Demonic Star sect. Elder Liao was on the verge of going crazy, and he hurriedly voiced out the idea that he had just thought of. In his opinion, Xiao Chen was standing up for the Demonic Star sect. If he handed over the entire sect, Xiao Chen's anger would be appeased, right? Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows and said reluctantly, I see. All right then. I'll give you 3 days to complete the relevant procedures as soon as possible. Otherwise, you know what the consequences will be. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth curled up as he made a you-know expression. Chapter 848. Elder Liao nodded and didn't dare to say anything else. He was afraid that Xiao Chen would ask for other conditions, so he quickly carried Feng Kenyun's body and left. Not bad, kid. After Elder Liao left, Yi Xiaoye suddenly patted Xiao Chen and said excitedly, It's only been a few months and you've already advanced to the peak of level 1 Demon King. You've leveled up too fast, it's like the speed of light. Caught off guard, Xiao Chen staggered from the slap. After stabilizing himself, he touched his nose and smiled. Actually, I'm already at the peak of level 2 Demon King. I didn't want to expose too much before, so I didn't show it. Don't take advantage of me. Why don't you say you're already at the peak of level 10 Demon King? Yi Xiaoye rolled her eyes at him and sighed gloomily, but you're too good at pretending. If I knew you were so powerful, I wouldn't have to worry about you for the whole night. After the excitement, Yi Xiaoye couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. It was just like the saying, comparisons are odious and comparisons are odious. When the two of them dual cultivated together, there wasn't much difference in strength. Now she was still at the peak of level 3 Demon Master, but Xiao Chen was already at the Demon King level. The strength between the two of them could be said to be as far apart as the Milky Way. However, besides feeling disappointed, Yi Xiaoye was also very glad. Since she was Xiao Chen's wife, they would have plenty of time to dual cultivate in the future. Besides, so what if her strength was low? As long as Xiao Chen could protect her, it was fine. Wasn't she saved by him today? He should have saved the entire Demon Star sect. Xiao Chen, I really have to thank you this time. Another female voice sounded. It turned out to be Qi Xiangmei. She walked over and said sincerely, If it weren't for your help, I'm afraid the Demonic Star sect would have been destroyed by Feng Kenyun. Qi Xiangmei was indeed very grateful to Xiao Chen. Actually, Xiao Chen did not need to come and help at all. Even if the entire sect was threatened by the extreme ice sect and she and Xiao Yi were taken as hostages, it would be normal for Xiao Qin to reject them. After all, he was only a nominal disciple of the demonic star sect, and the demonic star sect had never helped him much. She did not expect him to come in the end. You don't have to be so polite. No matter what, I'm still a disciple of the Devil Star sect. Since the sect is in trouble and it was caused by me, then I should come. However, the revival of the Devil Star sect might require some effort. Although I have placed the extreme ice sect under the sect, it will still be up to you guys to decide what to do next, said Xiao Qin with a smile. Qi Xiangmei shook her head and said, Don't say that. I'm already very grateful that you came. You don't have to worry about the rest. I'll go to the back of the mountain now and report everything to the sect leader so that he can take charge of the situation. You and Xiao Yi haven't seen each other for a long time. You guys can chat first. Qi Xiangmei was also an experienced person. She knew that Xiao Qin and Yi Xiaoya had reunited after a long time and had a lot to talk about. Thus, she gave some instructions to Yi Xiaoya and ran to the back of the mountain to give up her position. When only Xiao Qin and Yi Xiaoya were left in the hall, Yi Xiaoya's pretty face suddenly turned serious. She asked fiercely, Tell me the truth. Did you do it with other women behind my back when I wasn't around? Otherwise, how could you have leveled up so quickly? For Xiao Qin's special way of leveling up, Yi Xiaoya already had a deep understanding. After he did it with her previously, his level rose like a rocket. So now that she saw Xiao Qin's level suddenly become so high, Yi Xiaoya began to have doubts. Actually, when I broke through to the first level of Demon King, I relied on the few myriad crossing king fruits given by Joyful Clan's smiling Mithraea. As for the subsequent breakthrough, it was really a bit of a romantic encounter. Xiao Qin scratched his head. He didn't intend to hide it from Yi Xiaoya, so he directly told her about his recent experience. He didn't omit the part about Ling Er, but he told the truth. So that's the case. Yi Xiaoya finally understood the origin of the whole thing. She couldn't help but pout. She felt a little uncomfortable. I didn't expect you to have a relationship with the people of the inner martial arts circle. According to your leveling speed, it may not take long before you can do whatever you want in the inner martial arts circle. At that time, there will probably be more women coming to you. You won't be able to handle it. Xiao Qin didn't respond directly. Instead, he sighed slowly with a helpless expression. Why are you sighing? I didn't say anything wrong. Yi Xiaoya snorted and couldn't help but pinch Xiao Qin. Some people. I came all the way to save her. Not only did she not say thank you, she even got jealous of a woman. I'm so wronged. I already said that I was the one who was F***ked. Your husband suffered a big loss. Instead of loving me, you actually mocked me. Xiao Qin covered his heart and said, pretending to be sad. This guy who's jealous. Yi Xiaoya rolled her eyes at Xiao Qin and replied with a lack of confidence. In fact, she knew very well that the outer martial arts circle was the same as the inner martial arts circle. They had always retained the ancient traditions and customs. It was normal for men to have multiple wives, but women needed to be faithful to each other. She was just a little unhappy at the moment, so she threw a tantrum. Besides, with Xiao Qin's current status and identity, not only was he the demon sect master of the outer martial arts circle, but he was also an expert of the Demon King level. His achievements in the future would definitely be greater. Even if he married a few more wives, no one would say anything. Instead, people would think that it was normal. Smack. While Xiao Qin wasn't paying attention, Yi Xiaoya quickly kissed him on the cheek. She blushed and said, all right. This is my repayment for saving my life. Otherwise, you'll say that I'm heartless. Xiao Qin touched his face in surprise. Before he could say anything, Yi Xiaoya quickly asked, oh right, how long are you staying in the demonic star sect? When are you leaving again? I might not be staying for too long. When the people from the Extreme Ice sect send the money over and reorganize the demonic star sect, I'll be leaving after things are on the right track. I have to send the forging materials to Yanjing. Speaking of business, Xiao Qin sighed helplessly. He thought he could reach Yanjing smoothly, but he didn't expect so many things to happen on the way. Not only did he take a lot of detours, but he also wasted a lot of time for no reason. It's not long. Then let's hurry up and do dual cultivation. You're already a Demon King level expert now, and I'm just a Demon Master. If I could raise my level to Demon General before, I wouldn't be caught so easily this time. I have to increase my strength quickly. Yi Xiaoya stomped her feet and dragged Xiao Qin to her room impatiently. Then do you want to do dual cultivation, or something else? Xiao Qin didn't stop Yi Xiaoya. Instead, he teased her as he followed her inside. Of course it's dual cultivation. But if you want to do something else, I can't stop you. Anyway, you have to help me increase my strength first. Yi Xiaoya's face was so red that water was about to drip out. But you haven't eaten the breakfast I bought. Xiao Qin turned to look at the breakfast that was thrown on the ground and said hesitantly, "What breakfast? I'll eat you instead." Yi Xiaoya said fiercely and closed the door with a bang. Then she pulled Xiao Qin to the bed, to do dual cultivation, or something else. Inside Qitian Gate, news spread very quickly in the pugilistic world. When Sidu Qitian heard that Xiao Qin had easily killed Feng Canyun and had not only swindled the Extreme Eye sect out of a lot of money as compensation, but he had also lost his sovereignty and joined the Demonic Star sect, he could not sit still any longer. After thinking about it repeatedly, Sidu Qitian simply sent an invitation letter and gathered all the leaders of the demon sects in the inner martial arts world for a meeting. He wanted to discuss a way to snatch the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and forging materials from Xiao Qin in the future. All the leaders of the sects were attracted by Xiao Qin's materials and attended the meeting. In the beginning, the meeting went smoothly. Everyone reached an agreement on the matter of snatching Xiao Qin's materials. Since Xiao Qin was already a demon king, he was equivalent to half a step into the inner martial arts world. In addition, he was in the outer martial arts world and would not affect the agreement in the secular world. Therefore, these sects in the inner martial arts world could openly take action. As for Xiao Qin, he was originally from the secular world and was only a nominal disciple in the Demon Star sect. These things were selectively forgotten by the major sections. However, what Sidu Qitian didn't expect was that when discussing how to snatch it, the major sects had a huge difference in opinion. Some proposed to lobby Xiao Qin, and some said to use force to deter him. The small sects hoped to unite and fight together, but the big sects thought that they only needed to recommend a few of their most powerful masters to snatch it. In the end, the various sects began to pass the buck to each other, mocking and ridiculing each other. Some sects even saw each other as enemies and were particularly jealous. They directly quarreled and almost rolled up their sleeves to put on an all-out show. Sidu Qitian tried his best to persuade them, but not only did it have no effect, but it also attracted the cold eyes of many sections. In the inner martial arts world, Qitian sect had always been the dominant sect, occupying all the high-quality resources, which had long made the sects unhappy, so no one was willing to listen to Sidu Qitian's command. After arguing for a whole day, everyone was almost exhausted. In the end, they could only take a step back and agree with each other that all the sects would snatch their own and not interfere with each other. They would rely on their own ability and whoever snatched it would keep it. However, everyone also tacitly agreed on an unwritten rule. This agreement was limited to before snatching the forging materials. As for after, it was another matter. If any accident happened on the way back, then the sect could only blame its bad luck. Chapter 849. However, although there was an agreement on the surface, there were still a few weaker sects who felt that their chances of success were not high if they participated in the robbery alone. Even if they managed to snatch the materials, they would not be able to defend against the sneak attacks of other powerful sections. Therefore, they formed an alliance in private and planned to work together. After snatching the forging materials, they would share the resources. After the major sects had dispersed, Elder Sun walked in from outside the door, as if he had something to report to Sidu Qitian. Reporting to sect leader, I just received a piece of news. It is said that the Six Directions sect and the Yin Yun sect have joined forces to obtain the forging materials. However, it seems that they have not started researching immediately. The reason seems to be that the materials are incomplete. I also heard that they continue to send disciples to secretly contact Xiao Qin. Do you think it is necessary to send someone to investigate? Elder Sun asked respectfully. Yes, send someone to keep an eye on them. However, remember, do not act rashly and alert the enemy. Awakening Heaven sect currently has too many enemies. We cannot have any more conflicts with the righteous sections. Sidu Qitian felt a headache when he thought of the mess in today's meeting. Elder Sun also understood the meaning of his sect leader's words. He nodded and said, Yes, I will let them pay attention. Sidu Qitian solemnly instructed, Currently, the focus of our Awakening Heaven sect is mainly on Xiao Qin. This kid's strength has risen too quickly. We originally hoped that the group of trash from the Extreme Eye sect would be able to lure those people out. Who would have thought that not only did they not succeed but they also lost their own lives? That Feng Canyun is simply an idiot. Rest assured, sect leader. I have already arranged for Xiao Xing to bring people to the Devil Star sect. I guarantee that they will successfully complete the mission. Alright, other than snatching the forging materials, do you want to let Xiao Xing teach Xiao Qin a lesson? Xiao Xing's strength is enough. We can see if those people will make a move. Elder Sun had a strange smile on his face as he said sinisterly. Absolutely not. Situ Qitian waved his hand and directly rejected Elder Sun's suggestion. He said in a low voice, "You must remember, we can frame Xiao Qin and let the other sects find trouble with him, but we cannot directly make a move against him." Yes, I understand. I will go and pass down the instructions now. Elder Sun replied solemnly. When he saw that Situ Qitian had no more instructions, he bowed and turned to go out to handle his affairs. Xiao Qin stayed at the Devil Star sect for 2 days. After receiving the compensation from the Extreme Ice sect, he was ready to set off for Yanjing. Sigh. You're leaving tomorrow, and I don't know when you'll be able to dual cultivate with me again. Now, I'm going to be alone again and slowly cultivate. When will I be able to raise my strength to the Devil General level? In the room, Yi Xiaoye supported her cheeks with her hands and sighed. Although the past 2 days of dual cultivation with Xiao Qin had already raised her strength to the peak of the 5th level of the Devil Master, Yi Xiaoye still felt that it was not fast enough. Are you addicted to leveling up? It had only been 2 days and he still felt that it wasn't enough? If other demonic cultivators could advance 2 levels in such a short period of time, they would probably be overjoyed. Be careful not to go too far and end up going berserk. Xiao Qin shook his head and teased with a smile. Cut it out. My goal is to become a devil general. Don't compare me with those ordinary demonic cultivators, Yi Xiaoye poked Xiao Chen's forehead and said angrily, also, remember to tell me the next time you go to seek pleasure. I don't want to be treated as a fool and be kept in the dark. Dong dong dong. Xiao Qin rubbed Yi Xiaoye's head and was about to reply when a series of urgent knocks sounded on the door. Frowning, Xiao Chen went over to open the door and found Qi Dongmei standing outside with a solemn expression. Xiao Chen couldn't help but ask in surprise, Senior Qi Yu. Qi Dongmei hesitated for a moment and said, Xiao Chen, there's someone outside who claims to be young Master Xing from the Awakening Heaven sect. He said he's here to settle scores with you. I delayed him for a while and then many elites from other sects came. They're all in the guest hall now and they're threatening to ask you for something. Do you think you should escape with little Yi? Escape? Why should I escape? They just want the forging information. I'll give it to them. Xiao Qin shrugged his shoulders and said nonchalantly. He walked quickly to the guest hall. Yi Xiaoye was worried that something would happen to him, so she followed closely behind. The demonic star sect's guest hall was crowded with people. They were all people from the inner martial arts circle that they could not normally see. The disciples of the demonic star sect knew that they could not afford to offend anyone here, so they had long hidden far away. Little Miss Xing was a little depressed. She originally thought that since she was the first to arrive, she should be able to teach Xiao Qin a lesson. She didn't expect to be blocked by Qi Dongmei. After waiting for a short while, the people from the other sects arrived one after another. The unhappy little Miss Xing couldn't be bothered to greet the people from the other sections. Seeing that Xiao Qin and Yi Xiaoye had arrived from afar, she hid in the crowd. There were so many people now, so there was no need for her to stand out. Anyway, she had made up her mind today to fish in troubled waters. As long as Xiao Qin appeared, he would be asked for information by the people from the inner martial arts circle. According to Xiao Chen's unparalleled character in the outer martial arts circle, he would definitely not be willing to hand it over directly. At that time, the elites of these sects would naturally attack him. Even if Xiao Qin was at the Demon King level, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand the attacks of so many inner martial arts circle people at the same time. Little Miss Xing was very clear about her goal. When Xiao Qin couldn't withstand the attacks and needed to escape, she would follow closely. If any sect was about to snatch the information, she would interfere. If Xiao Qin ran too fast for others to catch up, she would pretend to stop him. Anyway, she couldn't let the people from the inner martial arts circle succeed, and she couldn't let Xiao Qin run too far. As long as she created the illusion that Xiao Qin was being chased for thousands of miles, the sect's goal would naturally be achieved. At this time, the people from the other sects had already seen Xiao Qin coming over. They all rushed over and directly formed a circle, staring at him like a tiger watching its prey. One of the young masters, who was probably the descendant of a big sect, swaggered over and said arrogantly, Xiao Qin, you are quite bold. You actually dare to come out. I think you should know why we came to the demonic star sect today, right? Xiao Qin's gaze swept over the young master, then looked around at the people around him. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he laughed loudly. Yo, isn't this young Master Ladyboy? You brought so many people to the demonic star sect. Are you going to cause trouble? The young master was furious and shouted sternly, Who the F***ck did you say is Ladyboy? Before he finished speaking, Xiaoqin took large strides towards a certain direction in the crowd. He extended his hand and pulled out a person who was hiding in the crowd and almost couldn't be seen. In this way, the young master's words could only be stuck in his throat. He wasn't talking to you at all, so why are you talking? However, the person who was pulled out by Xiaoqin looks familiar. The young master took a closer look. Isn't this young Master Xing from the Awakening sect? The people from the other sects also looked at each other, their eyes full of doubt. Young Master Ladyboy? I've never heard of young Master Xing having such a title. Could it be that he had a personal relationship with Xiaoqin in the past? Looking at young Lady Xing who was dressed like a man, Xiaoqin couldn't help but snicker in his heart. You are obviously a little girl, why do you have to dress up as a man? Are you afraid of being molested with your 10th level great perfection of the Demon King? You are the Ladyboy. Young Lady Xing was suddenly pulled into the middle of the crowd. She was still in a daze. Hearing that, she glared at Xiaoqin fiercely and gritted her teeth in anger. She wanted to break free and slip back, but Xiaoqin's hand held her tightly. Don't mind these details. Xiaoqin patted young Lady Xing's shoulder with his other hand and asked, What do you want to do at the Demon Star sect today? Do you want my forging information? Young Lady Xing was stunned. Why did Xiaoqin take the initiative to mention forging information? Could it be that he wants to have a head-on clash with these people? But I only plan to be a bystander at the side. Now that I'm standing under the eyes of the crowd, how can I muddy the waters? No, I'm just passing by. Young Lady Xing stammered for a while, wanting to play dumb and muddle through the matter first. Why are you being so polite with me? Xiaoqin waved his hand and said sincerely, Senior Qi has already told me that you are all here to ask for something from me. Look at you saying that you are just passing by. Hey, tell me. Are you all here to ask for forging information from me? Xiaoqin turned to ask the young man. The young man finally found his presence. He quickly puffed out his chest and put on a proud look. Yes. I advise you to be sensible and hand over the things. Look at how honest he is. Xiaoqin immediately interrupted the young master's words. He shook Miss Xing's arm and said, I knew you wanted forging information. You should have said so earlier. How would I know if you didn't tell me? Young Lady Xing was about to vomit blood. Her face was as black as the young man beside her. However, one was because she became the center of attention, while the other was because she couldn't make her presence known. Alright, stop talking. Forging information, right? Isn't it just sitting here? Xiaoqin bent down lazily and took out a document from the foot of the table beside him. He passed it to young Lady Xing without hesitation. This action immediately made the jaws of the surrounding people drop. What? Xiaoqin actually handed over the information just like that? Previously, when they asked the sects of the outer martial arts world to fight for it, why didn't Xiaoqin take it out? Moreover, did they see wrongly just now? Xiaoqin actually used forging information as a footrest? Xiaoqin looked around at the shocked crowd and sneered in his heart. In fact, he deliberately admitted defeat. In this environment, the difference in strength between him and the enemy was too great. Moreover, he had to take care of the safety of Yi Xiaoye and the others from the demonic star sect. It was impossible for him to fight recklessly. Chapter 850. Thus, he might as well take the initiative and directly hand over the forging information. After all, the forging information he gave to little Chick Xing had already been modified by the Elder Heaven Ancestor, so it was no longer of any use. In the future, no matter who took it back, they would be able to turn the meteoric iron into scrap. As for what little Chick Xing was up to by hiding in the crowd, Xiaoqin couldn't be bothered. Now that he had handed over this hot potato, what happened next would have nothing to do with him. You used the forging information as a table leg? Little Chick Xing couldn't even speak clearly. She blinked her eyes and subconsciously took the forging information. She wanted to open it and take a look, but she was afraid that people from other sects would swarm over and snatch it. Thus, she could only hold the information tightly in her hands. But when she regained her senses, little Chick Xing began to feel depressed again. What was going on? Originally, she wanted to hide in the crowd and frame Xiaoqin, causing him to be surrounded by all the sections. Then she would take the opportunity to fish in troubled waters. Why was he so scared now? Little Chick Xing really wanted to directly return the forging information to Xiao Qin, but she couldn't do so in front of so many people. After thinking for a while, she could only bite the bullet and accept it. At the same time, she comforted herself. Even though I didn't succeed in framing Xiao Qin, at least I got the forging information. As for framing him, I'll think about it again in the future. Oh, it said that the most dangerous place is the safest. If I knew you were here for the forging information, I would have directly sent someone to give it to you. It would have saved me the trouble of coming out personally. Xiao Qin shook his head and said lightly, now that you got the information, is there anything else? If there's nothing else, please go back. I still want to dual cultivate with Yi Xiaoya. *CKU. Yi Xiaoya didn't think that Xiao Qin would openly talk about dual cultivation. Caught off guard, she blushed and rolled her eyes at him. The way the people from the surrounding sects looked at young Master Xing changed. Young Master Xing and Xiao Qin were indeed in cahoots. Xiao Qin and young noble Xing seemed to be on good terms with each other. His sect had sent so many people, but they were all beaten back by Xiao Qin. Who would have thought that with a single sentence from young noble Xing, Xiao Qin would hand over the forging materials so easily? Who would believe that there was nothing fishy going on between the two? When they saw the information in young Master Xing's hands, their gazes became even more heated. Now that Open Heaven Gate had obtained the forging information, the previous agreement was invalid. When he returned, these people began to exchange glances and think about what to do next. Little Miss Xing didn't notice the gazes of the surrounding people. Instead, she looked at Xiao Qin with disdain. You're talking about dual cultivation in broad daylight. You really have no sense of shame. It's not like I'm dual cultivating with you. Why do you care about my honor? Alright, hurry up and go, my schedule is very busy. Xiao Qin waved his hand impatiently and was about to turn around and leave. Wait. Little Miss Xing suddenly thought of something and hurriedly called out to Xiao Qin. Since you're so straightforward, why don't you just hand over the meteoric iron as well? There's no use for you keeping it anyway. Little Miss Xing wasn't stupid. If she only had the forging materials, then she would have a lot of pressure to deal with. But if she had the meteoric iron, she might be able to divert a portion of people's attention. Oh, I've already returned the meteoric iron to the research facility. If you want it, you can go and get it yourself. With your strength, it won't be a problem. I have high hopes for you. Xiao Qin dragged Yi Xiaoya away as he dragged his voice. Prince Ladyboy, I won't be sending you off. If you like it here, then continue to stay. Remember to pay for the entrance fee. What a waste. You. Little Miss Xing stomped her feet in anger, but she couldn't do anything to Xiao Qin. She could only glare at him as he walked into the room and shut the door. Although she was a little angry, Little Miss Xing didn't continue to argue with him. Actually, the meteoric iron was something that all the large sects had. The Awakening Heaven sect was no exception. It wasn't that rare, but they didn't know how to forge it. Therefore, even if Xiao Qin didn't give it to her, Little Miss Xing didn't intend to force him. She simply kept the forging materials, called out to her own sect, and angrily left the Devil Star sect to report back. After walking out of the Devil Star sect, Little Miss Xing cursed Xiao Qin in her heart. Then she and a few other disciples used their movement techniques and quickly rushed back. However, they didn't walk far before she suddenly thought of something and stopped. She took out the forging materials from her bosom and started flipping through them. She had left in a hurry just now, so she didn't have time to verify the authenticity of the forging materials. Now that she thought about it, Xiao Qin gave it a little too straightforwardly. Little Miss Xing suspected that he didn't give her a fake one, right? She took the materials and carefully looked through them. Little Miss Xing didn't find any problems. The forging materials that Xiao Qin gave seemed to be exactly the same as the ones she had seen in the research center. Only then did she feel more at ease. It seemed like this brat was really afraid and didn't dare to give her a fake one. However, she didn't know that Xiao Qin had already changed the forging materials according to the Elder Heaven Ancestors' instructions. However, the changes weren't too big. He only made some adjustments to some of the data. A rough look wouldn't reveal any difference. Unless Su Inda personally checked it, ordinary people wouldn't be able to see the difference. Stop. If you know what's good for you, hand over the things in your hands. Otherwise, don't even think of leaving alive. Little Miss Xing had just put away the forging materials when she suddenly heard a cold voice in front of her. Little Miss Xing looked up and saw 3 people blocking their way. The people who came were dressed in black from head to toe. Their faces were also covered with black cloth. Only their eyes were exposed. It was impossible to tell which sect they were from. The Awakening sect disciples were shocked and took a few steps back. Although they were mentally prepared for a sneak attack, they still panicked when they saw someone blocking their way. You guys have such big words. Little Miss Xing knew that the journey wouldn't be peaceful, and she didn't want to be entangled with people. She snorted coldly and directly revealed the strength of the 10th level of the Demon King realm. She arrogantly said, "Since you dare to openly rob us, I think you should know my identity. The awakening sect isn't something you can provoke. Hurry up and scram. Otherwise don't blame me for being impolite." 10th level of the Demon King realm. The three men in black were slightly stunned and looked at each other. They really didn't expect the strength of this fair and clean guy in front of them to be so high. It seemed that they had underestimated the enemy by rushing out rashly. However, the leader quickly calmed down. He rolled his eyes and also revealed the strength of the peak of the 9th level of the Demon King realm. He looked at the other two meaningfully and ordered, "Second brother, let's join forces to deal with this kid. Third brother, you go and get rid of all his subordinates. Don't leave a single one alive. Then come and help us." "Yes." The second brother simply responded and followed the leader to attack Little Miss Xing. The third brother also silently rushed to the awakening sect disciples. When those disciples saw someone attacking, they were still calm. They showed their strength and prepared to defend. Little Miss Xing cautiously stared at the approaching leader and second brother. She also wanted to help those disciples, but she couldn't even take care of herself. However, in her opinion, it would really take a little time for the third brother to get rid of so many disciples. She might as well try her best to get rid of the two in front of her first, then it wouldn't be too late to rescue them. "You overestimate yourselves. Go to hell." After making up her mind, Little Miss Xing snorted and channeled her mental cultivation. She slapped the leader with her left palm and attacked the second brother's chest with her right palm. What she didn't expect was that the two people who were rushing towards her actually dodged and floated away, causing her two palms to hit nothing but air. Suddenly, a strong demonic chi came from behind her. Little Miss Xing realized that something was wrong. When she wanted to avoid it, it was too late. She could only endure the palm. Puff. Although the strength of the person who attacked from behind was not high, it seemed to be only at the 9th level of the Demon King realm. However, Little Miss Xing's attention was on the two people in front of her. Her back was completely undefended, so she was caught off guard. She was still hit and spat out a mouthful of blood. The forging materials that she had hidden on her body also fell to the side. "Tiske, it seems that although your strength is high, you are a stubborn brat." Looking at Little Miss Xing, who stumbled forward a few steps, the third brother sneered. The person who sneak attacked Little Miss Xing just now was him. It turned out that when the leader gave the order, the three of them had already reached a tacit understanding. Letting the third brother deal with the Awakening Gate disciple was just a feint. The real purpose was to sneak attack Little Miss Xing from behind. The leader and the second brother would first attract Little Miss Xing's firepower. After she attacked with all her strength, they would disperse in time. The three of them had cooperated for a very long time. With just a glance from the leader, the second brother and the third brother had completely understood his intention and executed a perfect attack. At this time, the leader and the second brother had already killed all the Awakening Gate disciples around them like they were cutting melons and vegetables. The battle quickly ended and the two of them also surrounded them. You are really despicable." Little Miss Xing's face was a little pale. She suppressed the pain in her body and said hatefully. Although she had the strength of the Demon King realm 10th level, she had only been out for a short time. She didn't have enough on-the-spot experience, so she was careless and fell into their trap. "Despicable?" The third brother laughed strangely and said disdainfully, "Haven't you heard of the saying that there is nothing too deceitful in war? You have a body full of skills, but I didn't expect your brain to be so bad. What a waste of your high strength." The leader walked to the side and picked up the forging information that had fallen on the ground. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he ordered coldly, "Third brother, don't talk nonsense with him. We can't stay here for long. Quickly get rid of him before we leave." "Hee, brat, blame yourself for getting this information. Go to hell." The third brother didn't waste time. He laughed and raised his palm to slap Little Miss Xing. Chapter 851. Little Miss Xing gritted her teeth and directly met Lao San's palm. With a pa sound, both of them took a step back. Little Miss Xing spat out another mouthful of blood. Her face had already turned from white to deathly pale. There were traces of blood at the corner of her mouth, making her look a little terrifying. The third brother did not attack immediately. Instead, he stared at a piece of cloth on the ground with an ugly expression. When he exchanged blows with Xing, the wind from her palm had blown the black cloth off his face. Although Xing was seriously injured, she stared coldly at the third brother and sneered, "So it's you." The third brother was the young man who had stood up when they surrounded the Devil Star sect. At this time he no longer had the frivolous playboy from before. Instead, his face was serious and he looked at Xing ferociously. When the leader saw this, he frowned and glared at the third leader. Originally, they had completed the mission perfectly and their identities were not even exposed. Now they were seen by Xing Chick. The third brother felt a little embarrassed. He said fiercely, "There is a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There is no door to hell, but you insist on breaking through. Since you have seen it, don't blame me for being merciless." As he said this, he used the secret technique of the sect. He was prepared to kill Xing directly. With a pa sound before Ol'3's attack could even reach her, Xing Las quickly waved her hand. A thick purple smoke suddenly appeared in front of her, directly covering her figure. The third brother wanted to rush in and kill her, but he was worried that the smoke was poisonous, so he had to stop. When the smoke dissipated, Xing was nowhere to be seen. Looking at the empty surroundings, the third brother said coldly, "Damn, he's not that stupid. He actually ran away. That kid has some ability. You still dare to say that? If you hadn't dawdled just now, he wouldn't have seen your true face." The second brother, who had been silent all this time, said helplessly, "Now he already knows our identity. There will be a lot of trouble in the future. He is seriously injured now. He can't run far. Besides, there are still our people guarding in front. Let's catch up quickly. We have to eliminate the root of the problem. As long as we kill young Master Xing before he escapes back to the open heaven gate, there will be no problem." The leader frowned. After saying that quickly, he immediately strode forward. The second and third brothers also used their movement skills to follow. After the three of them walked far away, a rustling sound came from the grass by the roadside. A figure stood up. It was the injured Xing Las. After throwing the smoke grenade, she didn't run away immediately. Instead, she hid in the grass by the roadside, which fooled the three of them. "So, looks like we can't return to the Awakening Heaven sect for now." Looking in the direction the three left in, little Lady Xing gloomily turned her head and returned to the Demon Star sect. She had heard the conversation between the three people just now. If she continued forward, what awaited her would be an inescapable trap. With her current strength, she would definitely not be able to escape. It was better to return the way she came and hide in the Devil Star sect for a while. She would return after her injuries recovered. Devil Star sect, Yi Xiaoye's room. Yi Xiaoye and Xiao Qin dual cultivated for a while. There were no signs of a breakthrough, so she lost interest. Thinking that Xiao Chen was about to leave, she was reluctant to part with him. She simply stopped cultivating. The two whispered for a while and began to be entangled. Just as the two of them were passionately in love, Xiao Chen was about to advance when he suddenly froze and stopped, as if he sensed something. "Can't be. You're too weak. We haven't even started and you're already done?" Yi Xiaoye waited for a long time, but she didn't see any movement from Xiao Chen. She couldn't help but pout and complain in a low voice. Could it be that the two of them had made love too many times in the past few days that Xiao Chen's physical strength was exhausted? Sure. It seems like someone has snuck in. Stay in the room and don't move. I'll go out and take a look. Xiao Chen's expression was a little solemn. He put on his clothes, got out of bed and ran out the door. Although a beauty was right in front of him, Xiao Chen still didn't let down his guard. His divine perception was constantly released just in case. Just now, he had sensed a trace of familiar demonic aura, so he had made a prompt decision and immediately felt his way over. When Yi Xiaoye heard Xiao Chen's words, she couldn't help but jump in fright. "Really? Don't scare me on purpose." Seeing that Xiao Chen had already rushed out, Yi Xiaoye thought about it, put on her pajamas and followed. She also wanted to see which daring fellow Xiao Chen had discovered. Following the trail of his divine perception, Xiao Chen came to the back garden of the Devil Star sect. After walking around, he faintly felt that the person seemed to be hiding in a room that was piled with junk. Xiao Chen first circulated his yuan qi to protect his entire body, then he carefully walked over and pushed open the door. "Who is it?" Just as the door was pushed open, a vigilant voice came from the woodshed. Xiao Chen felt that this voice was somewhat familiar, so he simply turned on the lights. He was surprised to find that in the corner of the woodshed, little Chick Xing was sitting on the ground, staring at him with vigilance. "Oh, I was wondering who had nothing better to do than barge into the Devil Star sect. So it's young master transvestite. Xiaoqin sized her up and said indifferently. You're the transvestite. Little Chick Xing glared at Xiaoqin with a lack of confidence. Xiaoqin was also a little puzzled. Didn't little Chick Xing already take away the forging materials? She didn't hurry back to Open Heaven Gate, but instead hid here. What tricks was she playing? However, when he saw little Chick Xing's pale face and the trace of blood at the corner of her mouth, he roughly understood what was going on. You took the materials and didn't leave. Instead, you hid in the Devil Star Sect's storeroom. What's wrong with you? I didn't expect that other than playing with your gender, you also like to play with trash. After understanding the reason, Xiaoqin mocked her. Who asked you to play tricks on me before? Now you won't have a good ending. Cough cough. Little Chick Xing coughed awkwardly. Her eyes rolled and she said in a deadpan manner, I just felt that the heaven and earth spiritual chi here is especially abundant, so I wanted to cultivate here for a while. Is that not okay? Do I have to pay you for the use of the site? You're cultivating? I think you're about to go berserk, right? If you want to hide here and cultivate to heal your injuries, just say it. What's the point of talking about such useless things? Xiaoqin rolled his eyes and said in a bad mood. This little chick was clearly injured by someone, yet she still lied with her eyes open. Little Chick Xing was exposed directly. Her face was a little embarrassed. She said angrily, Why do you care? I just borrowed the Devil Star Sect's place to rest for a night. What's the big deal? If you talk nonsense again, believe it or not, I'll beat you until you can't take care of yourself. Aren't you talking nonsense? I'm a disciple of the Devil Star Sect. You borrowed my place to rest. Do you think I can't care? Besides, with your current injuries, you still want to beat me up? Don't accidentally cripple yourself and then sit on the ground crying. Xiaoqin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect this chick to be someone who refused to admit defeat. Little Chick Xing also knew that she was in the wrong, so she simply stopped arguing with Xiaoqin. She pouted and turned her head away. After she was injured, her current strength had basically declined to the Demon King level 1. If she really fought with Xiaoqin, she really wouldn't have any advantage. Therefore, in this situation, she could only choose to be shameless. Xiaoqin, what happened? Yi Xiaoya also walked in at this time. When she realized that it was young Master Xing, her face couldn't help but change. Why is he here? Don't tell me he's here to find trouble with you again? That's not it. This gigolo who is neither a man nor a woman was probably injured by someone. I don't know what's wrong with his brain, but he actually wants to hide here for a night. I was just thinking of chasing him out. Xiaoqin shrugged and explained. You're the gigolo? If it weren't for those people using despicable means to sneak attack me, I wouldn't have been injured. Now all the disciples that came out of our sect are dead, and the forging materials have been stolen. What bad luck. Little Chick Xing thought of what happened just now and frowned. She was very angry in her heart. What made little Miss Xing even more depressed was that not only were the forging materials on her stolen, but she also discovered that she had lost her phone when she arrived here. She didn't know if it was sent flying by those 3 people or if it was lost while she was escaping. Otherwise, she could have called Elder Sun and asked him to find some reinforcements. She originally wanted to sneak into the Devil Star Sect, find a place to heal and hide for a night. In the end, she was discovered by Xiaoqin and found out. She was really unlucky. Forget it, Xiaoqin. Let her stay for a night. It doesn't matter anyway. With Xiaoqin's hint, Yi Xiaoya also saw that young Master Xing was a woman disguised as a man. Although she didn't really like him, she could feel that he didn't have any ill intentions. Seeing a girl beaten up so badly, Yi Xiaoya didn't feel a bit of sympathy. Since no one usually came to this storeroom and she had nothing to do, she might as well lend it to her. Alright, since my wife is so merciful and has spoken, and seeing that you are so down and out, I'll let you off for the time being. Xiaoqin stretched and casually waved his hand. He hugged Yi Xiaoya and prepared to leave. Hey wait. Little Chick Xing suddenly thought of something and hurriedly called out to Xiaoqin, Can you give me some healing medicine? I can buy it with money. Name a price. You're really troublesome. You can't even treat such a small injury. Xiaoqin shook his head in disdain. He took a few steps in front of Little Chick Xing, grabbed her hand and began to heal her. You. Little Chick Xing thought that Xiaoqin was acting indecently. Just as she was about to get angry, she suddenly felt a wave of pure demonic qi enter her body. Only then did she realize that Xiaoqin was using demonic qi to heal her. After a while, Little Chick Xing felt that her injuries were slowly healing. It was no longer a big problem. She was very grateful to Xiao Qin for repaying evil with kindness. She couldn't help but blush and say, "All right. Thank you. I can heal myself now. You don't have to waste any more demonic qi." Chapter 852. I'll be leaving then. Don't be too touched. The healing medicine is too expensive. I'm afraid you won't be able to afford it. Just treat it as you owe me a favor. You can pay me back in the future. Xiao Qin let go of Miss Xing's hand, turned around and left the storeroom, closing the door behind him. You. Miss Xing was both angry and amused. Why is this person so annoying? Even if he's helping others, he's still asking for a beating. Miss Xing's heart was filled with mixed feelings as she watched Xiao Qin shut the door heavily after he left. There was also a hint of warmth in her heart. Are you close to that girl? Yi Xiaoya asked teasingly after he returned to his room. Not really close. It's just that when she went to the research center to steal the forging materials. Xiao Qin shook his head and briefly described how the two of them got to know each other. Oh, I see. I thought the relationship between you and her. Yi Xiaoya raised her eyebrows and made an expression that said, "You know what I mean. TSK, you women are really gossipy. Speaking of which, do you still want that thing? If not, I'm going to sleep. We still have to hurry on the road tomorrow." Xiao Qin said in a bad mood. Of course. Yi Xiaoya quickly turned off the lights and pounced on Xiao Qin. The two of them continued their dual cultivation. The next morning, Xiao Qin got up and released his divine sense to scan the area. He could no longer sense Miss Xing's aura. She must have left. He said goodbye to Yi Xiaoya and Qi Xiangmei and continued driving towards Beijing. Since the forging materials had been stolen, no one would pay attention to Xiao Qin's movements. The rest of the journey was smooth and Xiao Qin smoothly arrived at the research center's headquarters in Beijing. The headquarters' security was very tight. There was a huge military base outside and no one could easily break in. Even if they were martial artists, if they entered recklessly, they would be targeted by missiles and instantly turned into minced meat. After confirming Xiao Qin's identity, the guard immediately opened the door and let him into the research facility. Sun Beikong, the person in charge of the research on forging, was already waiting for him at the entrance after receiving Ling Tian's call. Deputy Bureau Chief Xiao Qin, right? Hello. I'm Sun Beikong, a researcher from the Yenjing Research Institute. Thank you for your hard work. Seeing Xiao Qin come in, Sun Beikong greeted him with a smile. He extended his hand enthusiastically and shook hands with Xiao Qin. Hello, Professor Sun. Nodding his head politely, Xiao Qin embarrassedly smiled. I'm really sorry to have made you wait for so long. There were quite a few problems along the way, or else I could have reached Beijing earlier. Xiao Qin didn't lie. There were many problems along the way and it was basically a platter of schemes and plots. If it wasn't for the fact that Xiao Qin wasn't weak, he would have died along the way. It's a pity that the meteoric iron was stolen. Luckily, I still have the forging materials with me. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to report back. Xiao Qin took out the original copy of the forging materials and handed it to Sun Beikong. In any case, the forging materials that he gave to young Master Xing were trash that the Elder Heaven Ancestor failed in his research. It couldn't be considered as being stolen, so he didn't say anything. As for the meteoric iron, he wanted to use it to make flying swords, so he naturally said that it was stolen. The research institute didn't really need it anyway. Before arriving at Yenjin, Xiao Qin had already spoken to Ling Tian on the phone and told him everything that had happened on the way. However, he skipped the part about handing over the forging materials and only said that he had handed over the meteoric iron. Ling Tian knew that Xiao Qin was surrounded by all the sects in the martial arts world. While he was deeply shocked, he expressed his understanding and gave Sun Beikong a call in advance to explain the situation. Sun Beikong patted Xiao Qin's shoulder. He wasn't unhappy at all, but he praised him. Haha, Bureau Chief Ling has already told me about your recent encounters. Actually, the meteoric iron isn't that important. The key is that you are a rare talent. The most important thing is that you were able to escape from the encirclement of so many people and reach Beijing safely. He felt that Xiao Qin was able to become the Deputy Bureau Chief of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau at such a young age. His future would definitely be limitless. Moreover, he had also experienced the encirclement of various sections. One had to know that those who were sent out to carry out missions were the elites of the elites. It was even more rare that Xiao Qin was able to hand over the forging materials unscathed. You flatter me, Professor Sunday. You are too kind. Xiao Qin replied humbly. All right, I think you must have had a hard time running around these few days. I have already asked someone to prepare a room for you. You can rest here for a few days before you leave. Sun Beikong laughed and waved his hand. He turned around and instructed his subordinates, Xiao Lin, bring Deputy Bureau Chief Xiao Chen to his room to rest. Prepare some lunch and send it over to him. All right, Deputy Bureau Chief Xiao, this way please. Xiao Lin hurriedly walked over and gestured for Xiao Chen to follow him to the staff's dormitory. In the room, Xiao Chen casually ate something. Just as he was about to go out for a stroll out of boredom, he suddenly heard the voice of Elder Heaven Ancestor. Ah, it's finally done. Looks like I'm still pretty awesome. Elder Heaven Ancestor shouted excitedly. It scared Xiao Chen so much that he almost jumped up. He looked around to make sure no one was paying attention to him. He quickly closed the door and turned around to return to the room. Elder Heaven Ancestor, is it really okay for you to always be so surprised? If I get scared to the point of mental illness, no one will be able to take care of you in the future. Xiao Chen muttered helplessly. He didn't know what was wrong with this Elder Heaven Ancestor. He always liked to suddenly scare him. It's okay. Go crazy. Even if you really go crazy, I can cure you. Don't worry. Elder Heaven Ancestor replied casually. He then sent a document to Xiao Chen's mind and said proudly, Xiao Chen, I have compiled the materials for forging the meteoric iron for you. Just follow this method to forge the flying sword. There will definitely be no problem. Master, you are really amazing. I will go and have a look. Xiao Chen was also overjoyed. He quickly sat down and directly entered his divine sense space. After flipping through a few pages, he realized that he didn't understand it at all. He had to call out the flame of the 9 underworlds and let it read the materials. Not long after, the flame of the 9 underworlds finished reading the materials. It took the initiative to ask, Master, I have read it. When do you plan to forge the flying sword? I can start at any time. Then let's do it now. Xiao Chen made a decision. Then he carefully took out the meteoric iron. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked the flame of the 9 underworlds, Nethery, how long do you estimate it will take to forge the flying sword? If it's too long, you can forge it in your room. I have to go out for a walk. Otherwise, people will be suspicious if I stay here. Master, I estimate it will take at least 2 days. The flame of the 9 underworlds thought for a while and gave its answer. Oh, then you can start. I will walk around. Xiao Chen nodded and left the room. He locked the door from the inside to prevent people from entering by mistake. The flame of the 9 underworlds received the order and found a corner to start forging the meteoric iron. Although Xiao Chen was already the deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, it was useless in the headquarters of the Research Institute. There were still many places that he couldn't go to. He could only walk around a limited number of places. Moreover, he didn't know anyone here. Although Sun Beikong was very warm to him, he still had his own things to do. Xiao Chen didn't want to disturb him too often. In the end, he could only stay alone and bored for 2 days. However, the flame of the 9 underworlds was still punctual. When the 2 days were up, it finished forging the flying sword. Seeing that it was a success, Xiao Chen waited for nightfall and used the excuse of returning to Lan City to report. He bid farewell to Sun Beikong and left the headquarters of the Research Institute in Yanjing. Originally, Sun Beikong wanted to let Xiao Chen drive the repaired Jetta back. However, Xiao Chen said that he had driven for too long and didn't want to waste time on the way back. He wanted to fly back, so he left the car behind. Seeing that Xiao Chen said so, Sun Beikong had no choice but to follow his wishes. He sent Xiao Chen to the entrance of the Research Institute's headquarters before bidding farewell reluctantly. Outside the city, Xiao Chen weighed the flying sword that was forged with the meteoric iron in his hand. He realized that not only was it lighter than a normal flying sword, but there was also a mysterious meaning of the heaven and earth Tao in the flying sword. It also felt like he was connected to it so he could use it easily and smoothly. Taking advantage of the night, Xiao Chen stepped on the flying sword that he had forged and sped towards Lan City. Because the flying sword was extremely fast, it didn't take Xiao Chen long to reach his destination. He then went straight to the Supernatural Investigation Bureau to report back. When Ling Tian heard that Xiao Chen had returned, he immediately stopped what he was doing and called him to his office. Xiao Chen, the mission this time was too dangerous. I'm relieved that you came back safe and sound, Xiao Chen said. Ling Tian looked at Xiao Chen with a gratified expression. He wanted to praise this great hero in person. If it wasn't for him, this mission would have ended in failure no matter who it was. Hee Grandpa Ling, you're worrying too much. Although I did meet with quite a bit of trouble on the way to Yanjing, it was more daunting than dangerous. Grandpa Ling, you don't have to worry too much about my safety. Xiaochen waved his hand and smiled. However, at this moment Xiaochen was thinking, if I didn't pass the fake forging information to Xing Las in front of everyone to divert the attention of the various sects, I'm afraid that I would have been bothered for a long time. You can't say it like that. You are my most capable subordinate, and if anything were to happen to you, the strength of our secret investigation department would be greatly reduced. Furthermore, Ling Tian suddenly stopped mid-sentence, a look of hesitation on his face. Chapter 853. Looking at Ling Tian's hesitant expression, Xiaochen asked, Bureau Chief Ling, did something happen again? Just tell me I can handle it. Ling Tian sighed at Xiaochen's words and continued, although you have completed your mission this time, I feel that things may not be over yet. You have to be wary of the people in the inner martial world in case they take revenge on you. What do you mean? Did Bureau Chief Ling receive some news? Xiaochen raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. I have already given away the hot potato of forging information. Why would there still be people from the inner martial world looking for trouble with me? Have they fallen in love with me or something? Ling Tian nodded slightly and pulled open a drawer. He took out an invitation letter and passed it to Xiaochen. With a solemn expression he said, this was sent over by the Kuei Mountain sect 2 days ago. They said that they are going to hold a crusade against the outer martial world and specially invited you to attend. Aha, crusade? To think that they could think of something like that. What the heck is this? Xiaochen took a look at the invitation letter and could not help but laugh as he shook his head. There were a few lines of flamboyant words written on the gilded invitation letter. Recently, something tragic happened in the outer world of martial arts. The sect master of the outer world's demon sect, Xiaochen, who had just been elected, was actually openly robbed by the various sects. This is really infuriating and exasperating. Because of this matter, the Kuei Mountain sect has decided to hold a crusade against these shameless sects that participated in the robbery. This crusade will be held at the Kuei Mountain sect on XX month XX day XX year. At the same time, the current devil sect leader, Xiaochen, will be invited to host the event. I feel that this matter is definitely not that simple. It could be a plot by the Kuei Mountain sect. Why don't you go? Ling Tian did not laugh with Xiaochen. Instead he frowned and said. Xiaochen did not think much of it. Instead, he patted the invitation letter in his hands and said, since there is such a fun event, of course I have to go. Besides, I have some personal grudges with the Kuei Mountain faction. This is a good opportunity to settle the score with them. Xiaochen was no fool. Although he did not know the purpose of the Kuei Mountain sect's actions, he was certain that it was not to stand up for him and punish some evil sect. But if they really wanted to deal with him, they wouldn't give up just because he didn't attend the subjugation assembly. Why didn't he give them a chance and see what these clowns were up to? In addition, Xiaochen missed Miss Cheng Menjing quite a bit. He wanted to take this opportunity to see how she was doing. If he could rescue her from the Quishan sect, that would be even better. Although Xiaochen had successfully fought for the 3-year promise with the help of Vice President Nian, with his current identity as the Deputy Director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau and the sect leader of the Demon Sect, he could simply ignore the original promise and barge into the Quishan sect to take Cheng Menjing away. Another important point was that to the people of the martial arts world, strength was the symbol of everything. Back then, Xiaochen's cultivation had not reached his current level, so even with his various identities he could not openly oppose the Quishan sect. However, things were different now. Now Xiaochen had the full support of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Although the title of the demon sect leader was just an empty shell, he already had the strength equivalent to the peak of the second stage of the Demon King. This level was enough to look down on the entire martial arts world. Therefore, even if he openly stepped into the Quishan sect and took Cheng Menjing away, Xiaochen did not have the slightest bit of fear. In the Quishan sect, Ma Peizha was gloomily preparing for the crusade. Although he thought for a long time, he did not understand why such a meaningless meeting was held. However, since it was an order arranged by the higher-ups, he could only execute it obediently. While he was busy, Ma Baobao's cell phone suddenly rang. He looked at the caller ID and quickly picked it up. He said in a respectful tone, "Elder son, the preparation for the crusade has come to an end. I've also informed the heads of all the sections. I guarantee that it will be a great event to attract people's attention. Do you have any other instructions?" "Well, Shama, has Xiaochen replied to you?" Elder son asked faintly on the other end of the phone. I have already sent someone to send him an invitation. I think he should come after receiving it. After all. Ma Peja was immediately interrupted by Elder Sun before he could finish his sentence. Should? What do you mean by should? How do you do things? Didn't I tell you that you must invite Xiaoqin? Don't you know what must means? He is the protagonist of this crusade. If we can't confirm whether he will come or not, then what's the use of holding this meeting? Elder Sun flew into a rage and scolded sternly. But I don't have his phone number. So I can't contact him directly. I can only… Ma Peja felt a little wronged and wanted to refute. But Elder Sun did not give him any chance at all. He interrupted again. You don't have his number. Are you waiting for me to help you find him? Elder Sun's cold tone made Ma Peja quiver. He quickly said, No need. I will definitely complete the task well. Make sure Xiaoqin arrives on time. Elder Sun snorted coldly and said, That's good. Let me tell you, no matter what method you use, you must invite Xiaoqin here. Otherwise, you can forget about being the sect lord. Having said that, Elder Sun hung up the phone. When Ma Peja heard the beeping sound from the phone, he could not help but shiver. Although he was incomparably depressed, he had no other way. He could only order someone to quickly search for Xiaoqin's contact information. In fact, Ma Peja did not know that holding this crusade to denounce Xiaoqin was fake. The real purpose was to highlight the position of the demon sect lord of the martial arts world. And this was precisely the dirty trick that Situ Qiqian thought of. Situ Qiqian originally wanted to use the forging information to frame Xiaoqin so as to lure out those people behind him. In the end, the scene that Situ Qiqian expected did not appear. Instead, he was schemed against by Xiaoqin. This fellow actually gave the forging information to Little Chick Xing directly, making Awakening Heaven sect the target of public criticism. Little Chick Xing fled for a night and finally returned to Awakening Heaven sect with great difficulty. After knowing about this, Situ Qiqian was so angry that he stomped his feet. Other than issuing a kill order to recover the forging information, he also hated the cunning Xiaoqin to the core. He wanted nothing more than to cut him into pieces and feed him to the dogs. But now that things had come to this, Situ Qiqian could only think of other ways to frame Xiaoqin. That was why he had previously asked Elder Sun to call the people from the Kuei Mountain sect and let them hold a crusade. On the surface, it seemed to be to denounce those sects for robbing Xiaoqin. The dignified demon sect lord of the martial arts world was actually robbed. It was obvious that they did not respect the Kuei Mountain sect. The real purpose was actually to emphasize Xiaoqin's identity and thus lure out those people. It was precisely because Awakening Heaven sect placed great importance on this crusade that when Elder Sun heard that Xiaoqin might not necessarily show up, he scolded Ma Peja. Xiaoqin was the main character of the crusade. If he did not show up, who was he going to perform for? After bidding farewell to Ling Tian, Xiaoqin was about to return to his dormitory to rest when his phone suddenly rang. Hello, who is this? Xiaoqin realized that it was an unfamiliar number, so he asked calmly. Haha, hero Xiaoqin, I'm Ma Peja from the Kuei Mountain sect. We met once during the demon sect lord election. Do you still remember me? Ma Peja pinched his nose and laughed it off. Oh, it's you. Why are you looking for me? Do you want me to beat up your son again? Xiaoqin was amused. How could he not guess what this guy wanted to do? However, Xiaoqin did not have a good impression of the people from the Kuei Mountain sect. These people had been constantly coming up with ways to frame him since he had not started cultivating. First it was Chao Yuliang, then Qin Jinpeng, then Qing Zhongfan and Qing Mingqiang. It was endless. If not for the fortuitous encounter, perhaps Xiaoqin would have died in their hands long ago. And that Yao Baoong, a toad lusting after a swan's flesh, dreaming of marrying Miss Cheng as his wife. I wonder if this guy's horse fever has flared up. If he is still alive, I can send him on his way to the Kuei Mountain sect. Hero Xiaoqin, you really know how to joke. Ma Peja's expression changed. Just as he was about to flare up, he suddenly remembered the strict order from his superior. He could only suppress his anger and said with a smile, I just want to confirm if you have received the invitation from the Kuei Mountain sect. We warmly invite you to come. If it is convenient for you, I will send someone to fetch you to the crusade conference. Oh, I have received the invitation, but… Xiaoqin dragged out the last word. But what? You have any request, hero Xiaoqin, please let us know. If the Kuei Mountain sect is able to fulfill it, we will definitely help you fulfill it. Ma Peja was very nervous and asked hurriedly, fearing that Xiaoqin would come up with something again. But you don't seem to know the rules? Don't you know that I have to pay an appearance fee when I'm invited? Since you are so insincere, I don't think I need to go. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth twitched and he said with a faint smile. Don't, isn't it just an appearance fee? We can afford it, just name your price. Ma Peja hurriedly agreed, but in his heart he was cursing Xiao Chen for being a leech. This guy is too shameless. I was kind enough to stand up for you, but you don't thank me. Instead you want me to pay you? How the F***ck am I supposed to reason with you? Oh, since you are so sincere then I won't ask for more. I'll give you a discount. 500 million. Once the money is in my account I will go over. Xiao Chen said lightly. He did not lack money at all. He just wanted to disgust Ma Peja a little. 500 million? Ma Peja gasped. Was he kidding? The Kuei mountain sect's annual income was only a little over $1 billion, and Xiao Chen directly asked for a third of it. What a scam. Chapter 854. What? Do you have any objections? Xiao Chen asked in return. No. I'll transfer the money to you right now. You can check the account later. Ma Peizhao said with a twisted face and gritted teeth. Ma Peizhao was angry and hateful, but he did not dare to refuse. If he angered Xiao Chen and did not come, he would not be able to bear the consequences if the higher-ups blamed him. Hurry up. Xiao Chen replied and hung up the phone. He walked leisurely in the direction of the dormitory. Ma Peizhao first cursed at the sky 3 times, then helplessly transferred the money. Then he quickly called Xiao Chen. As soon as the phone was connected, before he could speak, he heard Xiao Chen say, All right, I've received the appearance fee. You don't have to come and pick me up. I'll call a DD car. Don't forget to reimburse me. That's all. After that, Xiao Chen hung up the phone. Xiao. Ma Peizhao had just opened his mouth when he heard the busy tone from the other end of the phone. He was so angry that he smashed the phone. F***ck, I gave you so much money and you still want to reimburse me? When you come, I'll teach you a lesson. Ma Peizhao yelled at the broken phone. Although Awakening Sect had strictly ordered him not to lay a hand on Xiao Chen, Ma Peizhao thought that he had ways to deal with him. Anyway, it was fine as long as he did not kill him. Xiao Chen only stayed in the dormitory for 1 night. The next day he was ready to leave for the Quishan sect. Although there were still some days before the start of the crusade, the purpose of his trip to the Quishan sect was to visit Miss Cheng Menjing, not to participate in the conference. So, he might as well go there early. While the sky was still dark, Xiao Chen did not alert anyone. He drove his flying sword to the vicinity of the Quishan sect. After confirming that he was not being followed, he kept his flying sword and swaggered towards the gate of the Quishan sect. Stop. Who are you? Which sect are you from? What is your purpose in coming to the Kuei Mountain sect? When the disciple guarding the door saw a young man walking over, he immediately stopped him. With a vigilant expression, he interrogated him without any explanation. Oh, I'm Xiao Chen, a disciple of the Devil Star sect. I'm here to participate in the crusade, Xiao Chen replied unhurriedly. Demon Star sect? Xiao Chen? The gatekeeping disciple was taken aback. He felt that the name sounded familiar, but he couldn't recall where he had heard it. He took out the guest list he had received in the morning and flipped through it several times. He realized that there was no record of the Devil Star sect's name. Stop staring. I'm a VIP guest invited by Ma Baozhu. Just go and inform him and ask him to come out and welcome me. Xiao Chen waved his hand and said. These people from the Kuei Mountain sect were too blind. As the leader of a demonic sect, they didn't recognize him at all. Xiao Chen didn't know if they were pretending or not. Oh, you talk big, huh? You want our sect leader to come out and welcome you personally? How arrogant. Your Devil Star sect isn't on the guest list, and you have the nerve to come and join in the fun. The gatekeeping disciple confirmed again and was sure that Xiao Chen was here to fish in troubled waters. He chased him away impatiently. Get lost. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Xiao Chen laughed coldly. You're just a gatekeeping disciple. Why are you pretending to be a big shot? Get Ma Baozhu out now or you'll have to bear the consequences. The gatekeeping disciple jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He hated people calling him a gatekeeping disciple the most. Now that he was being insulted by an unknown brat, he was furious. Are you trying to scare me? The gatekeeping disciple glared at Xiao Chen and scolded, This is the Kuei Mountain sect, not your Devil Star sect's countryside. Look at your tattered clothes, do you really think you're somebody? Get lost now. You can look down on me and my clothes, but you can't look down on my sect. Xiao Chen's words baffled the gatekeeping disciple, but in the next second, a foot flew over. Ow! The gatekeeping disciple was scolding to his heart's content. One of his fingers was still pointing. Caught off guard, he was sent flying and landed on the ground not far away. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he lay motionless. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The commotion was so huge that many of the Kuei Mountain sect disciples who were cultivating were startled. When they came out to take a look, they found the disciple guarding the door lying on the ground like a dead dog. There was a sloppy-looking guy standing outside the door. Someone was causing trouble? The disciples rushed over and surrounded Xiao Chen. Some even ran into the sect to inform the sect leader, Ma Baozhu. Brat, you've got guts. How dare you cause trouble in the Kuei Mountain sect? Are you tired of living? You're blind, you dog. Is the Kuei Mountain sect a place for you to behave atrociously? Don't you want your eyes anymore? Brothers, keep an eye on this fellow. We'll deal with him when the sect leader arrives. The crowd cursed, but no one dared to make a move. The gatekeeping disciple was still lying on the ground. They were not stupid. They knew they were no match for Xiao Chen, so they only surrounded him from afar. Xiao Chen was attacked by a group of people, but he did not care. He looked around, smiled contemptuously, and turned to leave. When the disciples saw Xiao Chen turn and leave without a word, they thought Xiao Chen was afraid of them. They became arrogant and mocked him even louder. Coward. Now you know what fear is. I thought you'd be more awesome. You only dare to bully the weak. You've become timid after seeing so many people. Trash. You want to leave after hurting the Kuei Mountain sect's disciple. When the sect leader arrives, he'll cut you into pieces. Scum. That's right. It's useless for you to run. The sect leader will catch up to you in an instant. All of you shut up. A thunderous roar came from behind them and the cursing stopped immediately. It was the sect leader, Ma Baizha, who had arrived. The disciples eagerly opened up a path for him. Ma Wuxia rushed towards Xiao Chen with large strides. The disciples all felt that it was very praiseworthy. The sect leader was indeed powerful. As expected, he wouldn't let Xiao Chen off. The disciple who spoke earlier said, "Look, didn't I say that the sect leader would chase this coward in seconds?" Ma Baizha did catch up with him in seconds. However, after catching up, he turned around and scolded them, "Are you blind? How dare you offend the new evil cult master and embarrass yourself here? Hurry up and go back. You'll all be grounded today. Face the wall and reflect on your mistakes." Gah. The Kuei Mountain sect's disciples were about to complain. Some of them had already prepared a script, but when they heard the sect leader's words, they were dumbfounded. Their mouths were agape and their eyes were wide open. Didn't you hear what I said? Ma Baizha was furious when he saw the disciples' insolence. Only then did the disciples come to their senses. They were frightened by the sect leader's rage. They scattered like birds and beasts, covering their heads and scurrying away. They went back to the sect to reflect on their mistakes. Ma Baizha, it seems like the Kuei Mountain sect doesn't welcome me as a guest. If that's the case, I'd better leave lest I get scolded here. Sai, it's a good thing that I'm a well-mannered sect leader. If it were me when I was younger, I'd have killed these people with one slap. Xiao Chen sighed and pretended to leave. Ma Baizha cursed in his heart. Kill your mother. You were almost killed by Cheng Mingqiang and Chao Yuliang. If it weren't for your sudden increase in strength, you would have disappeared by now. However, when he saw that Xiao Chen was really going to leave, he panicked. He quickly grabbed Xiao Chen's arm and said with a fawning expression, "Hero Xiao Chen, please don't say that. Please be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to the same level as those servants. They were blind and didn't recognize you. I've already dealt with them." When he heard the news just now, Ma Wuxia was really quite frightened in his heart. He rushed over like a madman. If this group of little bastards really chased Xiao Chen away, he was afraid that his position as sect master would come to an end. I see. Xiao Chen looked a little hesitant, but he finally nodded and said calmly, "All right. Then I'll reluctantly forgive the Kuei Mountain sect for Grandpa Cheng's sake. I hope there won't be a next time." No, absolutely not. Seeing that Xiao Chen had finally agreed to stay, Ma Baizha heaved a sigh of relief and said gratefully, "Old Master Cheng has always been treated as a distinguished guest here. Since Hero Xiao Chen has said so, I must pay him a proper visit some other day." Although Ma Baizha didn't know why Xiao Chen wanted to give Cheng Tianqiu face, it didn't matter. Since Xiao Chen was willing to stay, of course he had to go along with it. Xiao Chen hummed in acknowledgement and nodded without saying a word. Ma Baizha smiled politely and said, Hero Xiaochen, you came too suddenly. Our servants haven't had time to prepare a place for you to stay. Why don't we have lunch first? I've already asked people to prepare food and wine. Oh, don't bother. Just bring me to Grandpa Cheng's place and then we can prepare for the crusade. Xiaochen waved his hand at Ma Baizha as if he was dismissing a servant and said calmly, I'll stay with Grandpa Cheng. You said that food and wine are ready, right? Then ask someone to bring them over. I also want to have a meal with Grandpa Cheng and Miss Cheng. Ma Baizha was so angry that his teeth were itching. When had he ever been given such a cold shoulder? No matter what, Xiaochen was the organizer of the crusade, yet Xiaochen did not give him any face at all. He was so arrogant. But he couldn't lose his temper, so he could only smile and give his orders. Then he brought Xiaochen to the Cheng family's side courtyard. Since Xiaochen was willing to stay there, Ma Baizha was happy to be at ease. He had been quite busy recently anyway, and it was better to have less trouble. Xiaochen could go wherever he wanted, as long as he stayed in the Kuei Mountain sect. Before Xiaochen arrived at the Cheng family's side courtyard, the disciples had already served the food. Cheng Qianqiu stood there in a daze, not knowing what was going on. Could it be that the Kuei Mountain sect was being kind and wanted to improve their food? Chapter 855. Suddenly hearing voices outside the courtyard, Cheng Qianqiu raised his head and saw that it was actually Ma Wuxia walking in, and there was a familiar-looking young man beside him. Was it Xiaochen? Xiaochen? Why are you here? Cheng Qianqiu did not bother to greet Ma Wuxia and said with some surprise. When Xiaochen saw Cheng Qianqiu walking over, he said with a smile, Hello, Grandpa Cheng. Ma Wuxia also took a few steps forward, grabbed Cheng Qianqiu's arm and said with a face full of enthusiasm, Hello, old Master Cheng. Thank you so much for your help today. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have been able to keep Hero Xiaochen. I'll remember your kindness. Cheng Qianqiu was dumbfounded when he heard this. What was this all about? I'm under house arrest here and I've just met Xiaochen. How did I help? How did I help? Xiaochen smiled faintly, took a step forward and explained the whole matter in a soft voice. Only then did Cheng Qianqiu come to a sudden realization, and the way he looked at Xiaochen also changed. Xiaochen said this in front of Ma Wuxia. It was clear that he wanted to do him a favor. Recalling the things he did to Xiaochen in the past, not only did Xiaochen not bear a grudge, but he returned evil with kindness. Cheng Qianqiu suddenly felt a little ashamed. I've been very busy these days and didn't have time to care about old Master Cheng's matters. If these servants didn't take good care of you before, I apologize on their behalf. Although Ma Wuxia was cursing in his heart, he still said sincerely on the surface. You flatter me. This old man wasn't able to help much. Cheng Qianqiu forcefully suppressed his excitement and replied with an indifferent expression. Previously, Cheng Qianqiu was suddenly reduced from the head of the first aristocratic family in Songning to a weak vassal of the Kuei Mountain sect, and was even under house arrest in a small courtyard. This strong sense of difference made it difficult for Cheng Qianqiu to calm down. In the past, Ma Wuxia would not even look him in the eye. But today, after personally witnessing Ma Minqiu praising and apologizing to him, Cheng Qianqiu felt all the gloominess in his heart was swept away. He felt refreshed and delighted. This was all thanks to Xiaochen. Alright, I still have something to do so I won't disturb your chat. The food is ready. If there's anything else you need, Hero Xiaochen, just ask your disciple to look for me. Ma Wuxia smiled embarrassedly and patted Xiaochen's shoulder in a seemingly happy manner. He really couldn't stay any longer. He couldn't stand either Xiaochen or Cheng Qianqiu, but they still had to smile and act like grandsons. Ma Wuxia didn't even want to eat and wanted to leave as soon as possible. Oh, then hurry up and leave. I'll call you if there's anything. Xiaochen waved his hand casually and pulled Cheng Qianqiu into the courtyard, leaving only a handsome back view for Ma Wuxia. Ma Wuxia was so angry that he gnashed his teeth and stared at Xiaochen's back view. After a long time he finally swallowed his anger and turned to leave. Xiaochen and Cheng Qianqiu walked into the courtyard talking and laughing. He looked around but he didn't find Cheng Minjing, Cheng Zhongfan and Cheng Mingqiang. Grandpa Cheng, why didn't Uncle Cheng and Minjing come to eat with us? Xiaochen was a little puzzled. He had been here for so long, but why was Cheng Qianqiu the only one in the courtyard? Where were the others? I've already asked someone to inform Zhongming he should be here soon. Minjing is practicing in the house. Cheng Qianqiu explained with a smile. Oh, what about Cheng Zhongfan and Cheng Mingqiang? Where did they go? Xiaochen nodded his head. Knitting his brows, Qing Tianqiu sighed and said angrily, "Don't mention those two fellows. Ever since they fell out they rarely appear here. Don't mind it too much. I think it's a good thing that they left. At least you can't see them. Out of sight, out of mind, right?" Xiao Qin shrugged his shoulders and chuckled. Speaking of which, he still had to thank Qing Zhongfan and Qing Mingqiang. If it wasn't for those two clowns who kept causing trouble for him, perhaps he wouldn't have what he has today. Sigh, Xiao Qin, I've thought about it a lot. No matter what, it's our Qing family that has let you down. In the past, I was also blinded by anger and instigated by that bastard, Qing Zhongfan. That's why I did those things against you and the Xiao family. Qing Tianqiu sighed with guilt in his heart. Grandpa Qing, it's all in the past. You don't have to blame yourself too much. After all, the Qishan sect and Qing Zhongfan are the main culprits. I'll settle this account with them sooner or later. But don't worry, I'll never implicate the other members of the Qing family, Xiao Qin said in a low voice. Looking at Qing Tianqiu's aged cheeks, gray hair and hunched body, Xiao Qin was filled with emotions. He never imagined that the Qing family's patriarch, Qing Tianqiu, would fall to such a state. Fate really made fools of people. You don't have to comfort me. I've never expected you to forgive me. I only have one hope for you, and that is to ask you to take good care of Menjing from now on. Ma Longting and Yao Baoang have always wanted her, but Menjing is smart and never let them succeed. At this point, Qing Tianqiu also revealed a gratified smile. No matter what, his granddaughter was finally born. Taking a deep breath, Qing Tianqiu patted Xiao Qin's shoulder and said earnestly, "Xiao Qin, I have a request for you to come to the Qishan sect this time. If there's a chance, take Menjing away. Don't let her stay here and suffer." Grandpa Qing, don't worry. I'm here this time for her. Xiao Qin smiled faintly, but in his heart, he was cursing Yao Baoang and Ma Longting. Good. I'm relieved to hear that. Anyway, my old bones don't matter. As long as Menjing can live happily in the future, that's my biggest wish. Qing Tianqiu nodded and said contentedly. Xiao Qin, you're here? At this time, Qing Zhongming had already received the news and rushed over. He was very happy to see Xiao Qin and exchanged a few pleasantries. Realizing that Qing Menjing had not come out yet, he quickly said, "You guys chat first, I'll go get Menjing. If she knows that you're here, she'll be very happy." "Uncle Qing, you sit here, I'll go find her." Xiao Qin stood up, pulled Qing Zhongming and walked to the backyard alone, intending to give the young mistress a surprise. "Okay, she lives in the room on the east side of the backyard." Qing Zhongming understood and reminded him with a smile. "Okay, I got it," Xiao Qin replied. In fact, he had already locked Qing Menjing's position with his divine sense. Even if Qing Zhongming didn't say it, he would never go the wrong way. After a few steps through the backyard garden, Xiao Qin came to Qing Menjing's room. He raised his hand and gently knocked on the door twice. "Please come in." "Wait. Don't come in first." Qing Menjing first shouted casually, but suddenly her tone changed and she hurriedly stopped him, but it was too late. Xiao Qin had already opened the door at this time. Although it was locked, the lock was useless to Xiao Qin. "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were changing clothes." Looking at the scene in front of him, Xiao Qin suddenly felt a little embarrassed. He blushed and explained with his eyes wide open. In the room, he saw that Qing Menjing's upper body was in a state of no clothes, and her lower body was only wearing a pair of panties. Although her back was facing him, the smooth back and tight buttocks were clearly visible. Xiao Qin was stunned by this beautiful scene. He looked at it intently and his lower abdomen couldn't help but raise a nefarious fire, but under his effort to circulate his primordial qi, he finally managed to suppress it. However, his heart was still beating rapidly. After all, this scene was too beautiful. Ah! Qing Menjing felt a cold wind and knew that someone had opened the door. She first screamed, squatted down with her hands in front of her chest, and then turned her head and shouted, "Damn Xiao Qin! What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and close the door for me." But after shouting, Qing Menjing suddenly froze. "The person in front of me is Xiao Qin? How could Xiao Qin appear in my room? Could it be that I'm too tired from cultivating recently, so I'm possessed by the devil and have an illusion?" Okay. Xiao Qin came back to his senses and was also shocked. He quickly turned around and quickly closed the door. Then he couldn't help but take a deep breath to calm down the excitement in his heart. "Did you do it on purpose? I asked you to go out and then close the door. If you stay here, how can I change clothes?" "You're really stupid." Qing Menjing suddenly became anxious. She couldn't wait to poke Xiao Qian's head. Although she was a little surprised by the arrival of Xiao Qin and a little happy, it didn't mean that she could accept seeing him openly. Sorry. I'll go out now. Xiao Qin smiled awkwardly. He wanted to open the door again, but just as his hand held the door handle, Qing Minjing hurriedly stopped him. You're crazy. Don't open the door again. Do you want me to be seen by others again? Hurry up and pull up the curtain behind you. I want to change clothes. All right, I got it. Xiao Qin's forehead was covered in sweat. He was really confused. He didn't dare to turn around and walked backward. Relying on his divine sense, he accurately pulled up the curtain between the two with one hand behind his back. Phew, Qing Minjing was slightly relieved. She turned her head and quickly picked up the clothes on the bed. While putting on the clothes, she stared at the curtain with vigilance and warned, "You better behave. Don't think about taking the opportunity to open the curtain. Otherwise I won't be polite. I'm also a martial arts master now." Ahem, you think too much. There are plenty of opportunities at home. I didn't peep. Xiao Qin spread out his hands and turned around with an innocent face. Although there was a curtain between the two, the light behind the curtain perfectly projected Qing Minjing's shadow. Her exquisite figure was curvy and beautiful like a silhouette. Even the process of her putting on the clothes was incomparably elegant. There was a different kind of hazy beauty. With such a beautiful scene in front of him, Xiao Qin certainly wouldn't destroy it. Instead, he looked at it intently and subconsciously swallowed his saliva. Chapter 856. Very soon, Qing Minjing put on her clothes and came out from the other side of the curtain. When she saw Xiao Qin's perverted appearance, she could not help but frown and ask, What did you see just now? Don't lie and tell me the truth." Xiao Qin scratched his head and said honestly, "Actually, it's nothing much. I just think that your back view is pretty good, but your taste in tight-fitting underwear is a little weird." He really didn't expect Miss Cheng's underwear to have a Doraemon pattern. Ew. What do you know? I like Doraemon. Qing Minjing was about to lose her temper, but she still pouted and muttered. Hearing Xiao Qin complimenting her back, she was actually a little happy. Qing Minjing suddenly remembered something important and quickly asked, "By the way, why did you come to the Quishan sect?" She was busy with cultivation all day and didn't want to see those annoying guys, so she wasn't well informed. She was also confused about Xiao Qin's recent situation. I thought you already knew. I'm here for..." Xiao Qin told her about the crusade. However, in order to explain the origin of the crusade, Xiao Qin simply told her about his recent experience. Only then did Qing Minjing understand the cause and effect. "What? You're already a cultivator at the peak of the second level of the Devil King?" Qing Minjing was a little shocked after listening. She didn't expect the useless Xiao Qin who couldn't cultivate to be so powerful now. "Hehe, how is it? Are you envious of me? Do you regret breaking off the engagement?" Xiao Qin looked at Qing Minjing's shocked expression and said proudly. Qing Minjing looked at Xiao Qin's smug expression and snorted angrily. She pouted and said, "What's so great about it? I've also cultivated the Weaver's Heart Sutra and now have the strength of the first level of the Devil Master. It won't be long before I surpass you." Ni's Heart Sutra? The name of this mental cultivation method is quite unique. Could it be that her uncle invented it? Xiao Qin held his chin and said thoughtfully, "It's the Weaver's Heart Sutra. What are you thinking about? How uncultured, country bumpkin." Qing Minjing cast a sidelong glance at Xiao Qin in annoyance. Just as she was about to mock him again, the door was heavily kicked open with a bang. The two of them turned their heads and found that it was Yao Baoang who had rushed in angrily. As soon as he came in, he pointed at Qing Minjing and scolded, "Qing Minjing, you be asterisk, he says my wife, you're too shameless. He actually dared to be alone with Xiao Qin behind my back. I already knew that there was something wrong with you too, and now I've caught you red-handed. What else do you have to say?" When Xiao Qin was stopped at the door, he did not go out, so he did not know what happened. Later, he found out that Xiao Qin came to the Quishan sect and went directly to the Cheng family's side courtyard. Yao Baoang immediately felt that something was wrong and immediately rushed over. He rushed into the Cheng family's side courtyard and found that there were only Qing Tianqiu and Qing Zhongming in the dining room, so he went straight to Qing Minjing's room. Qing Zhongming originally wanted to stop him, but he was held back by Qing Tianqiu. In Qing Tianqiu's view, with Xiao Qin's strength, the current Yao Baoang was nothing at all. Yao Baoang had just approached when he heard Xiao Qin and Qing Minjing's laughter coming from inside, and they even said something about tight panties. He was instantly enraged and there seemed to be a hint of green on top of his head. He could not help but break the door and enter. Yao Baoang, what's wrong with you? When did I become your wife? Did you take the wrong medicine? Seeing Yao Baoang's fierce look, Qing Minjing was also angry and gritted her teeth. Yao Baoang came to her every 2 or 3 days, and he always said something irrelevant, which annoyed Qing Minjing to death. Usually it was fine, but now Xiaoqin was here. What if he misunderstood? Wow. You still don't admit it? You green tea B asterisk TCH, scheming B asterisk TCH. What? Yao Baoang's nose was crooked, and he was about to scold her again. Suddenly he was grabbed by the neck and then he was thrown out of the room with a strong force. I didn't kill you directly because I didn't want to dirty the room. Don't be so shameless. Get out of here. Xiaoqin patted his hand and threatened Yao Baoang, who fell on the ground. Your name is really funny. Why don't you call yourself Duck Neck King? When Xiaoqin saw Yao Baoang's indignant expression, he could not be bothered to waste his breath on him. He directly revealed his strength. Ah, you are at the peak of the 2nd level of the Demon King. Yao Baoang climbed up. He originally wanted to scold again, but he suddenly withered when he saw this. He braced himself and said, Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you are strong. If you dare to touch me, sect leader Ma and my master, Elder Li, will definitely not let you go. Pa. As soon as Yao Baoang finished speaking, Xiaoqin strode forward, waved his hand and slapped Yao Baoang's left cheek. Yao Baoang's left cheek suddenly swelled up. I don't agree with your point of view, but I swear to defend my right to punish you. Xiaoqin crossed his arms in front of his chest and shook his legs like a playboy. He squinted at Yao Baoang. Don't mention beating you. Even if I kill you, Ma Minxiao won't say anything. If you don't believe me, why don't you try? Very good. Remember this isn't over. Yao Baoang covered his swollen face and said, You, for a long time. Finally he left a harsh sentence and ran away. He had to leave. With Xiaoqin's current strength, he might really kill him if he was unhappy. Xiaoqin, you are now a guest invited by Ma Minxiao. Isn't it inappropriate to offend a disciple of the Qixin sect? Qing Minjing was a little worried. Although Xiaoqin's current strength was indeed very high, he couldn't go against the entire sect. It's nothing. Don't worry. Ma Minxiao doesn't care about such a small matter. Besides, he wouldn't dare to do anything to me. Xiaoqin shrugged and said nonchalantly, All right, Missy, let's go eat. Grandpa Cheng and Uncle Cheng are still waiting. Qing Minjing hesitated for a moment, but she still nodded. Since Xiaoqin was so sure, she didn't say anything else. She had an inexplicable sense of trust in Xiaoqin. Qing Minjing and Xiaoqin walked toward the dining hall. When they saw Qing Tianxiu and Qing Zhongming, they didn't say much. The family sat down to eat happily. Yao Baoang returned to his room dejectedly, feeling very gloomy. He had gone to look for his master, Elder Li, and told him about how Xiaoqin had beaten him up with an aggrieved expression. He had hoped that Elder Li would stand up for him, but to his surprise, not only did Elder Li have no intention of helping him, but he even reprimanded him. He even said that Xiaoqin was an honored guest of the Kuei Mountain sect and that he was not allowed to disturb him, or else he would have to bear the consequences. Yao Baoang recalled how his master didn't stand up for him after he was slapped by Xiaoqin. Instead, he scolded him harshly. Yao Baoang had nowhere to vent his anger. After thinking about it, he simply pulled a servant girl from the sect, closed the door and forced himself on her. He only let it go after ravaging her mercilessly. Anyway, even if he touched such a servant, he could just give her some benefits afterward. It wasn't a big deal in the sect. Previously, he was afraid that Qing Minjing would use this reason to break up with him, so he didn't dare to mess around. But now that they had fallen out, there was nothing to be afraid of. That night, Xiaoqin stayed in the Qing family. Of course, he stayed in the guest room. It was not appropriate for him to harass Miss Cheng. The next morning, Xiaoqin was woken up by the noise. He found a disciple of the Qixin sect and asked about it. It turned out that Yao Baoang was found dead on the bed in the room early in the morning. After the diagnosis of the sect's doctor, it was found that he died of an inexplicable stroke on horseback. Xiaoqin was stunned when he heard the news. Then he remembered that before Yao Baoang left Songning a while ago, he did tamper with his Xinshui acupoint. As long as he dared to fool around, he would die of kidney deficiency. But his father, Xiao Yao, was dead and Yao Baoang didn't move. Xiaoqin thought that he had failed to do it in a hurry. Now it seemed that Yao Baoang died because he was scolded by him yesterday, and then he couldn't help but find a woman to vent his desire. So, Since Yao Baoang was dead, did it mean that the engagement between him and Qing Menjing was invalid? The Qishan sect couldn't let Qing Menjing go to Minghan, could it? Wasn't the reason why the Qing family was put under house arrest in the Qishan sect because they couldn't reach an agreement on this engagement? Since the engagement was invalid, did it mean that they could leave? Thinking of this, Xiaoqun put away his thoughts and immediately ordered the disciples of the Qishan sect to find their sect master, Ma Peizha. Hero Xiaoqun, do you have any instructions for me since you called me here in such a hurry? After receiving the news, Ma Peizha hurried over, followed by Ma Lianting. Both of them wanted to know what tricks Xiaoqun was up to. After all, Xiaoqun was their distinguished guest. If they were to neglect him, they would definitely suffer. Oh, it's nothing serious. I heard that Yao Baoang kicked the bucket, so I specifically called you here to discuss the engagement between him and Qing Menjing. When Xiaoqun saw Ma Peizha coming over, he didn't get up to greet him. Instead, he sat down casually and spoke unhurriedly. Qing Tianxiu and Qing Zhongming also sat quietly at the side. Both of them knew very well what Xiaoqun's purpose was. They knew that he was helping the Qing family, so they didn't interrupt and let Xiaoqun express himself in silence. On the other side, Qing Menjing was confused. She didn't know what Xiaoqun was up to. Why did he suddenly bring up the engagement? However, since he had called her here, she would listen to him first. Since Yao Baoang is dead, then the engagement between Miss Cheng and Yao Baoang is naturally invalid. Ma Peizha said with a smile. He was not stupid and quickly guessed Xiaoqun's intention. Wasn't it to cancel the engagement? This was not a problem at all. As long as Xiaoqun stayed here, nothing else mattered. Chapter 857. Master Ma is indeed a wise man. Xiaoqun nodded with satisfaction, then asked, in that case the Qing family shouldn't have to stay in the Qishan sect anymore, right? Anyway, the engagement has been cancelled, so there's no point for them to stay here, right? The main purpose of Xiaoqun's trip was to take the Qing family away. He didn't care about the crusade at all. Yao Baoang's accidental death could be said to have indirectly helped him a lot. Otherwise he really didn't know where to start. Of course. Master Xiaoqun, you're right. I'll send someone to send them back to Songning City. I guarantee their safety. Ma Dehizi quickly agreed. In his opinion, as long as Xiaoqun was willing to stay, it didn't matter whether the Qing family was there or not. He also had no reason to offend Xiaoqun because of such a small matter. It was better to do him a favor, and maybe he could even get a reward in front of the higher-ups. Wait. Xiaoqun was about to speak, but Ma Qingting suddenly jumped out and said with his nose in the air, it's okay for the others to leave, but Qing Menjing can't go. She must stay in the Qishan sect. What the F***ck, are you stupid? Since when did you have the right to interrupt when the adults are talking? Xiaoqun was a little displeased. He rushed over and slapped Ma Qingting, scolding, your father has agreed to let the Qing family go back. Why are you jumping out and sticking your neck out? You. Ma Qingting felt a burning pain on his face. He covered his face and stared at Xiaoqun, speechless for a moment. Ma Dehizi's expression also changed. Anger flashed across his face. He raised his body slightly, and the strength of a half-step demon king disappeared for a moment. Then he sat down again. He wanted to mediate, but he didn't know why his son suddenly flared up, so he could only sit there silently. Xiaoqun glanced at Ma Wuxia, then turned to Ma Lianting and said angrily, tell me clearly, why can't Miss Cheng leave? If you can't explain yourself, I'll slap you to death. Do you believe me? Ma Qingting opened her mouth but actually could not find a reason to refute for a moment. Rolling her eyes, she blurted out, that Qing Menjing has already cultivated our Kuei Mountain sect's mental cultivation method. Then she's considered an official disciple of the sect. Moreover, she had already consumed many treasures from the Kuei Mountain sect, so she had to stay and continue cultivating. This is the rule of the outer martial world. Hearing this, Ma Wuxia was stunned. Since when did the outer martial arts world have such a rule? However, since his son had spoken, he must have his own reasons. Ma Minju couldn't say anything more, so he could only pretend that he didn't hear it. In fact, Ma Qingting's purpose was very simple. He had thoughts about Qing Menjing before. Since the last time he saw Qing Menjing, he had been infatuated with her and thought about her day and night. He had even been thinking about how to force himself on her. However, Qing Menjing was Yao Baoang's fiancée. Due to this relationship, he couldn't blatantly force himself on her, so he could only endure it for now. But now that Yao Baoang was dead, Ma Qingting was determined to make Qing Minjing stay no matter what. He had waited for so long. Now that he finally had the chance to kiss her, how could he let her go? Therefore, when Xiaoqun mentioned this matter, he stood up to oppose it and even made up a reason at the last minute. Are you serious? As the top student of Songning Second Senior High School and the head of the outer martial arts world's demonic sect, how come I've never heard of this rule? You didn't make it up, did you? Xiaoqun frowned and stared at Ma Qingting suspiciously. Oh, Hero Xiaoqun, you've actually just become the head of the demonic sect, so you might not know much about the rules of the outer martial arts world. I'll explain it to you when I have the chance. Although Ma Wuxiao didn't know what his son wanted to do, he had to stand up and help him. Oh, alright then. In that case, I'll make the decision for Miss Chen. As long as you send Grandpa Cheng and Uncle Cheng back safely, she can stay in the Quishan sect for the time being. Xiaoqun pointed at Qing Tianxiu and Qing Zhongming and said lightly. As for Qing Zhongfan and Qing Mingqiang, since they wanted to stay and be dogs, Xiaoqun couldn't be bothered with them. Everyone had their own ambitions anyway. As for the messy rules, Xiaoqun didn't want to argue with them. Ma Qingting was obviously talking nonsense anyway. This kid insisted on keeping Qing Minjing here, so he must have some ulterior motives. Xiaoqun thought to himself, I'd like to see what tricks this kid is playing. No problem, I'll arrange for people to send both of you back to Songning City as soon as possible. Seeing that Xiaoqun had agreed, Ma Wuxiao quickly nodded and gave the order. After the matter was settled, Ma Wuxiao was afraid that Xiaoqun would cause more trouble, so he hurriedly said goodbye and left with Ma Qingting. Until the two of them were far away, Qing Minjing frowned and said, Xiaoqun, who asked you to make the decision for me? I don't want to stay here. That Ma Qingting doesn't look like a good person. He definitely doesn't have any good intentions. Actually, I don't have any good intentions either. Xiaoqun scratched his head and said with a smile. What do you mean? Are you going to do something to me too? The Missy took 2 steps back subconsciously. She covered her chest with both hands and looked at Xiaoqun with a vigilant face. No wonder Xiaoqun agreed so readily just now. Could it be that he also wanted to take the opportunity to do something to me? Cough cough, what are you thinking? I mean, I'm going to let this Ma Qingting fly for another 2 days. After a few days, I'll smack him to death. Xiaoqun shook his head helplessly. The Missy saw that Xiaoqun wasn't interested in her. She didn't know why, but she felt a little disappointed. However, when she heard the latter part of Xiaoqun's words, she began to worry again. You don't always kill people. These people from the Quishan sect are very powerful. Even if you're a powerhouse at the peak of the 2nd level of the Demon King, you're alone. How can you compete with them? Before Xiaoqun could say anything, the first young mistress recalled something and quickly asked, By the way, did you do something to Yao Baoang as well? Sort of. When Yao Baoang went to the Qing family to trouble you guys, I wanted to kill him, but I couldn't find a chance to do it, so I did something to him. If he was a little more obedient, maybe he could live a little longer. Who knew he was so impatient? Xiaoqun shrugged with an indifferent expression. AI. The Missy sighed. She wanted to persuade Xiaoqun not to be too impulsive, but she opened her mouth and didn't say anything. After all, Xiaoqun did these things for her. What else could she say? Minjing, Xiaoqun must have his reasons for doing this. Don't blame him. After your grandfather and I leave, he'll stay by your side to protect you. We'll be relieved. Qing Zhongming also came over to comfort her. He didn't want to leave his daughter alone, but this was the only way. Yeah. Xiaoqun, please take care of Minjing. I don't ask for anything else. I just hope you can find another opportunity to take her away from the Quishan sect. Then I'll be relieved. This is really not a place for people to stay. Qing Tianxiu patted Xiaoqun's shoulder heavily and sighed. I will. Grandpa Cheng, don't worry too much. Xiaoqun smiled and nodded. Now that the Quishan sect needs my help, I'll definitely send you back to Songning safely. If you need any help after you go back, don't hesitate to tell me. I still have some money here. It should be enough to help you revive the Qing family's business. Xiaoqun remembered that when he was in dire straits, Qing Minjing also gave him 20,000 yuan in private. Now that the Qing family was in trouble, he certainly wouldn't stand by and watch them die. No. How can I take your money? Qing Tianxiu quickly waved his hand and said shamefully, I was muddle-headed in the past, so I did so many things that let the Xiao family down. When I go back, I'll go to the Xiao family and personally apologize to your grandfather. I hope he can let go of the past and give the Qing family a way out. Recalling all the despicable means he used on the Xiao family, Qing Tianxiu also regretted it. Now, even if he was asked to become a vassal of the Xiao family, he wouldn't hesitate to do it, let alone apologize. Hee, you're too serious. My grandfather will definitely prepare a banquet and have a good drink with you. Xiao Chen smiled. At this time there was a knock on the door. It turned out that the disciples of the Quishan sect had received the order and came to pick them up. Cheng Qianqiu and Cheng Zhongming simply packed their luggage and gave some instructions to Cheng Minjing before leaving the Quishan sect. After sending her father and grandfather off, Cheng Minjing looked at Xiao Chen with a faint smile and said, "You're really shameless. You can't even protect yourself, but you still vow to protect me. If anything happens to me, let's see how you explain it to my grandfather." Although she said that, Cheng Minjing was very satisfied because she knew that Xiao Chen wasn't someone who would brag. He must have a card up his sleeve. "Don't worry, Missy. I won't let anything happen to you." Xiao Chen didn't explain further and only said solemnly. The reason why Xiao Chen agreed to let Cheng Minjing stay was mainly because he didn't plan to leave immediately. He wanted to see what the Quishan sect was up to by holding this crusade. Since that was the case, it was safer for Cheng Minjing to stay by his side. Moreover, he just noticed that Ma Tianqiu was in the half-step Demon King realm. He was probably the most powerful person in the Quishan sect. Killing this guy should be a piece of cake. Moreover, even if other patriarchs or old monsters of the Quishan sect jumped out, Xiao Chen could use the flying sword to escape with Cheng Minjing immediately, so he wasn't worried at all. Moreover, Xiao Chen really hoped that some mastermind would appear. In his opinion, the Quishan sect was just a small fry. Chapter 858. The two chatted for a while and talked about what happened recently. When they mentioned Jin Beibei and Shinjing Xian, they sighed. They wondered where they were now and how they were doing. They were so close to each other at that time, but now they were far apart and had lost contact. They didn't know when they could reunite again. After Ma Qingting went back, she stayed in her room and felt very depressed. She was slapped by Xiao Chen for no reason and she couldn't fight back. Even if she wanted to fight back, she wasn't strong enough. Moreover, she heard that Cheng Minjing had become Xiao Chen's fiancé again, so she felt even more depressed. "Young master, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so depressed? Which blind person has offended you?" Cheng Zhongfan knocked on the door and walked in, asking with a fawning expression. "It's Xiao Chen, that brat. Today he humiliated me in front of so many people and my father. He even flirted with Cheng Minjing, that B*TC. I really can't take this lying down." Ma Qingting slammed the table and said while gritting his teeth, Does Master Ma turn a blind eye to it? This doesn't seem to be his style?" Cheng Zhongfan was a little surprised. He didn't expect Xiao Chen to be so arrogant and dare to humiliate his son in front of Ma Qingting. "Sigh. My father only has the strength of a half-step Demon King. That Xiao Chen is already at the peak of Demon King level 2. How can he be Xiao Chen's opponent?" Originally, he wanted to cultivate behind closed doors and break through to Demon King level 1 as soon as possible. Who would have thought that the higher-ups would suddenly organize such a crusade, which forcefully delayed his cultivation plan? Ma Qingting sighed and said helplessly. Cheng Zhongfan was stunned. He didn't expect Xiao Chen's strength to be so high that even Ma Qingting couldn't do anything to him. This guy is a freak, right? Ma Qingting suddenly stood up and paced around the room. She couldn't get rid of her resentment. After walking around for a while, he suddenly stopped and fiercely asked, "Cheng Zhongfan, tell me, is there a way to make Xiao Chen be beaten up by me and unable to resist after that?" "Well." Cheng Zhongfan pondered for a while, his eyes rolling, and suddenly thought of an idea. "Young sect master, I heard that our sect has a kind of medicinal pill that can easily destroy other people's cultivation. If you can get this pill and trick Xiao Chen into eating it, then wouldn't he be at your mercy?" "Yeah. Why didn't I think of that? You're more cunning than me." Ma Qingting slapped her thigh and was overjoyed. She immediately sat down, picked up a brush and quickly wrote a note, handing it to Cheng Zhongfan. "Take this note and go to the sect's pharmacy immediately and bring me the medicinal pills. After this matter is done, this young master will definitely reward you handsomely." "No problem, it's my honor to be able to run errands for young sect master." Cheng Zhongfan didn't feel that there was anything wrong with Ma Qingting calling him cunning. He happily took the note and ran towards the pharmacy. Thinking that he could serve young sect master and torture that damn Xiao Chen, he was indescribably happy in his heart. Ma Qingting sat on the chair and shook his head leisurely. In his heart he was thinking about how to trick Xiao Chen into taking the pill. But as he thought about it, his mind suddenly lit up. That's right. Why am I so stubborn? Why must I make Xiao Chen eat the pill? As long as I let Cheng Menjing eat the pill, then wouldn't I be able to push her down? Ma Qingting remembered that Yao Baoang once told him that the Weaver Heart Sutra that Cheng Menjing cultivated had a unique mental cultivation method that required a virgin's body to cultivate. Also, if she had intercourse with someone during the cultivation period, the demonic energy would flow backward and flow into the other party's body, causing the other party's body to explode. Therefore, although Yao Baoang didn't give up his evil intentions, he had no way to forcefully possess her. But now, as long as he abolished Cheng Menjing's cultivation, then wouldn't she become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered? He could easily push her down. Ah! I can even think of such a wonderful method. Looks like I'm really a genius. Ma Qingting seemed to have already seen the scene of him hugging Cheng Menjing and stepping on Xiao Chen. He couldn't help but be complacent and laugh out loud. Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing chatted for a while, and in the blink of an eye, it was dinner time. Xiao Chen wanted to cook something delicious for Missy, but before he could start, a Kuei Mountain sect disciple came and told them that Ma Qingting had already prepared a banquet and invited them to the banquet. Cheng Menjing didn't have a good impression of Ma Qingting and wanted to reject him directly, but Xiao Chen agreed without hesitation. Since this idiot was treating, it would be a waste not to eat. Moreover, he also wanted to ask him something, so after convincing Cheng Menjing, the two followed the disciple to the dining hall. Swordsman Xiao Chen, I'm so sorry. I've been busy preparing for the subjugation assembly for the past 2 days, so I haven't been able to properly entertain you. Today I finally managed to find some time, so I've specially prepared a banquet for you. Just treat it as a welcoming dinner for you. It's just a simple meal, I hope you don't mind. Seeing that the two of them had arrived, Ma Wuxia very enthusiastically extended his hand, wanting to shake Xiao Chen's hand. Oh, it's okay, I forgive you. Xiao Chen ignored Ma Qingting's hand and casually sat down on the main guest seat. Ma Qingting's mouth twitched and he retracted his hand. He pretended to brush off the non-existent dust on his sleeves, and put on a smile as if he didn't mind at all. Xiao Chen glanced at the dishes on the table and said with dissatisfaction, I say, sect leader Ma, even if it's just a simple meal, there's no need to be so crude, right? What the hell is this table full of? Why isn't there even a lobster or abalone, and the meat is pitifully little? How is this the way a big sect treats people? Or do you think I'm easy to bully, so you just casually use the cafeteria's big pot of dishes to entertain me? Swordsman Xiao Chen, please don't say that. These dishes were specially prepared by our chefs. Although there are no expensive dishes, the taste is very delicious. Please have a good taste. Ma Baiju's face stiffened, but he forced a smile and said. As he explained, Ma Qingting cursed in his heart, Damn Xiao Chen, it's fine that you don't respect me, but you actually dare to criticize the dishes that I specially prepared. Do you think the Quishan sect is stationed in the city? I rarely eat seafood, so where am I going to get you lobster and abalone in such a short time? As the Quishan sect was located in a remote mountainous area, transportation was extremely inconvenient, so there was no way to buy seafood. Moreover, because the sect's disciples cultivated for a long time, they rarely ate big fish and meat. Basically, they mainly ate light vegetarian food and occasionally had some meat. Otherwise, when Yao Baoang and the others went to Songning City previously, they wouldn't be like country bumpkins and find everything strange. Hee Hero Xiao Chen, since the dishes aren't to your taste, then you should drink a few more cups. This wine is a good wine brewed by our Quishan sect, and you can't drink it anywhere else. Ma Qingting chimed in from the side, looking very friendly, as if he and Xiao Chen were good brothers who hadn't seen each other for many years. When she heard that her father wanted to invite Xiao Chen to a banquet, Ma Qingting had an idea in her heart, so she pestered him and followed him. Xiao Chen sat lazily in his seat, glanced at the empty cup in front of him and didn't say a word. Seeing this, Ma Qingting specially stepped forward to fill Xiao Chen's cup with wine, then raised her own cup and said, Come, Hero Xiao Chen, I've offended you before and I've done something inappropriate. This cup of wine is my apology. I'll drink first as a sign of respect. After saying that, he drank the wine in the cup in one gulp, revealing the bottom of the cup. Forget it, since you're apologizing so sincerely, then as a hero, I'm too lazy to bother with a little brat like you. Xiao Chen waved his hand casually, picked up the cup and drank it in one gulp. However, as soon as the wine entered his stomach, Xiao Chen felt a burning sensation from his stomach to his brain. It seemed that the alcohol content of this wine wasn't low at all. Hero Xiaochen is really forthright. Qingting admires you. Ma Qingting gave a thumbs up to Xiaochen, then poured him another cup of wine and said with a smile, "The cup just now was to express my apology. And this cup of wine is to welcome Hero Xiaochen, so I'll drink first as a sign of respect." After saying that, he drank the wine with a slurp. Although the wine brewed by the Kuei Mountain sect was very smooth in the mouth, the aftereffect was very strong. Ma Qingting had been drinking since he was a child and was already used to it, so there was nothing wrong with it. Moreover, it was normal for martial artists to drink together, so no one thought that Ma Qingting's action was strange. However, Xiaochen saw that something was wrong. This Ma Qingting usually looked like a black-eyed chicken when he saw him, and now he kept urging him to drink. It was clear that he had bad intentions and wanted to get him drunk. But even so, Xiaochen didn't expose him, nor did he stop drinking. Instead, he followed Ma Qingting's intention and poured cup after cup of wine into his mouth. On one hand, Xiaochen wanted to see what tricks Ma Qingting was playing, so he let him serve him wine. On the other hand, Xiaochen really wanted to ask something. If he didn't use the excuse of being drunk, it would be difficult to ask. He was just worried that he didn't have a reason to pretend to be drunk, and Ma Qingting delivered himself to his door. Of course, Xiaochen wouldn't refuse such a good thing. The two toasted a few times, and before they knew it, they had already drunk more than a caddy of white wine. Xiaochen's face was glowing red, and he and Ma Qingting began to put their arms around each other's shoulders, calling each other brother. The words that came out of their mouths were also running wild. Ma Qingting looked at Ma Qingting and Xiaochen playing together and was a little puzzled. Did her son take the wrong medicine? Why did he keep forcing Xiaochen to drink? She didn't even dare to urge Xiaochen to drink, so what was wrong with this kid? Xiaochen, drink less. Cheng Menjing frowned and said with a displeased face, "Look at you, you don't look like a human after drinking. If you fall on the ground drunk later, I won't have the strength to carry you back to your room." Chapter 859. Missy was also quite puzzled. She remembered that Xiaochen didn't usually drink. Why was he downing one cup after another today without end? That Ma Dragonfly was obviously up to no good. Could he not see it? It's fine, it's fine. If Hero Xiaochen is drunk, I'll just get the servants to help him back later. How can I trouble you to do it? This isn't how we treat our guests. Ma Dragonfly said with a smile, but in his heart, he was thinking, when Xiaochen drinks until he faints, I'll directly take care of you, you little hussy. At that time, let's see who can save you. So this was Ma Dragonfly's intention in making Xiaochen drink. After getting Xiaochen drunk, Cheng Menjing would be at his mercy. Burp. Xiaochen heavily patted Ma Dragonfly's shoulder a few times and sprayed a breath of alcohol on his face. He said with a slurred tongue, Little Dragonfly. You're really considerate. Not only did you take good care of my fiancée, you even provided her with heavenly materials and earthly treasures, allowing her to cultivate. Mises Heart Sutra. I don't even know how to thank you. Hiss. Ma Dragonfly almost suffered an internal injury from the pat and grimaced in pain. At first he was still wondering who Xiaochen's fiancée was. Later he realized that he was referring to Cheng Menjing. He could only smile and say, Of course. Hero Xiaochen's fiancée, that's my sister-in-law. How can I not take good care of her? Sigh. Xiaochen suddenly sighed, his expression a little heavy. He put down the wine cup as if he didn't intend to drink any more, but he was cursing in his heart. You brat, take good care of my ass. I think you want to take care of her to bed, right? Seeing this, Ma Dragonfly was very nervous. He couldn't give up halfway. He hurriedly asked, What's wrong, Hero Xiaochen? Is there something bothering you? Come, don't worry, let's get drunk and forget all our worries. Xiaochen shook his head and said sadly, Back then my father disappeared with the trial team and even implicated the Cheng family. Grandpa Cheng flew into a rage and went to the Xiao family to punish me. That's why I was chased out of the family. If it wasn't for eldest miss taking me in at that time, I would have been tricked to death. Ma Baozha and Ma Qingting looked at each other in surprise. They were a little puzzled. Didn't they have a good chat before? Why did Xiaochen suddenly bring this up? Cheng Menjing was also a little puzzled, but when she thought of the happy days when they lived in the villa, she was a little touched. She looked at Xiaochen with a much gentler gaze. Before the three of them could react, Xiaochen immediately changed the topic and asked, Oh right, I say, little dragonfly. Your Kuei Mountain sect is the #1 demonic sect in the martial arts world outside of the system. I'm sure you're awesome in all aspects, right? You must have a well-informed channel, right? Have you heard of the whereabouts of my father, Xiao Feng? This? Ma Qingting was stunned. She didn't expect Xiao Qin to ask such a question. She was speechless and didn't know how to answer for a moment. Ma Wuzhu was taken aback as well. He gave Ma Dragonfly a look, signaling him not to speak nonsense. Then, with a pained expression, he continued, Hero Xiao Qin, you've overpraised us. Don't be fooled by the fact that our Kuei Mountain sect is big and powerful, but we only have a little influence in the outer martial world. As for the matters of the mortal world, we don't know much. No way? It's understandable if little Dragonfly doesn't know the inside story, but it doesn't make sense that you don't even know about Sect Master Ma. Xiao Qin slammed the table so hard that he almost knocked over the dishes on the table. He looked very displeased. Ma Baozhi was shocked and said with a bitter face, Hero Xiao Qin, we really don't know, Your Excellency? Xiao Qin glared at him. Seeing Ma Baozhi nodding, he roared fiercely, Stop pretending. I heard that it was your Kuei Mountain sect who did it. That's impossible. Ma Baozhi was really shocked this time. He denied flatly, It's definitely not our Kuei Mountain sect. Xiao Qin sneered a few times and turned his head drunkenly towards Cheng Menjing and said, Miss, let's go back. The people of the Kuei Mountain sect are not honest. I guess they're holding that damn crusade just to trick me. Let's not stay here anymore. Cheng Menjing was already a little impatient. She agreed immediately, Yes. I don't think there's anything good in this place. Let's go. Let's go back to Songning. It'll be more relaxing. She got up to help Xiao Qin. Hero Xiao Qin, please wait. Ma Baozhi was shocked. If he let Xiao Qin go, how could he have fun? He quickly stopped Cheng Menjing and came to Xiao Qin's side, wanting to propose a toast to make amends. Xiao Qin glanced at him from the corner of his drunken eyes and said discontentedly, I haven't even stood up, and you're already sending me off. This wine is boring. My heart feels cold when I think about my father's whereabouts and whether he's dead or alive. This is really not something the Kuei Mountain sect would do. Hero Xiao Qin, we can't force a confession out of him, can we? Ma Baozhi was on the verge of tears as he tried to explain. Don't talk nonsense. I have a strong witness. I'll never wrong you. Xiao Qin stood up shakily and said with a face full of dissatisfaction. Forget it. Since you guys are so insincere, there's no need for me to play with you guys anymore. Let's go, eldest miss, let's go back. Ma Baozhi was so anxious that he was almost sweating. He pulled Xiao Qin and said solemnly, Hero Xiao Qin, I swear, this is definitely not the Kuei Mountain sect's doing. Who's your strong witness? Ask him to come out and we can confront each other. What are you talking about? Isn't Qing Zhongfan one of your people? Could it be that he's lying? Xiao Qin waved his hand and retorted subconsciously. Qing Zhongfan? Damn it, he doesn't even know the situation. What nonsense is he spouting? Ma Baozhi's vision darkened. He was so angry that he glared at Ma Yinting. Look at that damn thing you've brought. Don't fool me. Don't tell me he tricked his own sect. Xiao Qin shouted drunkenly. He waved his hand around and almost hit Ma Baozhi. Ma Baozhi really had no choice but to say, Hero Xiao Qin, I swear with my life that it's definitely not the Kuei Mountain sect's doing. As for where your father went, actually, I've only heard some rumors. I haven't confirmed it. I heard that the disciples of Awakening sect seem to have met your father before. As for where he went, I really don't know. That Awakening sect of the inner martial arts world? Xiao Qin still looked drunk on the surface, but in his heart he was full of regret. Damn it. What a blunder. Isn't that Xing chick a disciple of Awakening sect? If I knew earlier that her sect was behind this, I should have found a way to find out about my father's whereabouts when she was injured. If she dared not say it, I'll just rip off her clothes. Let's see if she still won't admit it. In fact, Xiao Qin had already refined all the white wine in his stomach with his vital qi. However, he pretended to talk nonsense so that he could find out about his father's whereabouts. He had already thought about it. He would first talk nonsense for a while to pave the way. Later, even if they had a falling out, he could say that he was drunk and push all the blame away. Now that he had tested him, Xiao Qin could see that Ma Baozhi wasn't lying. What he knew was limited. Otherwise, if he really turned around and left, he would obviously lose more than he gained. Hero Xiao Qin, are you all right? Did you drink too much and feel unwell? Why don't I ask the servants to help you back to your room to rest? Ma Baozhi saw that Xiao Qin sat back down and seemed to have calmed down a little, so he asked carefully. He hated his son to death. Why did he have to drink Xiao Qin's wine for no reason? Now that he was drunk and acting crazy, not only could he not say anything, but he also had to put on a smiling face and accompany him. It was so King frustrating. I'm not drunk, I'm not drunk. Xiao Qin waved his hand in a drunken manner. Since he couldn't get the information he wanted, he felt that there was no need to stay any longer. However, if he left just like that, the purpose of pretending to be drunk would be too obvious. In order not to arouse Ma Baozia's suspicion, Xiao Qin picked up his wine cup again and turned to Ma Dragonfly saying, Come, 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 little dragonfly, fill this hero's cup. This hero is in a good mood tonight, drink a few more cups with me. You must drink to your heart's content. Oh, okay. Ma Dragonfly was also confused by Xiao Chen's actions, but he didn't dare to have any temper. He could only fill Xiao Chen's cup with wine, then he picked up the cup again and drank with him. Burp. I say, the names of you father and son are quite interesting. Xiao Chen shook his head as he drank the wine. He picked up his chopsticks and pointed at Ma Baozia saying, one is a crawling centipede, the other is a flying centipede. That's not right. Little dragonfly, why can't you fly? Looking at Xiao Chen's astonished face, Ma Dragonfly couldn't keep up with his train of thought. After a long time he squeezed out an ah. Xiao Chen swung his legs and pointed at Ma Dragonfly with his chopsticks, saying, Look at your old man, how happy he is crawling on the ground. Hurry up and fly to broaden this hero's horizons. I don't know how to fly. Ma Dragonfly was completely stunned. He didn't think that after Xiao Chen drank too much, he would even joke about his name. He could only use his eyes to ask for help from his father. Ma Baozia had just walked back to his seat and was about to explode when he heard Xiao Chen's words. Why am I crawling on the ground? He almost couldn't tell if Xiao Chen was really drunk, or if he was using the drunkenness to mock him. The furious Ma Baozia directly ignored Ma Dragonfly's pleading look and pretended not to see it. Motherf ***, I can't do anything about this stupid Xiao Chen. You brat, you caused this trouble yourself, so take responsibility for it. Chapter 860. TSK, you're too cowardly. You don't even know how to fly? Today let this hero teach you a lesson. Let's show you off and fly. Xiao Chen shook his head, put down the wine glass in his hand, and slapped Ma Dragonfly's face. Paw. A crisp sound was heard. Ma Dragonfly wailed miserably and was sent flying into the sky. Oh Missy, look. That little dragonfly is flying quite high. Did he go up to the sky to shoot a plane? Xiao Chen squinted his eyes and pointed in the direction where Ma Dragonfly flew and said in surprise. Pfft. Qing Minjing almost couldn't hold back her laughter. But when she heard Xiao Chen say that he shot a plane, she blushed and glared at him. The Xiao Chen is really too much. He never forgets to act like a hooligan no matter what. Ma Dragonfly was speechless. He was so angry that he lost his temper. Not only could he not flare up, but he also scolded in his heart. Who asked you to force Xiao Chen to drink? Now, not only did you let him use the influence of alcohol to ask all sorts of questions without restraint, but you also went up to the sky all day long. Most importantly, I can't even stand up for you. This is so depressing. Ah. Another muffled sound was heard, followed by Ma Dragonfly's scream. He finally fell from the sky. He was dizzy and his face was covered in blood. He lay on the ground for a long time and couldn't get up. Oh, you can still make two sounds? So you're also a double kick. Xiao Chen stood up unsteadily and grabbed Qing Minjing's hand. Missy, we've drunk the wine and set off the firecrackers. Shouldn't we go back and have a beauty sleep? Oh, then let's go. Qing Minjing agreed casually and then glared at Xiao Chen, motioning him to let go of her hand. But Xiao Chen didn't respond at all, as if he was really drunk. Qing Minjing had no choice. She was also afraid that if she left Xiao Chen behind, he would really be drunk. She couldn't do it without someone to help her. She could only let Xiao Chen hold her hand and leave the dining room. Looking at the disappearing figures of the two, Ma Minju gnashed his teeth with hatred, but there was nothing he could do. He could only ask someone to carry his son to recuperate first, and the banquet ended hastily just like that. After stumbling back to the Qing family's courtyard, Xiao Chen immediately released his divine sense and scanned around to make sure that no one was watching him. Then he let out a long breath, stretched, and restored his original appearance. Xiao Chen? Are you okay? Qing Minjing was stunned. Just now Xiao Chen was holding her hand and swaying as he walked. Why did he look much sober now? I'm okay. I was playing with those two fools. Otherwise, how could I find out the whereabouts of my father? Xiao Qin shrugged and said in a clear tone. He didn't continue to speak with a lisp. So you were pretending? I thought you were really drunk. You're too good at pretending. Qing Minjing was a little surprised. She couldn't help but think of the conversation between Xiao Qin and Ma Dragonfly before. Then she realized that he was indeed trying to get information from the other party. Missy was a little emotional. Xiao Qin was really a person who valued friendship and righteousness. Although he usually didn't talk about his father, he would try his best to find out when there was a chance. How can I deceive them if I don't look like it? Xiao Qin scratched his head and said apologetically, I'm sorry. In order to pretend, I held your hand without your consent. You won't be angry, right? Forget it. Seeing that you're trying to find out news about Uncle Xiao, I'll reluctantly forgive you this time. Besides, I'm your fiancé. It's normal for me to hold your hand. Qing Minjing saw that Xiao Qin was sincere in admitting his mistake. She snorted with satisfaction. But to be honest, Missy felt that it felt good when she was held by Xiao Qin's big hand. Since you've said so, then I'll find a chance to hold your hand a few more times in the future. Xiao Qin grinned and walked towards the direction of the room. You wish. I'm in a good mood, so I let you go. You even gave me some sunshine and I'm shining. Qing Minjing glared at him and said with a pout. At this time, Xiao Qin had already sent Qing Minjing to the door of her room. He didn't stay and said with a smile, All right, Missy. It's already very late. You should go back and have a beauty sleep. I should also go back to my room to take a bath. I've drunk so much wine and the smell on my body is too strong. After that, Xiao Qin waved his hand and walked to his room without looking back. Qing Minjing opened her mouth and wanted to say something. In the end, she didn't say anything for a long time. She stomped her feet angrily and pushed the door open. As she walked, she muttered hatefully, Damn Xiao Qin, stinky Xiao Qin. After using this Missy, he ran away faster than a monkey. He didn't even chat with me for a while. I'm so angry. After Ma Qingting was sent back, he quickly woke up. The wounds on his body were basically some superficial wounds. Although they looked serious, he quickly recovered under the doctor's treatment. But although his wounds were healed, Ma Qingting was still scolded by Ma Qingting for a full hour. Ma Qingting was scolded until his face was covered in dirt, and he didn't dare to talk back. After Ma Qingting left, Ma Qingting's face turned from green to white, and he roared fiercely, Damn it! Help me call Qing Zhongfan over. He couldn't wait any longer. Tonight he must take down Qing Minjing. Although he was teased by Xiao Qin for so long and even slapped, at least his goal was achieved. Xiao Qin was already drunk and would definitely fall asleep when he got back. He wouldn't be able to care about Qing Minjing. Thinking that she would be able to push down her goddess tonight, Ma Dragonfly's heart was burning with passion. She finished preparing everything and waited for Qing Zhongfan to arrive. After planning for a while, she saw the moon in the middle of the sky and stealthily made her way to Qing family's side courtyard. After Qing Tianxiu and Qing Zhongming left, only Qing Minjing and Xiao Qin were left in the Qing family's side courtyard. They lived in different rooms. It was already late at night and the whole side courtyard was quiet. There was no sound at all. The two looked at each other and began to prepare according to the previous arrangement. Ma Qingting went directly to the door of Qing Minjing's room, while Qing Zhongfan stood guard nearby to prevent anyone, especially Xiao Qin, from disturbing them. Although Xiao Qin looked drunk, it was better to have a double insurance. Ma Qingting looked around and after confirming that there was no one else, he quietly put some sleeping gas in Qing Minjing's room. Then he stood outside the door and waited patiently for a while. When he estimated that the sleeping gas in the room had almost dispersed, he gently pushed the door open and walked in. Minjing. Qing Minjing. Ma Qingting tiptoed to the bed and looked under the moonlight. He found that it was indeed the sleeping Qing Minjing, so he whispered a few words. Qing Minjing's eyes were tightly shut, as if she didn't hear anything. Ma Qingting gently pushed her twice, and found that she wasn't moving. After confirming that she was unconscious, he took out a small porcelain bottle from his pocket, pulled out the stopper and poured out a black pill. While putting the pill to Qing Minjing's mouth, Ma Qingting excitedly murmured, Hee hee, little hussy, you dare to pretend to be pure in front of me but you pretend again, huh? Who's there? Before he could put the pill into Qing Minjing's mouth, Ma Qingting suddenly felt his shoulder being patted by someone. He was startled and quickly turned his head. But when he turned his head, Ma Qingting found that other than some furniture, there was no other person. He looked around and there was still nothing. While he was puzzled, Ma Qingting felt a chill in his heart. but before he could react, a cold voice suddenly came from behind him. Ma Qingting, you little brat, are you capable now? You actually dare to use such despicable means to deal with my fiancé? A gloomy and horrifying voice said. Fiancé? When Ma Qingting heard the word fiancé, he thought that Yao Boang's corpse had come back to life. He was so scared that his scalp went numb and his legs went weak. He gathered his courage and turned around, but he saw Xiao Qin sitting on the edge of the bed. I wanted to keep you alive for a few more days, but now it seems like there's no need. Xiao Qin sat there with his legs crossed, staring at Ma Qingting expressionlessly. Xiao Qin? You're not drunk? Ma Qingting saw that it wasn't Yao Boang's corpse that came back to his senses. He couldn't help but wonder, that's not right. Why are you here? Did that brat Qing Zhongfan slip away? Actually, Ma Qingting didn't know that although Xiao Qin had been cultivating since he returned to his room, and his room was a little far from Qing Minjing's room, he didn't let his guard down. He released his divine sense to monitor the movement in Qing Minjing's room at all times, just in case something went wrong. When he sensed that someone had sneaked into the room, he immediately rushed over on his flying sword. The flying sword, which was made of meteoric iron, was so fast that it was almost like a shadow, so Qing Zhongfan did not notice him at all. You don't have to worry about this. If you have the time, you might as well think about your last words first. Xiao Qin stood up, channeled his mental cultivation, and revealed his Demon King Level 2 cultivation. He slowly walked toward Ma Qingting with a murderous aura bursting from his body. Don't mess around. Otherwise, my father definitely won't spare you. At that time, you, the Xiao family and the Qing family will all die without a burial place. Feeling the enormous pressure and murderous aura released by Xiao Qin, Ma Qingting broke out in a cold sweat. She kept retreating as she bluffed and threatened. You're done, right? Then you can go and die. Xiao Qin sneered, and the demonic qi on his body suddenly skyrocketed. He raised his hand and slapped at Ma Qingting's chest fiercely, dark flame palm. Ma Qingting didn't think that Xiao Qin actually dared to make a move. Caught off guard, she took a solid hit and flew out with a miserable howl. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.